This guy weighs a solid 2 tons, and this is his face after a quick cosmetic adjustment. Nah, just kidding. That is the aftermath of catching a single punch from the new transfer student. He literally just got here farming pure aura just by breathing. The girls at this school absolutely want him at all costs. Everyone always flocks to the strongest alpha male in the room. That is just basic nature, but I am warning you right now, this story hits differently. You will not see some weak kid getting bullied who magically trains to become overpowered. In this place, the bullies are the ones taking the beating. God might forgive them, but our main guy absolutely does not. It all kicks off with the popular girl filming inside the classroom. Suddenly, a rumor drops the second-year bully just got totally wrecked in the cafeteria by the newbie. The guy spreading the gossip right now is someone high school rank 2. Number 1 calls that pretty impressive for a rookie. Meanwhile, the hot girl begs the boss to look at her camera, mostly because YouTube just launched its platform. Meaning from this day forward, every single school beatdown will be recorded for the world. While they figure out what to do with this wild new transfer, a random henchman is shaking down some nerd for 300,000 kwanzas. The guy probably just wanted to buy a cheap soda. Number 1 suddenly decides they need to capture this newbie before he messes up their hierarchy. But little did he realize the actual wolf just knocked on his door. Literally, even the bully shaking down, the nerd stops to stare. The kid strolling in asks if the school boss is hanging around this room, or at least that is what he heard. The girls in the room immediately blush, going completely crazy and wanting to bungee jump without a rope. The new student asks if he is the boss of this school, but the big guy takes a little too long to answer. The very next second, he gets his face absolutely caved in, dropping to the floor like a heavy sack. The bullied nerd from a minute ago stands there utterly confused. The girl with the massive assets falls in love that exact instant. Rank 2 immediately jumps up, cursing and demanding to know who this kid is. He quickly turns redder than a bell pepper, just running his mouth to figure out what the newbie wants. But the boy simply replies that he transferred to this school today. That makes the angry bell pepper even crazier. He asks if this is a joke and immediately throws a wild punch at him, but he catches the guy's hand with so much raw force that it literally crushes Rank 2's fingers. The transfer student asks if he is the boss, but screaming in pure pain, the guy yells that it is not him at all. He instantly points at Rank 1, crying that the scoundrel over there is the real boss, so hit him instead. Big mistake. Maybe our main character saw a nasty fly on Rank 2's cheek because he immediately slaps him into the next dimension. That dude goes straight to sleep without any dreams. The lineup of nerds who suffer every single day has absolutely zero reaction left after witnessing this. So the new kid walks right up to Rank 1 asking if he is the boss. The guy just contorts his face, about to ask if this newbie lost his mind. But then a punch lands so hard, his nose completely caves inward. His phone goes flying and he nearly falls out of his chair. This only makes him furious, stepping up to fight back with everything. But the new student dodges with total ease, ready to swat another fly. The counterpunch connects so heavily you could probably hear it from your own living room. That hit totally destabilizes him. Yet the newbie follows up, driving his nose in again before jumping to finish the brutal combo. He lands a savage neck kick, sending the poor guy crashing into the window. He only avoids falling out of the second floor because of a lucky iron bar blocking the glass. The bullied nerds are still just standing there in pure disbelief. The school's Rank 1 drops to his knees, completely knocked out cold, not feeling so good anymore. He casually mentions that if he had not crushed these guys, they would have hunted him eventually. So he just decided to settle things up front and leave. He tells the room that if anyone holds a grudge, they know where to find him. Then he shuts the door cleanly, wrapping up his daily aura and ego farming. Dongu, the student who was getting beat down earlier, simply cannot believe what he just witnessed. The girl filming the entire mess blushes, whispering about how handsome he is. Yeah, it is painfully clear our protagonist is going to absolutely crush it here. Later on, Dongu catches up with Kim Doyle, asking if he plans to dismantle the bullies one by one and what that would cost. Doyle just stares blankly, leaving poor Dongu completely confused. Then he explains he has not been back in Korea very long, so he misses the point. Still, if Dongu wants real protection, he has to cough up some cash. Dongu is totally shocked. He argues people normally help just because it is the right thing. He even pulls out the classic, with great power comes great responsibility. He insists since Doyle is strong, protecting the weak is his job. Doyle brushes that nonsense off and asks one simple question: will he pay up or not? If not, he's walking away. Dongu frantically blocks his path, begging the guy to just hear him out. He points out what Doyle did yesterday, pleading that helpless kids like him desperately need a savior right now. He gets pretty choked up, explaining how his friends are suffering every single day. Nobody ever steps in to help, and complaining to teachers is completely useless. It just earns them worse beatings, since standard adult punishments do not work on these psychotic bullies. Dongu admits their daily lives feel like stumbling through pitch-black darkness. But seeing Doyle fight yesterday felt like a massive beam of light cutting through that nightmare. Hand on his chest, he begs one last time. Doyle is the only one strong enough to save them. Doyle completely shuts down the tearful speech, telling him to back off. Donggu looks totally crushed though. Doyle admits he actually gets it. The problem is he desperately needs cash for his own personal issues. Hearing about money hits Donggu straight in the gut. Flashbacks of bullies stealing his cash and laughing at him flood back, making him snap. Why does everything always come down to cash? He genuinely cannot fathom why another teenager would need it that much. Staying totally calm, Doyle asks if he is familiar with real-life assassins. That bizarre question catches Donggu completely off guard. Turns out, his father actually leads Blackhead, literally the biggest global assassin syndicate out there. Doyle was quite literally born into the murder business. Barely processing this insane reveal, Donggu repeats the name in pure shock. Doyle just casually continues explaining how his parents split up a while ago. A random girl eavesdropping nearby perks up at that detail. Since his dad constantly made his mom cry, she dragged him and his little brother straight to Korea without any actual plan. That stunt made his assassin father furious, so he froze all their bank accounts. And that right there is why he needs cold, hard cash. Dropping that massive lore, he casually mentions a job interview at Burger Kim and walks away. Donggu just stands there completely stunned, trying to process this madness. It sounds like a comic book, but the guy sounded so dead serious it has to be true. Making a desperate choice, Donggu shouts after him, offering a clean 50,000 won for every single bully he takes down. Doyle immediately stops. Holding up 5 shaky fingers, Donggu panics, quietly wondering if he should have paid more. Turning right back around, Doyle answers with a single-word deal. Meanwhile, that eavesdropping girl is blushing hard, completely obsessed with his handsome face. Cut to another location where some upper-tier bullies are discussing how a random transfer student destroyed Park Kang-wook. Their boss, Park Ju-hyung, Suman Judo Club captain, questions if this new kid genuinely dropped 3 guys all on his own. His right-hand guy, Park Ju-dong, starts stressing that this could ruin their whole income stream. Back with our duo, Donggu nervously points at the gang, warning they are too visible. Unbothered Doyle points out he came here for a fight anyway. Donggu frantically warns him these guys are completely different beasts from Kang-wook, who was just a fake boss. So here is the hidden truth. The actual terrifying rulers of this school are the Judo twins. Both Park Ju-hyung and Park Ju-dong aim to become national athletes. To keep their official record spotless, they hide behind Kang-wook, using him to bleed money from weaker kids. Donggu openly calls them total vampire trash. Doyle casually asks if he should beat them up too. After a heavy pause, Donggu says yes. Just like that, Doyle accepts the contract. Over in the courtyard, one twin suddenly spots a girl named Seol Mina pointing her phone. He aggressively demands to see exactly what she's recording. Catching her in the act, Ju-hyung orders her to hand over the footage, but she snaps right back, telling him to keep his promise and quit smoking first. Furious, Ju-hyung blows up, screaming about her disrespect, but then he smirks, grossly admitting he will let her attitude slide just because she has a pretty face. A sudden brutal scream cuts him right off. It is Park Ju-dong. Kim Doyle just delivered a devastating kick straight to his head. Mina and her friend gasp, completely shocked to see Doyle. Taking the full impact, Ju-dong instantly drops completely unconscious. Ju-hyung furiously screams, demanding who attacked his brother and why. Then hilariously, he starts shouting at Doyle for having the nerve to be that insanely handsome. But then Ju-hyung just stares, totally thrown off by Doyle's unnatural calmness right before combat. Annoyed that this kid refuses to even look at him, Ju-hyung turns around. He assumes Doyle brought backup, but freezes up, utterly confused by whatever Doyle is watching. Doyle suddenly yells out fake, then he drives a clean punch into his face. That strike is disgustingly heavy, launching the guy across the yard. Seriously, look at this hit. Right then a caption pops up. This is the story of how Doyle became the world's absolute strongest man. Looming over the defeated twin like he officially owns the school, Doyle ruthlessly slams one final heavy strike straight onto the top of his head. Watching this, Mina gets completely lightheaded from pure admiration. She genuinely cannot comprehend how one single human can be this incredibly gorgeous and insanely badass all at once. Right on time, Doyle's phone buzzes with an alert. 50,000 won has officially been deposited. Payment for a completed mission. Thanks to the crazy flyers, Donggu started handing out news of his insane victory, immediately rips through the entire campus. The flyers, boldly titled "Young Kim Doyle Punishes the Judo Twins," go completely viral, leaving crowds of fangirls screaming over his visuals and pure combat skills. That instantly triggers Mina. She starts furiously screaming, asking which random girl dares to stare at a photo of her precious husband. Wrapped up in her own delusional romantic bubble, she shoves her way through the classroom, leaving the other girls completely obsessed with Doyle's photo. Absolutely furious, Mina wonders if everyone has gone insane, then loudly screams, "Everybody stop." Still totally fuming, Mina orders them to rip that flyer down immediately, hurling nasty insults while she completely loses her temper. She tears the flyers from their grip and drops a brutal threat. catch them staring at her husband's picture again, and they are completely dead. She whips around to another student and harshly demands to know if she has one too. Nervously, the terrified girl stammers out a quick no. But Mina just keeps ranting, screaming that these girls actually deserve to die for checking out another woman's man. A ringing phone cuts her meltdown short. It is a flood of texts from Jang Hyun-woo demanding she answer or he is going to thrash every single kid at Suman High School. Staring hard at the screen, she quietly crushes the Doyle flyer tucked behind her back. Meanwhile, Dong-yu briefs Doyle on his next hit. This time, the lucky target is Jang Hyun-woo from Cheongil High. The guy is a massive deal, literally known around the streets as the King of South Seoul. He follows Bae Shichul and holds an executive seat in the 12 Nations. That makes him an insanely dangerous threat. Dong-yu warns Doyle to lock in on Hyun-woo today and absolutely do not underestimate him. Then he breaks down the stats. Hyun-woo is a 3-time amateur boxing champion. His physical build and killer instincts are leagues above any normal street fighter. Dong-yu claims even those judo twins Doyle smashed earlier would not survive 5 minutes against this guy together. Doyle just coldly interrupts, pointing out he beat them anyway, but Dong-yu pushes right back. He warns him to take this seriously because Hyun-woo is famously cruel. Once this guy picks a target, he hunts them down. He tortures people so brutally that dying honestly starts sounding like a solid option. Dong-yu adds a final warning. When Hyun-woo totally snaps, absolutely nobody can predict his next move. So his master plan is just watching from afar and dialing the cops if things go south. But as Dong-yu turns back to keep explaining, Doyle has already vanished. Meanwhile, Jang Hyun-woo is busy cornering Mina and her friend. He angrily shoves the blame onto Mina, yelling that if she just answered her phone, these people would not have gotten hurt. Mina coldly replies they are not her friends. This totally stuns Park Kang-wook, who asks if they used to be close. She bluntly says that loyalty only lasted while he ruled Suman. Now that some new transfer student stole his spot, she has absolutely nothing left to say to him. Park Kang-wook can only call her ruthless. Hyun-woo just bursts out laughing, claiming that is exactly why he cannot ever let his precious princess Mina go. That line catches Mina completely off guard. Then Hyun-woo actually starts begging her to date him just 3 times. She completely ignores him, so he steps in close, promising to show her a great time. But before the creep can finish, a glass bottle comes flying in from nowhere. It moves so insanely fast, it practically teleports. Hyun-woo barely manages to dodge the impact in time. Doyle casually steps into the alley, complaining it is a real shame he missed the first throw. Mina just stares, completely floored by his sudden grand entrance. Hyun-woo scrambles to his feet furiously, demanding to know who this kid is. Doyle keeps it simple. He's the guy who is about to beat him half to death. Mina completely lights up inside, secretly hoping her knight in shining armor came to save her. But Doyle is just noticing this girl keeps appearing everywhere he goes and doubts it is luck. Her intense stare feels seriously weird to him. He starts wondering if she is actually stalking his every move on purpose. He gives a flat warning, try anything shady, and he kills her. Naturally, Mina mistakes his murderous glare for romantic interest and secretly hopes he actually does kill her. Just then, Hyun-woo leaps up and furiously yells at Doyle for butting in. Then Jang Hyun-woo completely loses his mind, demanding how this punk dares to touch Mina. He charges at top speed, throwing his signature flying straight punch right out the gate. That brutal opening move, Park Kang-wook recognizes it instantly. Watching from afar, Dong-yu panics at that insane speed, screaming out that this is way too dangerous for Kim Doyle, but right before the fist connects, Hyun-woo freezes. Some nasty liquid just splashed his face. Completely disgusted, he frantically wonders if Doyle just threw actual acid. That one tiny distraction, it is all Doyle needs to sink a heavy kick right into him. Calmly, he explains that getting rushed really startles him. And when he gets properly startled, he just accidentally spits on people. Hyun-woo absolutely erupts from the burning humiliation. He realizes Doyle literally just spat in his face and screams out, asking if he is a joke. Doyle ignores him, grabbing a heavy chair and smashing him with it. He calls the chair a fake attack, then follows with a brutal uppercut. Hyun-woo goes completely rabid. He calls Doyle an absolute psycho and screams that he will murder him. He charges in throwing savage hooks, but Doyle easily slips past every single swing. Park watches the chaos in pure panic, totally convinced Doyle cannot beat a real professional boxer. But right during that blind assault, Doyle lands a bone-crushing hit into Hyun-woo's ribs. Jo Young-chul suddenly stammers out what? That shocks Park Kang-wook, who thought he was just talking to himself. Meanwhile, Hyun-woo grabs his right side in absolute agony. Get a load of this guy. Doyle casually mentions that right side is not broken yet, and his real target is on the left. Then he drives a sickening punch straight into Hyun-woo's ribs, ripping a massive scream out of him. While Hyun-woo violently gasps for air, Doyle just stands over his broken body as his stunned friends watch. Hyun-woo coughs up blood, desperate for oxygen. Doyle starts reciting the hero speech Dong-yu made him memorize, calling him a terrible bully and warning him never to hurt innocent people. but then he just stops and admits he completely forgot the rest. Dong-gu screams at him, "I told you to memorize the lines," but Doyle just freestyles the ending. He tells Jang Hyun-woo to shut his mouth and stop stirring up garbage. Then comes the real threat, cold as ice. If Hyun-woo ever steps to him again, Doyle will hunt down everyone he loves, rip them to pieces, and save him for last. Mina watches all this with watery eyes. Please, she thinks, do not fight over me. Leaning against the wall, completely starstruck, she curses this brutally competitive world of men. Next day at the gym, Im Young-bum gets one seriously shocking phone call. Someone tells him Jang Hyun-woo got absolutely wrecked by Suman High kids and is sitting in a hospital. Young-bum scoffs. Cowards. He figures those Suman punks jumped him to spark a rebellion, so he decides to handle this personally and crush those little worms. Soon enough, Young-bum shows up at Suman High. He gathers the whole student body, demanding to know if every single person is present. Park Kang-wook stammers out a yes. Get a load of this guy's aura. Kang-wook cannot fathom how someone just a year older feels this terrifying. His raw fighting talent alone made him a legend across East Asia. Young-bum scans the massive crowd. People are missing. He immediately asks where the rest are hiding. Kang-wook nervously explains the situation. Park Seung-yoon and the second years are stuck in the hospital right now because of the pork incident. Young-bum brushes that off completely, and the judo twins, the kid hesitates. Then he quietly mumbles that they are hospitalized too because their testicles literally burst. Young-bum just stares, totally stunned. He asks Kang-wook if this is some kind of sick joke, but the sheer terror on the kid's face sets him off. Young-bum punches his chest hard, yanks his hair, and threatens to beat some sense into him. Kang-wook screams out that he wishes it was a joke, but every single word is the awful truth. Slapping him repeatedly, Young-bum sneers, asking if he thinks this is funny. Finally, Kang-wook breaks and gives up the name behind all this chaos. The new guy. He confesses that Doyle single-handedly took down Park Seung-yoon, the judo twins, and even Jang Hyun-woo. Trembling in pure fear, he admits the transfer student caused every bit of it. That catches Young-bum's interest right away. He demands to know where this boy is. Back in a classroom during club hours, Mina stares at her phone. She is looking at a photo of Doyle thrashing the twins, absolutely thrilled that her own clumsiness led her straight to him. She keeps scrolling through videos, totally mesmerized by his handsome face. Next up is a clip of Doyle eating. He scolds her for acting reckless, demands to know who she was hanging with, and threatens to kill her in private. Mina somehow twists that death threat into a romantic date and feels incredibly giddy. Just then, the teacher announces sign-ups for the film club. The teacher asks who wants to join, and Mina instantly snaps out of her little daydream. She throws her hand up fast, and her friend does the exact same thing. The teacher is completely floored by this sudden burst of popularity. Mina is just as shocked. Everyone in the room is desperate to join up. She cannot believe these massive nerds are trying to squeeze into the school's coolest club. But soon her thoughts drift again, daydreaming about Doyle taking her to the movies. In her head, she is screaming that Doyle belongs to her and everyone else needs to back off. The classroom turns into total chaos as kids fight for spots, fueled completely by Mina's toxic jealousy. Meanwhile, get this. Doyle sits quietly somewhere else trying to gather intel on Mina, the weird girl who keeps stalking him. He asks Dong-gu, who hands over the basics. But that just makes Doyle more paranoid. Since she was never in the Blackhead gang, he genuinely wonders if his own father sent her as a spy. Dong-gu changes the subject and asks which club Doyle picked. He absolutely loses his mind when the answer is the anime club. To him, that room is sacred otaku territory. Dong-gu explodes. He yells that a handsome popular jock like Doyle has absolutely no right invading his last remaining safe space. Right on cue, Kwon rolls up with his crew. Bang aggressively points at Doyle, calling him the guy who crushed the judo twins. Kwon quickly tells Bang to shut up, not wanting to look petty. Kwon steps forward and asks if Doyle is also the punk who battered Jang Hyun-woo. Bang calls Doyle a pork, crazy psycho. Doyle immediately snaps back, pissed that Bang is trashing a food he actually likes. While Kwon and his crew advance, Dong-gu is in the background still whining. He keeps crying about Doyle invading the anime club, shouting that he cannot accept a fake fan who has not even seen the classics. Out of nowhere, Doyle bolts from his seat. Dong-gu panics, thinking he offended him, and quickly offers a club spot, but Doyle is not running away. He is sprinting dead ahead right at Kwon's gang. Bang and Kwon are completely stunned that this guy is charging them solo. Bang figures Doyle wants to seize the initiative, but sneers that a cheap trick will never work on the boss. Kwon admits Doyle is strong. He decides words are useless between real men and throws his guard up. Kwon swings hard. But Doyle slips right past his massive fist with blinding speed. Instead of striking, Doyle keeps charging and runs straight past Kwon. Pissed off, Kwon immediately spins around to chase him down. He looks completely lost trying to figure out Doyle's game plan. Meanwhile, Mina is fully convinced Doyle just joined the elite film club. A guy like him picking the anime club, no chance. Then Doyle suddenly drops right in front of her, making her yelp. The jump scare hits so hard she screams again. Doyle demands to know who she is and why she keeps following him. He asks if his dad sent her to spy on him. Mina completely misreads the room and somehow thinks he's talking about starting a family. Meanwhile, Quan is absolutely furious that Doyle just ignored his attack and bolted. Doyle coldly tells Mina let his father know he is never going back. Right then, Quan comes charging in, calling Doyle a worm. Quan swings a kick straight for his head. Dongu shouts out, desperately trying to warn him. Doyle grabs Mina, spinning her low to the ground and dodging the kick in one impossibly smooth move. Mina looks weirdly happy to be tangled up in this mess. Quan yells at Doyle to stop dodging and just die. Done with Mina, Doyle turns back to Quan, who barks that his chance to run is gone. Doyle just mocks him, calling it nonsense and treating the guy like a literal bug. Quan launches a furious flurry of punches, but Doyle handles it with ease, effortlessly slipping past every single hit. Doyle is about to hit back when Wan Suman Hai's head of student affairs steps right in and stops the fight. He barks at them, "Why are students from another school gathering here?" Quan clicks, his tongue clearly irritated. To him, adults always show up at the absolute worst times and ruin everything. He glares at Doyle. This isn't over. He promises they will finish this after school. He starts leaving with his crew, but as Quan turns his back, Doyle rushes in and viciously smashes an elbow into the back of his head. Dead silence. No one expected Doyle to strike right in front of student affairs. Doyle just glares, calling him a curse that ruins absolutely everything. Quan stands there in pure shock, unable to process that Doyle actually hit him in front of everyone. The entire place is stunned, especially Bang, who watches in absolute horror. Dongu realizes Doyle just crossed a massive line by blindsiding another school's leader. Hurting an Ilgang student means the transfer student is basically a dead man walking. Absolutely terrified, he wonders what happens next. Doyle just took out their leader before even dealing with the rest of the crew. Elsewhere, the real fallout is already brewing as someone sits tied to a chair. A massive tattooed man and a woman torture him with boiling water, mocking his agonizing screams. The big guy curses out his own crew, furious. They betrayed him after everything he did. Then he steps up to the tied-up guy with a lit cigarette, reminding him of a certain promise. If he got caught, he would rip his eyes out. Right then, his phone rings. Annoyed by the interruption, he answers it only to hear that Quan just got beaten down over at Suman High. The guy calling is Ham Ilgang, High's number 2. Back at school, Dongu tries explaining the 12 national delinquents to Doyle, a dangerous group of 12 top-tier troublemakers from across the entire country. Doyle just brushes it off as kid stuff. Why is everyone making a massive deal out of this when he is already annoyed about cleaning bathrooms? Dongu keeps scolding him. It is completely insane that a brand new transfer student already earned a full week of cleaning the second-floor bathroom. Doyle tells him to get lost. Dongu snaps, warning Doyle that he has no clue how serious this is. He messed with the national delinquents, and now the first police squad is officially coming for them. Worse than the squad is someone named Jin Sung-il. Dongu stresses this wasn't supposed to happen, and that squad will definitely come back swinging. Doyle just mocks the threat. How are they scary if they haven't even cut anyone apart yet? He reminds Dongu this whole mess started because of the job he gave him, and now it is just a massive pain. Doyle says he is completely done with this. He would much rather work a part-time job. Dongu tries to change his mind. The pay is better than anywhere else, and it even includes severance. Doyle just tells him to leave again. Dongu is completely stunned that Doyle would brush him off like that after all his worrying. Frustrated, he finally just walks away. Down the street, an older guy suddenly stops him, smacks his head, and scolds him for not saying hello. And here is where the mindset shifts. When Dongu glares back, the man threatens to kill him, but internally, Dongu knows Doyle will handle anyone who pushes too far. So he instantly switches tones, laughing it off and claiming he was just joking around with a friend. Dongu keeps walking quietly, thinking about the last few peaceful days. The students were genuinely enjoying themselves, even planning to hit the snack shop together for the first time in forever, talking about chairs without pins and wearing gym clothes without fear. But Dongu knows that calm is over. Reality is back. Suddenly, someone throws a heavy arm over his shoulder, asking if he knows the guy spotted at the gate earlier. Dongu freezes up in pure panic. Meanwhile, the guy beside him just smiles like it is some joke. Juan is still absolutely furious. His neck aches. He keeps wondering where Doyle ran off to, which just pushes him closer to the edge. Later on, they pin a terrified Dongu to the pavement. He is completely surrounded. He swears he has zero clue where Doyle went. They do not buy a single word. The main character kicks him hard, glasses flying straight off. He threatens to crack his skull, demanding he call Doyle. Clutching his bleeding nose, Dongu pulls out his phone with shaking hands. But instead of Doyle, he tries dialing 112. The guys catch on instantly. They start stomping and beating him without mercy, laughing that the cops will never save him now. The brutal beatdown continues. They mock him for acting like some useless fake cop. Meanwhile, Doyle sits in a burger joint for a job interview. The owner notices his absolute lack of part-time experience. He stares at this bizarre resume. Under skills, Doyle actually listed hand-to-hand combat. His hobby weapon care. Doyle even added that his special talent is throwing certificates around. Staring at the paper, the owner asks why anyone would list throwing certificates as an actual skill. Under his breath, he figures Doyle has to be totally crazy despite looking decent. He tells Doyle the resume is wild, but this is a burger place. They do not need a guy whose big talent is throwing papers. Right then, two huge men walk in. The owner instantly recognizes them as local troublemakers. With a heavy sigh, he turns Doyle down, saying this job just is not for him. He politely offers a free burger for later, but one of the men immediately starts screaming, claiming their food gives him awful stomach pain. He flashes a photo on his phone, loudly claiming he found a cockroach in his lettuce. A nearby customer starts getting pretty nervous about their own meal. Calmly, the owner points out that the black spot is just an olive. The big guy keeps making a huge scene. Exhausted, the owner asks why he always pulls this exact stunt. The man jokes that eating here makes him lose weight, basically like being on a diet. Completely tired of it, the owner agrees to settle things in the back. Then he calls over his employee Solji. He tells her to grab 300,000 won out of the register while he leads the angry guy away. The guy suddenly starts shouting about assault. He threatens to report the owner for putting hands on a minor. Doyle deliberately brushes shoulders with the guy. He acts totally startled, like he has no clue what is even going on. Back in the alley, Dongu's attackers decide he and Doyle cannot actually be close. Dongu does not even have his phone number. Gong Bum is absolutely furious. Doyle somehow managed to slip away even though he was guarding the main gate the whole time. Looking down at Dongu bleeding on the pavement, they decide to just walk away. They leave him there completely unconscious. Meanwhile, Im Jung-chan, the number 2 guy at Ilgong High, asks if the collection team was properly trained. Choi Ho-chang, ranked 5th, mentions the collection amount goes up to 50 starting today. He ordered them to bring food for the boys, and Im Jong-chan agrees that makes perfect sense. Jong-chan suggests they sweep the area once before heading back. Right then, he and Doyle walk past each other. Neither one even notices. Stepping inside the burger joint, they find those 2 loud troublemakers scattered on the floor, bleeding and knocked out cold. Smirking, Jong-chan wonders exactly who would be bold enough to do that. Inside, the staff and customers are completely stunned. They try to figure out how someone just tossed those huge guys around like they were throwing French fries. Listening to the crowd, Jong-chan figures the mysterious attacker definitely was not restaurant staff. He wonders if it was a guy from the Sodong crew. Pausing briefly, Jong-chan barks an order, grab the student who just walked out wearing a Suman High uniform. He yells at them to move right now. Outside, Doyle walks along, stressing over this month's living expenses. Suddenly, Dongu appears right in front of him. He is totally out of breath. His face is completely covered in purple bruises. Hesitantly, Dongu explains he heard about a part-time interview today, showing up just in case. Even beaten up, Dongu smiles, just relieved Doyle is okay. Doyle shoots him a really hard look, asking where he got into yet another fight. Right then, Jongshan's men come sprinting after Doyle. One of them loudly complains about how fast he walks. Choi Ho-chang steps right up, announcing he is from Ilgong High School. He aggressively tells Doyle to come here for a second. He crooks a finger, mocking him for ignoring the call, but Doyle does not bite. Instead, he calmly asks Dongu if that 50,000 won offer is still valid. Dongu gives a weak smile and jokes back. Does he want severance pay too? That response sets Choi Ho-chang off. He calls Doyle a skinny punk and snaps, demanding to know if he ever actually listens. He decides a quick beating will make Doyle pay attention, but before he can even flinch, Doyle launches his drink cup straight into his face. He grabs his arm, violently slamming him into the pavement. Choi Ho-chang cries out in pure agony as Doyle just keeps going. He pins him down, hammering him with brutal, rapid-fire punches. His friends can only stare in absolute horror as Doyle beats him senseless. When Doyle finally stops, he takes a breath and walks off. He leaves those other 2 frozen, way too terrified to even move. He stops right in front of Donji, asking one more time about that performance bonus. A little later, Doyle and Donji sit down for food. Dongi digs into this special noodle dish, calling it an absolute legendary masterpiece. He swears no normal restaurant could ever beat that crazy price. He asks for Doyle's take on it. Doyle mentions it needs some fried pork, and Donji yells back that those 2 absolutely do not mix. Doyle just ignores that and gets right back to business. He asks exactly how much this performance bonus is going to be. Totally flustered, Donji stammers out that he needs some time to think. So Doyle just drops his own price, 5 million won. Dongi completely spits out his food in shock. Then Doyle adds one final condition: the entire job has to be wrapped up in just a week. The job wiping out the entire Ilgyang High School gang. Dongi just bursts out laughing, acting like Doyle pitched the dumbest idea in history. When asked why he even needs that much cash, Doyle reminds him his dad froze every single one of his bank accounts. Dongi quickly brushes that off. He asks if the Blackhead group is involved again, then basically blames Doyle for his own miserable living situation. Doyle fires right back, scolding Dongji for being so filthy rich but still letting people beat him up all the time. He tells him to just transfer to some fancy private school without bullies. He asks if his parents seriously say nothing about all those heavy bruises. Dongji quietly answers that his parents are not even in Korea right now. Doyle tells him to stop taking beatings and grinning like a total idiot afterward. That is exactly why everyone keeps taking advantage of him. Finishing his meal, Doyle drops a quick thanks and announces he is heading out. This completely catches Dongji off guard. As Doyle walks away, Dongji waves and tells him to get home safe. On the walk back, Doyle is honestly shocked to bump into Mina again, wondering why this girl just keeps popping up everywhere. She just takes it as a lucky break. Meanwhile, Im Jong-chan stands right over his heavily injured men's fists, tightly clenched in pure rage. He barks out an angry order, call up Park Kang-wook right this second. Then he screams the guy's name at the absolute top of his lungs. Over at his own house, Park Kang-wook is just yelling in his bathroom, wondering why everyone keeps dragging him into this mess. Ilgyang High is one of Seoul's 3 worst delinquent schools, easily controlling the entire southwest area. Most of these kids either have juvenile records or are just massive troublemakers. The place is so completely unhinged that the students even set up their own smoking room. Even the teachers are totally crooked, happily taking bribes and just looking the other way while these teenagers break the law. There are even rumors flying around that the principal himself used to be a gangster. But the biggest threat here is the 12 Nations gang and their boss Bae Cheol. This guy used raw brute force to unite every single fractured group in the school. Pay attention to how twisted this gets. Now he makes heavy cash through the school using highly illegal rackets, stolen motorcycles, insurance, scams, extortion, threatening local businesses, and worse. People say Bae Cheol is so intensely brutal that he might have actually killed someone before. Meanwhile, Dongji walks with Doyle in total panic, genuinely wondering if Doyle understands they are marching straight into serious danger. He asks where Doyle even found those deeply weird masks. Doyle just shoots right back, demanding to know why Dongji brought a weapon. Staying calm, Doyle mentions his bullets are just rubber. Then he drops a pretty strange tip. Your body is basically a resource you use up, so you better take care of it. Right after that deep advice, he reminds Dongji about his 5 million won bonus, and Dongji just screams at him to quit spouting nonsense. Dongji practically begs him to turn around. He says Ilgyang is so terrible that even the local cops joke about the crazy amount of reports coming from there. Doyle casually replies that only makes it better, which honestly just confuses and terrifies Dongji even more. Reaching the school, Doyle marches right up to some random student. He bluntly asks if he is Bae Cheol, completely stunning everyone standing around. The kid spots his Suman school uniform and cannot believe this guy is actually insane enough to drop their leader's name so casually. Without even waiting for an answer, Doyle shoots the kid right in the leg. He follows up with a rubber bullet to the head, dropping him instantly. The other student completely freezes, angrily demanding to know exactly who this absolute lunatic is. Doyle stays perfectly silent. When the kid furiously rushes in, Doyle casually blocks him with his leg and blasts the guy's foot with his rifle. Then he viciously smashes the rifle down into the student's shoulder. The bone breaks, leaving the kid screaming in pure agony. Overpowering him, Doyle grabs the kid tight, aims the rifle right at his head, and firmly orders him to bring Bae Cheol out. Somewhere else inside, Im Yong-bum is still pretty dizzy from Doyle's earlier hit, cursing him out as a sneaky coward. He swears if today was not collection day, he would definitely be hunting Doyle down already. Suddenly, heavy gunshots echo nearby. Here we go. A frantic student sprints up, screaming that something is going terribly wrong. Yong-bum quickly asks if the leader finally showed up, but the breathless student yells out that the crazy bastard from Suman school they fought yesterday has officially returned. Meanwhile, Im Jong-chan receives a sudden phone call from one of his guys, but all he hears is pure panic nonsense about some spy and a weapon. Jong-chan quickly loses his patience, screaming at the guy to spit it out clearly. Park Kang-wook desperately keeps telling himself this drama has absolutely nothing to do with him. Meanwhile, Doyle just tears right through the school, leaving Jong-chan's men battered all over the floors. Down a hallway, Doyle corners some random girl and bluntly asks if she is Bae Cheol. She screams out no, and Dongui frantically tells him Bao is actually a guy. Doyle just shoots him a deadpan look. Yeah, he probably should have mentioned that a little sooner. Right then, a juice box comes flying at his head from behind. He dodges it without even looking. The whole student body immediately labels him totally insane. Then Yongbum rolls up with his crew staring at the absolute chaos. He has no idea who this Duel guy even is. He shouts at Duel, asking if he completely lost his mind walking straight into enemy territory like this. Students start closing in from every single side. Duel tries firing back, but his rubber bullets are completely gone. So he drops the rifle and prepares to throw hands. Im Yongbum curses at Kim Duel, calling him completely crazy and asking if he has some kind of death wish. Yongbum charges in with a massive punch. Duel blocks it easily, casually slipping one hand inside his jacket like he is about to pull a weapon right out. That makes Yongbum totally freeze up for a second. What kind of trick is this? Duel flatly tells him it was just a fake-out. Then he drives a brutal kick straight into his stomach. Meanwhile, over in the Ilgang High School annex, things are tense. A new teacher named Ha Jungju watches the chaos unfold and says they need to call the cops. Another teacher tells her to stay out of student business. She needs to remember the principal's orders. Even so, he admits he has never seen things get quite this bad, not even during the Beichul incident. Suddenly, the security camera feed just goes totally dead. A moment later, their phones lose signal too. Both teachers are left seriously worried about what is happening outside. Now check out this guy. Elsewhere in the gym, a massive student casually lifts 200 kilos. Everyone else watches in pure fear. After finishing his set, he downs a protein shake and asks what the big deal is. One follower says all executives are ordered back to the school within exactly 20 minutes. He asks why. They tell him a spy broke in. This absolute unit is Park Jinu, the Ilgang High number 3. The story flashes right back to the past. People always told Yongbum he had a special gift, a born fighter. They called his fist heaven sent after he utterly crushed a whole group of older students all by himself. Yongbum absolutely refused to live like everyone else. He could never hide his intense hatred when looking down at people he considered totally beneath him. Back in the present, he faces Duel but still cannot land a single solid hit. Duel uses his longer reach to easily keep him out of range. Even so, Yongbum keeps desperately trying to get in close. He hopes Duel won't be able to dodge forever. He throws a straight punch. Duel slips past it in an absolute flash. Then Duel answers with a brutal strike that immediately drops Yongbum hard to the floor. Just a completely crushing loss. Yongbum tries to get up, but Duel gives him zero time, aiming a savage kick straight at his face. Somehow, Yongbum barely manages to avoid it. Angry and completely shaken, he wonders who this absolute monster coming out of nowhere actually is. He has never heard the name before, but he definitely remembers Duel blasting a soccer ball at him with total full force. That is when Yongbum realizes in pure horror Duel really meant to kill him with that kick. Kim Duel praises his quick reflexes. Then he coldly admits he was actually aiming to finish him off. He adds that begging is totally useless now that the fight started. Yongbum's end is already set. Duel decides to break his legs first so he won't be walking for a while. Yongbum furiously snaps back, asking why some random nobody is talking so much trash. Now completely furious, he demands to know if Duel even understands who he is. He calls him worthless garbage and attacks again. He just keeps ranting about Duel acting cocky right on his home turf. Yongbum keeps desperately swinging. Duel easily avoids every blow, then violently smashes him in the face before he can even react. After that comes a brutal barrage of fast, incredibly heavy punches. One final hard shot to the face sends him crashing right back to the ground. Yongbum pushes himself up, coughing up blood. Duel coldly mocks him for being nothing more than a high school kid. Going crazy, Yongbum screams at his followers for just standing there. He orders them to grab Duel right away, but absolutely none of them move. They are way too scared to step in. Meanwhile, over at Suman High School, Im Jong-chan keeps trying to call someone. Nobody around him is picking up the phone. Suman students whisper nervously after spotting rival Ilgang students, including Im Jong-chan, inside their own school. Then one steps in. He is the strict teacher at Suman, and he demands to know why they keep sneaking onto the campus. He sternly tells them to come over to him. They completely ignore his orders and just start walking off. Annoyed at being so easily brushed off, one calls them disrespectful. Jong-chan stops and calmly turns back toward the teacher. One asks what their major problem is and why they keep entering other schools. But without any warning, Jong-chan pulls out a knife and stabs one right in the stomach. This kid is completely unhinged. He glares, warning that one better know exactly who he is dealing with before trying to act like a teacher. One freezes up, unable to speak. He is completely shocked and terrified by what just happened. Then Jong-chan violently shoves him down to the floor. He sarcastically asks if the guy actually wants to die. Jong-chan calmly walks over to one of his own men. He places the bloody knife in his hand like nothing even happened, while one just keeps bleeding in stunned silence. Elsewhere, Im Jong-chan aggressively confronts one of his own men. He loudly accuses him of stabbing one. He orders them to grab every student's phone, search everyone, and then turn themselves over to team leader Park Chong-sik at the Southern Police Station. He coldly promises their sentence will stay under 2 years and 6 months. The terrified guys actually obey. Then Jong-chan and his crew just walk away. Back over to Duel, he totally mocks the badly beaten Jong Byum. He warns him to handle his rehab right unless he wants a wheelchair forever. Jong Byum laughs back in total defiance, which annoys Duel enough to threaten his other wrist. Still crushed on the ground, Jong Byum warns Kim Duel he is in massive trouble. He asks if he realizes exactly how dangerous their actual leader is. Duel ignores the threat completely. He casually asks if this leader is Bae Cheol. Jong Byum insists Duel is totally going to die for this. Duel just brushes it off as absolute nonsense and demands Beichiel's location one more time. Right then, someone shouts Duel's name and launches a heavy kick. It is Park Jinggu, the school's number 3, demanding to know who ruined his friend's training. Donggu watches in pure horror. That kick to the head was totally lethal, but Duel somehow managed to block it effortlessly with just his arm. He asks this new attacker the exact same question. Are you Beichiel? Zhangbiam actually says yes, but Donggu immediately yells that the guy is obviously lying. Suddenly, the scene shifts to Busan on a rainy night. 3 guys hang completely upside down, dripping blood and showing heavy signs of torture. One is Gong Gapcha, the absolute number 4 of the Norium group. Someone hands their leader a cell phone, and a voice on the line demands to know exactly who did this. The answer is Kim Duel. That caller is Beichiel, leader of the 12 nations. Back at school, Duel grabs cleaning supplies and violently attacks Jinggu, spraying glass cleaner into his eyes. Jinggu swings incredibly hard, but Duel easily dodges. He just smacks him right across the face with a dirty cleaning rag. Jingu's men stare in shock. Honestly, watching your powerhouse leader get severely beaten with simple janitor tools is genuinely hard to process. Jingu yells that Duel is a total coward for fighting dirty. Duel simply dodges another huge incoming punch, and the massive impact completely shatters a metal locker. Furious, Jingu compares him to an annoying mosquito refusing to hold still. He remains sure one solid hit will end it. During the clash, Park Jinggu desperately tries figuring out what weird weapon Duel is wielding against him. This stranger's completely messy fighting style only makes Jinggu madder. Cursing Duel as a damn mosquito, he aggressively swears to crush him. Duel grabs a chair as a makeshift shield, spraying cleaner right into Jingu's face again. Jingu screams out as the harsh fluid burns its way into his nose. Duel exploits the opening, cracking him incredibly hard across the head. Absolutely furious, Jingu names him the king of cowards, swearing zero forgiveness. Then he actually brags about all the rich protein he consumed building his body. Claiming a cheap trick like that will never bring him down, he angrily demands if Duel really thinks he is just some easy prey. Duel answers by throwing his shirt into Jingu's face for a solid distraction, then directly blasts him with a brutal kick to the jaw. Jingu crashes hard to the floor. Despite the serious pain, he slowly tries rising, constantly cursing Duel's name. Then he looks up, finding Duel charging straight at him. Chucking another shirt right over Jingu's face, Duel beats him down without a single drop of mercy. Jingu's followers can only stand by, totally shocked and terrified. The fight ends. Duel stands calmly, announcing Act 1 is finished. But wait for this. He walks over to the confused men, confidently declaring they caught Beichiel. Jingu's followers stand completely terrified. They have only ever seen their leader look this incredibly helpless against the captain. Meanwhile, Donggu keeps frantically yelling that the bruised guy on the ground is not Beichiel. Duel demands 500,000 won in physical cash from Donggu, strongly refusing any bank transfers. Ignoring the loud protests, Duel insists Jingu claim the Beichiel title so the cash counts. Grabbing his weapon, he casually leaves. Jingu's followers absolutely refuse to move an inch, far too scared that Duel might suddenly return. Hours later, Zhangqian and his crew return to the school, discovering his badly beaten followers scattered all over the floor. Zhangqian simply burns with absolute rage, completely embarrassed on his very own school grounds. The next day is Saturday, and the anime club actually gathers. Donggu chats with another member who is completely stunned hearing that teacher Duchiel was unexpectedly hospitalized. The student explains how Zhongshan from Iliang's school randomly showed up, tearing the whole place apart while desperately searching for Duel. Duel, busy eating a standard school meal, casually brushes it off. Zhongshan is just one of Beichiel's minor underlings. With the big boss caught, the rest of them will not dare return. Donggu just snaps. He furiously repeats they definitely never caught Beichiel. Then he intensely glares at Duel, demanding to know how he scored a school meal on a weekend. Duel claims he found it sitting inside the teacher's cafeteria. This only makes Donggu vastly madder, since that premium food is exclusively for the teachers on active duty. Donggu insists this entire massive mess is their fault for challenging Iliang's school, fully admitting they never should have messed with those violent guys. Another club member totally agrees. He highly suggests visiting teacher Duchiel at the hospital since they carry some blame, then directly asks Duel to tag along too. Duel flatly says no. Donggu argues Duel must go because this whole disaster might literally be because of them. He even drops guilt and weak excuses, claiming he feels too scared walking around completely alone lately. Right on cue, Seol Mina pops into the room and cheerfully announces she is tagging along too. Donggu just stares in total shock, wondering what a girl like her is doing in a nerd club instead of the film club. But Mina completely ignores him, happily running over to greet Doyle. She claims she joined the anime club just because she suddenly felt like watching anime. As she rambles on about how meeting Doyle here has to be pure destiny, he completely catches her off guard. He presses his toy gun against her head, declaring he will forge his own fate. Donggu immediately lights up at the sight of the weapon, recognizing it as a Glock G26, and begs to touch it. Doyle demands 2,001 per touch, prompting Donggu to start screaming at everyone, especially Mina, not to line up for the gun. Over at the hospital, teacher Wang Doshul hears from his wife that the injury is not critical, but he still needs rest. Doshul flatly refuses. With midterms fast approaching, he brushes the injury off as no big deal. He firmly states he is returning to work next week. His wife instantly scolds him for being so unbelievably stubborn, asking if he thinks he is still a young man. She plainly tells him he is absolutely not fine. Donggu and Mina walk down the hospital hallway together, and Mina asks where Doyle went. Clearly annoyed, Donggu snaps that he has no clue. Doyle flat out refused to come because the teacher once punished him with cleaning duty. Suddenly, Doyle climbs right in through the open window, making Donggu scream that they are on the 3rd floor. Mina instantly demands to know where Doyle has been, complaining that visiting the hospital is completely pointless without him. Fed up, Donggu tells her to just leave if she will not stick around. After bickering for a bit, Mina stubbornly refuses to just go home after coming all this way. Donggu reaches the teacher's room and reaches for the door handle, but he freezes the second he sees Doshul's wife holding his hand. She reminds him they have been married for 20 years, and she knows him perfectly, begging him to stop bottling everything up before it destroys him completely. Elsewhere in the hospital, Doyle is making his way down the hall to visit Doshul. On his way, he remembers Doshul punishing him with 2 weeks of cleaning the 2nd floor bathroom. But afterward, the teacher stopped him and asked if he lived with his mom and little brother. Doyle also recalls Doshul sternly warning him to stay out of trouble since he was now the man of the house. The teacher even handed over his personal phone number, telling Doyle to call him if he ever needed help from a real adult. Doshul told Doyle to stand up perfectly straight, reminding him that absolutely everyone acts reckless at that age. He also ordered him to live with real pride and never do anything shameful because a man's pride is everything. Hit with a wave of guilt, Doyle realizes this entire mess started because of him. He decides to just leave the drinks behind and slip away quietly. But as he nears Doshul's room, he finds Donggu and Mina standing outside in complete silence. Inside the room, teacher Wang Doshul is sobbing hard, totally crushed by humiliation. He blames himself for failing as a teacher and the head of discipline. He was supposed to protect his students, not get utterly humiliated right in front of them. Donggu and Mina listen closely from the hallway as Doshul completely breaks down in shame. He wonders how he can ever face his students after being humiliated by a kid as young as his own son. To him, facing their eyes again feels totally impossible. He claims he is no longer fit to be a teacher. Doshul keeps sobbing, totally unable to make any excuse for what actually happened. Meanwhile, Im Zhongshan kneels before his long-haired leader Bei Chan, confessing that a single guy wrecked the entire school. He admits he has zero excuses. Calling it a totally unforgivable failure, he desperately begs for just one more chance to catch the attacker. Bei Chan coldly turns him down, stating Zhongshan completely failed to understand his order. If he truly wanted to make up for it, Bei Chan notes he would have already dragged Kim Doyle in. Then Bei Chan states that it is finally time for Zhongshan to pay for his massive mistake. Zhongshan accepts, immediately swearing he will take whatever punishment comes next. Bei Chan demands 10 million won in a week, plus Zhongshan's left earlobe. Amazingly, Zhongshan agrees without a second of hesitation. Confirming the intruder was Kim Doyle, Bei Chan issues a final order, bring Doyle to him within 3 days. Now watch this. Later at an arcade, Doyle casually plays a shooting game while Donggu just watches. Doyle mocks him for smiling even when he gets hit, saying that is exactly why everyone treats him like a total fool. He brings up their first meeting at the convenience store, reminding Donggu of his warning he would die if he didn't walk away. Donggu tries to explain that he doesn't get beaten just because he is stupid. It is because he wasn't always someone people pushed around. He remembers bullies stealing his money and brutally laughing at him for snitching to the teachers. After getting beat down every single day, he admits he might have actually turned into a fool. Meanwhile, Doyle stays glued to his arcade game, barely listening to a word of it. Mina, who is also hanging around, tells Donggu to move aside since she and Doyle are on a romantic date. Unfazed, Doyle quickly tells her to get lost too. Donggu feels absolutely fed up. He finally explodes in anger, shouting about how they can just be playing around at a serious time like this, especially while Mina blindly cheers Doyle on. Donggu remembers begging Doyle before reminding him of his insane strength and pleading for help only to get shut down ice cold. Right then and there, he officially gives up on ever-changing Doyle's mind. Donggu grabs his things and announces he is out of here. He refuses to listen to Doyle complain about cash for another second. He walks away while Doyle shouts his name. Donggu actually wonders if his little trick just worked. Doyle yells out that he grabbed Donggu's lunchbox, the one packed with his favorite special fried pork. Donggu snatches it right back. He paid for it, so it belongs to him now. Later that rainy night, Im Zhongshan and his crew are violently interrogating Park Kangwook. They know Kim Doyle's lackey is buying an apartment in this complex. They want the exact building and unit number immediately. Kangwook panics and swears he has no clue. Cho Ho Chang explodes in anger. Kang-wook desperately explains he tried calling him multiple times with zero answer, so he genuinely does not know. He starts crying over his terrible luck. He complains about constantly getting dragged into dangerous messes that have absolutely nothing to do with him. Cho Ho-chang punches him hard. He curses Kang-wook out for being stupid. If the guy is ignoring calls, he should have tracked down the younger kids nearby instead. The gang instantly swarms him, delivering a completely merciless beating. With every brutal punch landing, Park Kang-wook just wonders what he actually did to deserve this. A crowd starts forming to watch the violence. One gang member violently screams at a woman, "Mind your own business and keep walking." Cho Ho-chang grabs Park Kang-wook entirely by the hair. He gives him exactly 1 hour to bring Doyle here or he is dead. Why does he have to die for Doyle? He frantically begs the crowd to call the cops. But watch how the tension spikes right here. Dong-gu suddenly walks up carrying an umbrella. Park Kang-wook spots him instantly. He points a shaking finger, calling him Kim Doyle's loyal follower. He screams Dong-gu's name over and over, calling him Doyle's personal servant and slave. Over in a dark alley, Cho Ho-chang warns Jong Chan that Dong-gu refuses to cooperate. He asks for the next move. Hitting this kid any harder might just knock him completely cold. Jong Chan steps right up to Dong-gu. He is furious that these weak little nobodies are making his life so difficult. He asks if Dong-gu seriously does not recognize them. The vicious rumors should be all over school by now, especially after what his gang did to one of the actual teachers. Dong-gu suddenly remembers teacher Dong-chi weeping bitterly over what they did to him. Jong Chan applies the pressure. He claims they only want to lure Doyle out of hiding, and Dong-gu is going to call him anyway. His tone is pure mockery. What exactly does Dong-gu think he can accomplish here? Dong-gu just flashes back to his father's harsh insults, comparing him to his mother. Jong Chan offers a simple deal. Make the phone call, lure Doyle right to their hideout, and he gets to walk away alive. Dong-gu is bloody and broken, but he quietly states he is no fool. He slowly lifts his head, glaring straight at the gang. He repeats that he isn't the idiot. Here they are. Park Kang-wook watches in total shock. The thugs actually wonder if they beat Dong-gu a little too hard. Jong Chan abruptly bursts into insane laughter. A blade flashes, slashing across Dong-gu's face. The kid screams in pure agony. Jong Chan violently grabs his bleeding face and tells him to shut his mouth. He sneers. Does this trash really think they are equals? Just because he talked back, the insults keep pouring out. Jong Chan calls him worthless garbage, warning that if he tells him to kneel, he better drop immediately. Yanking Dong-gu up by his torn collar, Jong Chan tells him to stop acting tough after losing. It honestly just makes him look incredibly pathetic. Dong-gu thinks back on all those heavy days he spent living under constant bullying. He stares back in pure defiance. Jong Chan snaps, asking if he even understands Korean anymore. Keep your head down, Jong Chan orders. A heavy punch crashes in and the merciless beating continues. Park Kang-wook desperately warns that fighting back is only making this 10 times worse. But Jong Chan is already irritated and completely bored. He orders his men to wait until Dong-gu wakes up. Then they force him to bring Kim Doyle, even if they literally have to rip his mouth open. Despite taking that brutal beating, Dong-gu still calls Jong Chan an absolute bastard. Remembering what happened to his teacher, Dong-gu knows this gang is the only one truly in the wrong. Why are the innocent victims treated like idiots? The real problem has always been the monsters hurting them. Park Kang-wook frantically yells at him to shut up. Dong-gu fires right back. The world would be perfectly fine if people like Jong Chan simply ceased to exist. Shouting through the blood, he declares these bullies do not belong here. They are the actual fools. That hits a nerve, finally shattering Jong Chan's patience as he pulls a knife. He heavily mocks Dong-gu for running his mouth despite his injuries. He calls him a delusional kid lost in a pathetic fantasy. Grabbing him tight, Jong Chan threatens to gouge his eye right out just to see if he keeps talking. Park Kang-wook cries out in terror for Dong-gu but freezes completely before acting. A loud gunshot suddenly rings out. Doyle finally steps from the shadows, ordering everyone to stop. This guy is insane. He actually complains about the ammo, claiming he asked for rubber bullets. Ignoring their shock, Doyle casually strides straight forward through the pouring rain. Cho Ho-chang is completely stunned. He recognizes this absolute menace from the burger joint right away, screaming out Kim Doyle's name. Jong Chan glares at Doyle with raw, burning hatred. He blames him entirely for everything falling apart. Doyle walks straight up to Dong-gu, casually asking if the kids switched their phones completely on purpose. He holds up the shattered phone screen and asks exactly who broke it. Then he glares at Jong Chan's group, demanding if they are responsible. Cold as ice. Doyle says they need a harsh lesson and he is going all out. Jong Chan flashes a mocking smile and starts introducing himself, proudly admitting he smashed the phone and welcoming the challenge. But he never gets to finish. Game over. Doyle rushes him first and Jong Chan just stands there totally frozen. Doyle tells him there is zero forgiveness for this. Meanwhile, Chi Chang remembers the terrifying legend of Jong Chan. At one huge gathering, all 21 members of the Lee Ho Chul gang were present. By sunset, every single one of them was left brutally broken and fighting for survival. The culprit, a 13-year-old kid named Im Jong-chan. Chang Chul could not believe a kid destroyed men twice his size. This was a vicious gang the police would not even dare mess with. After that day, Jong Chan's name echoed across South Seoul. Everyone started calling him the Ghost. But get this, that same Ghost is now getting totally crushed by Doyle without landing a hit. Physically shaking, Jong Chan wonders what trick Doyle used. He screams out, asking if he was drugged because absolutely none of this makes sense. Pure desperation. He rushes Doyle with his blade, refusing to accept some random guy can win. But Doyle effortlessly slides past the heavy stab. The Ghost keeps slashing wildly, just hoping to connect once, but Doyle smoothly dodges every single attack. Then Doyle finally flips to offense and drives a brutal uppercut. Jong Chan sees the punch coming, but pure shock paralyzes him. He still cannot dodge it. He desperately tries to steady himself and figure out the math, but the harder he thinks, the less he understands what is happening. He screams out loud, demanding to know what Doyle actually did to him. Mid-shout, explosive pain rips through his body like shattered ribs. Doyle just shrugs it off as a terribly dramatic act. Staring down at a collapsing Jong Chan, Doyle asks why he blames someone else for his own pathetic weakness. There is one simple reason Jong Chan cannot accept reality. He simply has not been beaten enough. Then Doyle coldly invites him closer to fix that problem. That nasty taunt pushes Jong Chan right over the edge. Grinding his teeth, he curses and charges again. Doyle slips around every wild swing with ridiculous ease. Jong Chan absolutely explodes. He calls Doyle a slippery coward and screams at him to stop dodging and take a hit. Even though Jong Chan sees the counters coming, his broken body just cannot react. He has to admit Doyle's speed is totally unreal, way too fast to track or even block. Doyle keeps hammering him. Jong Chan staggers, barely keeping his footing. Doyle calmly points out his stubborn attitude, saying that is perfectly fine. It just gives him more opportunities to swing. Park and-wook and Donga watch this completely stunned. Park and-wook yells out the guy is absolutely insane. Because seriously, is he really doing all this over a plate of pork? Doyle gestures for Jong Chan to approach. Stepping right up to the exhausted thug, he politely asks exactly which bone he wants broken first. When Jong Chan stays dead silent, Choi Hoon just stares. He cannot believe a legend ended up looking so pathetic on these stairs. Doyle makes the choice for him, happily offering to start with the jaw. Jong Chan knows the brutal hit is coming, perfectly aware he cannot block it. Then Doyle abruptly stops. Even before the actual punch connects, Jong Chan starts screaming like an absolute maniac. Ji-hoon Chan can only stare, deeply confused about why his friend is screeching. Jong Chan looks totally stunned by Doyle's move, like he has never witnessed anything this crazy. He suddenly remembers that incredibly creepy vibe from the first time they met. Reflected in Jong Chan's terrified eyes, Doyle looks like a literal dark demon, and Jong Chan realizes in pure horror he can never beat this guy. Doyle wraps it up with a ruthless uppercut that violently smashes into his chin. That final devastating punch completely wrecks Jong Chan's jaw. Even after that, Doyle keeps pummeling him on the ground. Donga and the others watch in terror, officially confirming the guy is a monster. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the teacher and his wife stand peacefully with warm drinks. And yeah, they are blissfully unaware of the absolute bloodbath outside. Silence. Doyle just stands over the broken body once he finishes tenderizing Jong Chan. Then he turns a freezing stare onto the rest of the trembling gang. He starts walking right toward them, keeping his pace slow and terrifyingly calm. The whole scene abruptly cuts to the Tiger Clan hideout. Inside, battered men are scattered everywhere, completely covered in blood and bruises. Their boss, Bei Cha, sits there calmly enjoying a hot meal. He is busy mulling over a business offer from someone named Nam Bul Wong. But when they met up, the deal looked nothing like the original phone pitch, so Bei Cha casually tortured the guy and sliced his Achilles tendon. He accuses the tied-up man of playing dirty games behind his back and openly mocks his stupid greed. The prisoner flinches in pure agony as Bei Cha brutally jabs the open wound with his chopsticks. Then Bei Cha gives him 2 days to finish his Busan business. Done talking, he immediately orders the guy to come along. The guy frantically nods yes over and over, completely shaking from the pain and fear. Once he finishes eating, Beko finally trusts his word. He actually wishes him a good day. Those cold eyes say otherwise, though. Then he quietly walks right out. Right outside, his top Iljeong school fighter flags him down, Kang Hukchul. He says Jong Chan is calling urgently. Beko grabs the phone, but some totally strange voice immediately asks if he is Beko. All around the caller, Beko's guys are laid out bleeding. Pure shock and anger take over his face. The guy on the line is Kim Doyle, casually using Jong Chan's phone to call the boss. Standing right there in the rainy alley surrounded by beaten thugs, Doyle coldly mentions he heard they were looking for him. A seriously twisted smile spreads across Beko's face as he listens to Doyle standing right in front of him. Meanwhile, the Ilgyong school principal is just enjoying some barbecue with a teacher. The teacher admits he's incredibly worried. Internal fights are one thing, but this time, a total outsider actually beat up students. What happens if parents or the media find out? Total panic. The principal just brushes it off. He sarcastically asks what kind of decent parents would even bother sending their kids to Ilgyong anyway. He claims most of these kids are orphans from totally broken homes or already abandoned. The rest come from families that are barely surviving. In his mind, nobody outside cares about a trashy school like Ilgyong. He tells the teacher to just bury the story. Making noise only hurts them. Still, the principal admits this case feels wildly different, like something they should absolutely never touch just walked in. To him, it feels completely filthy. Check out this madness. Over in another alley, Doyle literally hurls Kang Hukchul straight out a window. Hukchul manages to land on his feet using a neat shock-absorbing technique, but he is totally stunned. He can track all of Doyle's attacks, yet cannot dodge a single one. From sheer experience trading raw punches, a completely lost cause. Still, he strongly believes grabbing Doyle changes everything. Nobody can beat his raw physical strength, and his big plan is to completely crush Doyle's skull. Hukchul aggressively rushes in and reaches out. He thinks he actually caught him for a second, but Doyle just easily slips away. That obviously just makes Hukchul infinitely madder, cursing the guy out for being so absurdly slippery. Doyle capitalizes on that opening, firing off a brutal combo that almost drops him. While Hukchul cries out, Doyle drives one ridiculously hard punch right into his face. Cut back to Doyle actually carrying a very hurt Dong-gu on his back, slowly making his way up the stairs through the heavy rain. Sounding incredibly weak, Dong-gu asks if this nasty cut on his nose is going to leave a scar. He groans about having to stare at it every single day. Doyle is clearly annoyed. He tells him to stop asking stupid questions or he will just abandon him, which Dong-gu thinks is completely unfair. The physical pain is already bad enough, but a permanent facial scar feels so much worse, and he just cannot stop obsessing over it. Meanwhile, the brutal fight keeps going. Kang Hukchul desperately tries to figure out who Doyle actually is. He seriously cannot believe this guy tossed someone out a window and is now literally striking to kill. Even staring death right in the face, he pushes the fear away as pure nonsense, but then a sudden memory perfectly hits him. He remembers Baiko telling him he was far from ordinary. Back when he was a gifted martial arts champion, Baiko insisted the world was incredibly unfair for hiding his real talent. Baiko promised to guide him and turn him into somebody special. That specific memory just completely fires him up. Hukchul forces himself back up, utterly convinced Baiko chose him, and absolutely refusing to let Doyle humiliate him. He charges again, totally convinced one single solid grab finishes this. This time, Hukchul brings a clever plan against the grappler. He aims straight for Doyle's face using a fake high punch as bait, and it actually works. Doyle raises his guard, Hukchul catches the arm and smiles for a second. Totally sure he won, he tries a massive hip throw. Nothing. Doyle does not even flinch. He cannot lift the guy an inch. Then reality hits. Doyle spread all that force into the ground with perfect balance, a move only absolute pros can pull off. Before Hukchul can process the failure, Doyle hits him with a beautifully savage counterthrow, slamming him violently into the pavement. He hits hard and just screams in agony. This totally breaks his mind. He yells out that absolutely none of this makes any logical sense. Watch this realization hit. He finally understands Doyle is the kind of fighter breaking every single rule, destroying opponents, regardless of their size. In all his brutal years of fighting, he has never seen anyone like him. Much earlier, Dong-gu confessed to Doyle how surprisingly safe he felt around him. He promised to pay whatever it took, begging Doyle not to treat this as just some job, but to genuinely care about all of them too. Remembering that exact conversation, Doyle kicks Hukchul insanely hard, sending him flying. It plays out like a direct answer to Dong-gu's wish for a real protector. Those words definitely stuck. But then flashing police lights suddenly show up. An officer walks right over, demanding to know who they are and mentioning a serious assault report. That panic call actually came from Dong-gu himself. The stern officer immediately orders Doyle to raise his hands and step forward slowly. Before Doyle can even answer, Bei-chul pops out of nowhere and knocks the officer completely cold. The second cop completely freezes up in shock. 1 second later, Bei-chul slips right behind him and takes him down too. With both cops out for the count, Bei-chul casually explains his life philosophy: violence is the absolute fastest way to get things done. It just works. He says this is exactly one of those moments where violence is completely necessary, wondering out loud if he should just step in. He actually mocks society for banning something so useful. Then he claims he feels a connection with Doyle, casually offering his friendship. He promises to push Doyle's talent even higher. Power like theirs, it definitely deserves a reward. He even quotes some big Yakuza boss who said money gives violence meaning and violence builds empires. Then he asks Doyle to team up. Doyle answers him with this terrifyingly calm voice. That guy you just quoted, he says he is already dead. Bei-chul just stares in confusion, so Doyle casually adds that he killed him right before punching Bei-chul straight across the face. A quick flashback shows the dead Yakuza boss. Meanwhile, Ilgyung School principal Im Chong-suk is still sweating through a chat with a teacher. The teacher asks what kind of dirty trash just crawled into their school. The sweating principal can only panic over Doyle's real identity. He remembers Doyle threatening to expose his dirty secrets if he dared to interfere with the gang attack on the campus. What he totally fails to understand is how some random student stole internal data straight from the Hala Club. That group is protected like a literal national treasure, yet this kid used their secrets to blackmail him. Back in the alley, Bei-chul realizes Doyle just turned him down. With a sly grin, he asks if this means they won't be friends. Doyle stays dead silent, but just one cold look tells Bei-chul that this guy's no normal high schooler. Now watch how twisted this gets. We jump into Bei-chul's past. He brings up serial killer Albert Bundy, who basically argued that since everyone dies anyway, are killers really that bad? Bei-chul was deeply drawn to Bundy's story. The man murdered around 30 women, acting like he simply rescheduled the day they died. That insane idea completely thrilled Bei-chul. To him, getting to control death sounded absolutely amazing. But even Albert Bundy had to pay up eventually. At a police station, young Bei-chul is asked if he tried to kill his little brother Jiho for crying. The boy calmly admits he warned Jiho repeatedly to stop. So in his mind, his brother was completely at fault. And just like Bundy, Bei-chul paid. He was punished under Article 10 of the Juvenile Act, but not everyone actually pays for what they do. Take Sasaki Bushino, the attack leader for the Japanese Okita group. He walked totally free after slaughtering 7 rival gang members. Then there is young Akio, son of Congressman Jong Tuan. He completely avoided jail time after killing an 11-year-old girl while driving drunk. He got off just because people falsely claimed he was not behind the wheel. That exact moment became Bei-chul's ultimate life goal. He realized having money, fame, and serious power could turn someone into a completely special being, basically a god deciding everyone else's fate. In another twisted memory, Bei-chul tells little Jiho the real reason he tried to end him. Jiho simply looked too much like him, and to Bei-chul, this world only has space for one of them. He alone wants god status. Back in the present, Bei-chul proudly declares he is special. Doyle just answers with a sudden kick and punch. Bei-chul can barely process it. He stares in total confusion, wondering how Doyle moved before he even began. Doyle openly mocks him, asking if he bumped his head. Then he calmly drops the truth: he is just way faster, and honestly, he is just messing around. Doyle adds that he has not met anyone like Bei-chul in ages. He wonders out loud if this guy really is just ordinary. Meanwhile, Bei-chul thinks about all the people he stepped on to reach this level. Getting beaten down like this feels completely new to him. Doyle cuts him off cold. Keep your mouth shut if you are only going to spout garbage. As they trade heavy blows, Bei-chul finds Doyle more and more interesting. But Doyle just calls him a talentless copycat for stealing his signature move. Their fight explodes into a faster, fiercer clash. Even while bleeding, Bei-chul just keeps smiling, still claiming Doyle is incredibly interesting. Doyle notices Bei-chul's attacks are somehow getting faster and stronger. The exchange keeps raging on. Doyle effortlessly slips past punch after punch, landing a very clean hit. But Doyle is completely surprised when Bei-chul actually dodges the next strike. As Bei-chul laughs and keeps charging, Doyle spots the pattern. Bei-chul's strength, willpower, and speed are rapidly rising the longer this fight goes. His natural talent is undeniable, especially that insane speed. Doyle honestly never expected to meet an absolute freak like this inside a Korean high school. Seeing Bei-chul get even faster again, he realizes this kid is incredibly far from normal. Still, Doyle sees that his attacks, although fast, are pretty shallow. He reads the obvious pattern easily. 3 left punches to hide the actual strike from the right. To Doyle, that trick is completely cheap. Bei-chul smirks, asking if someone on his level isn't impressive. Then he snaps out a heavy left hook that looks like a clean hit. Certain it connected, Bei-chul declares that absolutely nothing can stop his rise to the top. It is his ultimate fate. Doyle just calls the entire speech totally embarrassing. He asks why he is acting like this and then casually catches the punch. Bei-chul totally freezes up, completely unable to process this. Doyle squeezes the guy's fist tight. Sure, Bei-chul isn't ordinary, but his skill is barely good enough for local streets. This is Bei-chul's real level, Doyle says. Time to know his place. Then Doyle just starts crushing the guy's hand, forcing Bei-chul to freeze up in shock, wondering what Doyle means by "follow me." And Doyle uses that exact opening to absolutely smash his face in. Bei-chul is completely stunned, having no idea what just hit him. Then the panic sets and his left eye is blind. He didn't even see Doyle move, making the whole thing vastly more confusing. Doyle just brushes it off coldly, telling him to shut up. With one final crushing blow, he drops Bei-chul and knocks him out cold. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the pouring rain, A guy asks if they reach Boss Park's turf. The other confirms it, adding that Baichiel has already made his move. This is Yu Jong-soo, the number 2 guy of Now. He hasn't actually heard from Baichiel since this morning, and warns that getting tangled up with him could turn extremely ugly fast. As long as Baichiel is in Seoul, he will personally handle anyone tied to Suzhou or the National Union, but then both men suddenly freeze. Yu Jong-soo spots Baichiel completely collapsed on the ground. He stares in pure disbelief, wondering if that bloody mess is really Baichiel. Not far away, Doyle just stands there silently. Over in another location, Ju Hayoung, an NAO leader, finds a hallway packed with Boss Park's men, all of them totally beaten. Ju Hayoung remarks that the Ilgang school guys are brutally harsh completely wrongly, assuming they caused this mess. Seeing Baichiel's brutal state, Yu Jong-soo figures the damage might actually be permanent. He asks Ju Hayoung who could possibly inflict this much damage. Yu Jong-soo starts really doubting if sending Baichiel was the right call, but Ju Hayoung quickly cuts him off, telling him not to rush to conclusions. The scene then shifts over to the crooked cop Park Chung-sik. He just got a text saying his phone is hacked. Furious, he wonders who would dare mess with a literal police officer. The message lists out Ilgang School's crimes, including that brutal stabbing incident at Suman High. Along with every bribe he took backed up by raw footage and photos, it ends with a clear warning this is a threat. Panicking, the officer wonders who could possibly be behind this. Then we see Ju Hayoung saying this young man is the real deal. If he keeps pushing, they will inevitably meet. And honestly, everything at Suman High changed after Kim Doyle won. Doyle starts getting treated like an absolute king. Students constantly crowd around him, and Sulina shows up calling it the day of her husband chasing everyone away. Some kids even call it an honor to serve the king of the South. Donggu spreads these crazy flyers all over school. They announce that Kim Doyle of the Thunderfist now officially rules over South Seoul. Step out of line and you get hunted down. The old-school bullies feel completely displaced, whining that the vibe just isn't the same anymore. While Donggu aggressively hands out flyers, Mina just laughs. She tells him paper ads are totally ancient history in the social media age. He shoots back that nobody cares about their accounts. Meanwhile, those washed-up bullies just keep grieving their lost power and status. Doyle, though, he doesn't care at all. These insanely overblown reactions are honestly just starting to get on his nerves. Later on the walk home, Donggu tells Doyle he left the bonus cash right inside his locker. He thanks him, swearing life has been amazing every single day since Doyle transferred in. Donggu admits he still can't believe it all, but Doyle cuts him right off. He is only doing this for the money, so skip the super embarrassing praise. Donggu keeps rambling anyway, saying he never imagined Doyle would completely crush Baichiel and the Ilgang school. The whole thing feels entirely insane. He points at that photo Doyle sent of a brutally beaten Baichiel, asking if it was somehow edited or photoshopped. Faking the picture would have been way easier than the actual fight, Doyle replies. Donggu just smiles, his boss really is amazing. Then he brings up his next big plan, promising he won't drag Doyle down. He will be totally ready. And his meaning is pretty simple. He's going to learn how to fight. Meanwhile, over at Seonhae High, the number 5 guy discusses the wild rumor that Baichiel actually lost. Some think this is their grand chance to move up, while others just dismiss the whole thing as a completely fake story. Soo-yoon definitely doesn't buy it either. Baichiel just isn't the kind of guy who would go down that easily. Then he glares at a kid named Dong-yuk, kneeling inside a marked circle covered in drawn targets. When Dong-yuk doesn't answer, Soo-yoon hurls a fast baseball right at him. Why Soo-yoon snaps, demanding to know why this kid is ignoring him. He snaps an order to go fetch the ball. After Dong-hyuk finally brings it back, he is coldly told to get right back in his place. A tight circle on the ground labeled reserved seat for idiots. The group calls Dong-hyuk totally pathetic, but Seo-hyun corrects them he isn't pathetic. Laughing, he tells Dong-hyuk he was born a total loser. The only people he can blame are his parents for bringing a failure into the world. He asks if he agrees. He just keeps pushing the insult, repeating the awful question about whether his parents actually gave birth to a complete loser. Dong-hyuk stays totally silent in his spot. That makes Wee Shokun blow up even harder because he gets absolutely no answer. Furious, he fires the baseball super hard at Dong-hyuk. Luckily, Dong-hyuk barely manages to dodge it just in time. That completely shocks Dong-woo, who just got back with Doyle. He notices Doyle caught the flying ball with zero effort, watching this whole mess from a distance. The bullies spot him and walk right over. Wee Sokon aggressively demands to know who this guy is and if he comes from Suman High. Before Doyle even answers, a baseball smashes right into the face of Wee Sokun. The girl with the gang instantly screams out for her honey. She yells out that Doyle is totally insane. Doyle just steps forward and casually hands Dongwoo his food tray. Dongwoo calmly asks if he should carry it. But the second the girl actually sees Doyle clearly, she is completely stunned by his crazy good looks. Now the whole gang focuses completely on Doyle. They start moving toward him, definitely curious about this extremely good-looking stranger. One of them angrily asks if Sumanhai has totally lost its mind, wondering if Doyle is crazy too. He points at their uniforms, asking if Doyle knows who they are. Doyle stays totally chill. He pulls a gun from inside his shirt, aims it right at the guy, and fires straight at his head. The whole gang freezes in pure shock. Then one guy screams and charges right at Doyle, loudly yelling about how anyone could even have a gun in Korea. Before he can even finish, Doyle rushes him. He trips the guy and slams a brutal strike into his neck. The dude completely collapses, choking hard in the absolute grip of Doyle. Then Doyle drags another gang member straight into a brick wall, smashing his head against it. Right after that, Doyle starts firing rubber bullets at him. The guy screams out in pure pain. He gasps that he cannot breathe at all, calling Doyle an absolute madman. Doyle just shuts him up with another rubber bullet to the head. The terrified gang keeps shouting. They ask who he is, how he dared bring a gun into Korea, and demand he drop the weapon. Doyle answers with just one single word, no. Then he blows the smoke off the barrel, telling them to come at him all at once because they are getting annoying. A burst of loud shots echoes right through the area. The entire Seokdong High gang just keeps panicking and screaming random questions at Doyle. Wee So-kun cannot comprehend where Doyle came from or why he is attacking them like this. He seriously starts thinking Ilgyang High sent an actual assassin. As Doyle calmly walks toward him, Wee So-kun gets completely desperate. He blurts out that Boss was the guy who told him to catch BHL. Doyle totally ignores that excuse and simply asks who he is. Wee So-kun finally snaps, demanding to know why Doyle is attacking them if he is not with Ilgyang High. After a short silence, Doyle tells him to look down. The guy looks super confused and asks what he even means, but Doyle just replies, fake. He slowly raises the gun right to his face and shoots him in the head with a rubber bullet, dropping him instantly. From farther back, Dongwoo smiles wide. He confidently announces that Seokdong High is their next target. Right before the attacker fully passes out, he weakly asks Doyle why he is even doing all this. Doyle gives a solid one-word answer, pork. And just like that, the crazy mission to wipe out Seokdong High officially begins. But things are about to get weird. 2 months later, on a warm day, Doyle sits in a park when Park Jinggu, the former number 3 of Ilgyang High, walks up. Jinggu loudly calls Doyle his Hyungnim, but Doyle tells him to stop, pointing out that Jinggu is already 20. Then Doyle asks how this guy even managed to transfer into his high school. Jinggu insists he has to be wherever Doyle is, practically begging him to allow it. Doyle clearly shows how annoyed he is by that Hyungnim title, but Jinggu argues that age does not matter. The strongest man naturally becomes the Hyungnim. He goes on to say real men are drawn to great leaders, and he used to think his old boss at Ilgyang was the absolute highest peak. But after seeing that old leader beaten up in the hospital, he realized Doyle was an even bigger mountain. Doyle honestly wonders why Jinggu has not been arrested yet. He actually already texted that crooked police officer to ask why Jinggu is out free. The officer answered that after a full, thorough investigation, Jinggu got released with just a warning because they found zero proof tying him to any of the Ilgyang crimes. He described Jinggu as nothing more than a muscle, crazy freak that they just could not pin anything on. Jinggu bows deeply to Doyle. He literally swears to follow him like a true big brother for the rest of his life. Doyle lets out a tired sigh and tells him to do whatever he wants. Jinggu gratefully accepts. Over at the park, Susie starts complaining about how hot it suddenly got outside and how much she is sweating. Still on the bench, Doyle casually says he was wondering when she would finally show up today. Then Susie cheerfully asks out loud who wants to wipe her sweat. Jinggu eagerly jumps at the chance, but Susie instantly decks him, calls him a complete pervert, and tells him to back off. Watching this ridiculous chaos, Doyle seriously wonders if he should just kill them all and leave Korea forever. That dark thought gets cut off when Dongwoo storms in, totally mad that Doyle is not arriving on time. Doyle calmly points out they still have 3 whole minutes left. But Dongwoo keeps whining, calls him a liar, and says this stupid training has nothing to do with real fighting. For the past 2 months, Dongwoo has been stuck doing nothing but lower body training just to prepare for the next stage. He is incredibly annoyed because Doyle still has not taught him a single actual combat move. Plus, he seriously doubts these endless leg workouts will actually make him a real fighter. Doyle checks the timer on his phone and coldly tells him to shut up. If he wants to completely fall apart, then go right ahead. Later on in the school bathroom, Doyle finally reveals their next major mission, wiping out Seokdong High School. The cash bonus for pulling this off is 6 million won. Sitting inside a bathroom stall, Dongwoo is absolutely stunned since he figured the payout would only be 1 million. He begs Doyle to hold on a second because he cannot focus at the moment. Doyle flatly refuses, asking why in the world he should schedule missions around Dongwoo's bathroom breaks. He goes on to warn that Seokdong will be much tougher than Ilong. Dongwoo feels almost touched, assuming Doyle actually did some research, but Doyle immediately shuts that down. His logic is simple. The enemies showing up later are just always stronger. Dongwoo thinks that makes absolutely zero sense. Doyle just adds that dragging around dead weight like him will only make the entire job harder. He reminds Donggu about his promise to push him to the absolute limit over these 2 months. So now Doyle hands him a real test. Prove the training was not a waste and show he is not just extra baggage. With the judo twins gone, Park Kang-wook currently stands as the strongest student at Sumin. So Doyle orders Donggu to go pick a fight with Kang-wook, beat him down, and take over the entire school. When Donggu asks if Doyle is not already the boss, Doyle openly mocks the idea. He claims he is world-class, not some petty schoolyard leader. Doyle makes a promise if Donggu becomes the top dog at Sumin, they can easily wipe out Sukdong in just a single week. Word about Donggu challenging Park Kang-wook quickly spreads all over the school. The students are completely fired up, calling this whole situation entirely insane. They all rush to the hall to see it happen. Soon enough, a massive crowd packs tightly around Park Kang-wook and Donggu standing in the middle. Kang-wook is absolutely furious, yelling about these idiots, messing with him yet again. All around them, students whisper in pure shock that Donggu is actually standing up to Park Kang-wook. But check out what is happening elsewhere. A heavyset man hears the guy who beat Beho came from Sumin High, and he strongly questions if that report is true. His followers say witnesses confirmed it, but every nearby camera recording got wiped clean, so it still feels like a total rumor. Even so, the big man just scoffs at it. Beho was the real deal. A follower guesses the National Union might be behind Beho stepping down, but the big man quickly cuts him off. There is absolutely no way fools from Sumin took Beho down. He declares that traitors dragging the 12 nations' name through the dirt are popping up everywhere across southwest and northwest Seoul. Then he marches straight to a house and violently kicks the lock completely off the door. He announces he is here to punish those rats before their filth spreads any further. Stepping inside, he calls out Park Sang-sik and loudly brands him a rat. He accuses the guy of using their leader's name to build up his own shady business. Park Sang-sik instantly panics and screams for his men to attack. Even while completely surrounded, the massive attacker stays calm. He drops one thug with a single punch, then smashes right through the rest. When another swings a stick at him, he slips past the weapon with total ease. He grabs the man by the head and drives his knee straight into his face. Then he spots another thug carrying a hammer and charges fearlessly right into the remaining group. One brutal hit after another drops them to the floor. Now, holding that raised hammer, the large man rushes straight at Park Sang-sik. Park Sang-sik completely freezes in fear, seeing all his men already beaten down. He is left entirely alone against this absolute monster. Desperate, he violently swings a baseball bat and screams for the man to die. The huge attacker dodges effortlessly, blasts him with the hammer, and sends him crashing hard to the ground. When the chaos finally ends, he stands there breathing hard, surrounded by bodies, wondering if betraying someone else's name was really worth this beating. Then he spots a flyer resting on the floor. It says, Kim Doyle of the Thunderfist dominates South Seoul. He swears to crush that bastard. This massive guy is Jang Chun-sik, the official number 2 of Sukdong High School. Back at Sumin High School, students keep crowding tightly into the hall, anxiously whispering to each other. Doyle sits quietly, just watching Donggu fight Kang-wook. Kang-wook is breathing incredibly hard with pure rage, loudly cursing everyone who keeps messing with him. Donggu is down badly bloodied across his face and body, yet he slowly starts waking back up. One student simply cannot believe he is actually standing again. The brutal beating continues, and Kang-wook is totally stunned that Donggu got back up after taking such a heavy punch. Even then, Donggu can barely stay steady. Kang-wook completely snaps and curses him out again. He shouts that Donggu really should have just stayed down. Then he comes in hard again, violently slamming another solid punch right into Donggu's face. Donggu tries to answer back, but Kang-wook dodges easily and openly mocks how painfully slow he is. A heavy kick crashes hard into Donggu's side. Kang-wook angrily asks why he keeps standing back up just to try these totally useless things. Even in all that pain, Donggu's eyes still show pure grit. Kang-wook follows with a brutal kick to his face, dropping him flat onto the hard hall floor. One of Donggu's close friends watches him in deep worry and softly calls out his name. He remembers asking Donggu before if Doyle was actually teaching him how to fight. Donggu had just laughed and said yes, he's working this incredibly hard because he cannot depend on Doyle forever. That answer totally shocks his friend. Relying on Doyle is supposed to be the natural move. After all, everyone has a set place in life. Doyle is Doyle and they are just themselves. Back in the hall, Donggu actually rises again. He spits out blood and absolutely stuns the crowd. Nobody can believe this guy is still standing. People are literally wondering if his bones are broken. Students start whispering, is this really the same Donggu they know? Why on earth does he keep forcing himself back up? Breathing hard, he raises his guard once more. Kang-wook just stares at him in pure anger and confusion, realizing Donggu's body has completely stopped listening to him. And yet that sharp stare never leaves his eyes. Kang-wook figures it is exactly like before. Donggu cannot pull off anything alone without that transfer student. In his mind, Donggu went completely crazy after watching Doyle. He assumes Donggu actually believes this brave little act will change something, so he decides to keep him down forever. He yells out this time he will knock him out for good. Kangwook charges straight in for the brutal finisher. Donggu eats the hit and swings back, but Kangwook easily slips past the attack. He fires off a brutal kick that literally sends a tooth flying. Donggu drops unconscious immediately. His friends scream his name in pure horror near the ring. Doyle watches the whole brutal scene without saying a single word. Kangwook just keeps kicking Donggu with absolutely zero mercy. Standing over him, Park Kangwook explodes. He yells that Donggu has no business trying to climb higher. Keeps cursing and relentlessly stomping him. Trying to catch his breath, Park Kangwook just continues muttering nasty insults at Donggu. Kangwook is absolutely furious that Donggu still ignores his place. Then he turns his back, faces the stunned crowd, and dares anyone else to step up. Right then, Donggu's friend is completely lost in thought. He keeps repeating the same bitter truth, Doyle is Doyle and they are just them. Donggu admitted he could never actually become like Doyle, but he is smiling right now. Kangwook seriously wonders if Donggu has finally snapped. That last heavy punch definitely should have finished him. Donggu throws a hard counter, but Kangwook barely dodges it. In that exact instant, Donggu remembers asking Doyle how to beat Park Kangwook. Here's where the tables turn. Doyle had corrected him. The question was not how to beat him. Back in reality, Donggu holds his ground and grabs Kangwook's arm. Kangwook is visibly shaken by the look in his eyes. He wonders, is that really the face of a guy about to lose? Doyle's wisdom comes rushing back. At this level, fights are not decided by some huge physical gap, but purely by endurance and willpower. There is no major size difference between him and Kangwook, so the match totally comes down to toughness and raw stamina. And Doyle knew Donggu spent 2 whole months building exactly those traits. While Kangwook prepared absolutely nothing, the plan works. Donggu finally smashes a clean, heavy punch into his face. Doyle warned him earlier, if he survives 3 full minutes, Kangwook will not be able to keep up with his punches at all. And sure enough, Kangwook starts slowing down, even stumbling slightly on his feet. Donggu's annoying taunts did their job, burning through his energy fast. Once Kangwook is completely worn out, Donggu takes his golden chance and blasts him down with a massive kick. In his head, Doyle's advice keeps repeating. By the end, even standing would be incredibly hard for Kangwook. Doyle promised that once Kangwook's stamina ran dry, every single breath would hurt like hell. And that is exactly what happens here. Kangwook turns into a literal punching bag. Donggu keeps landing hit after hit, and Kangwook cannot answer back. At this exact moment, all the strength Donggu built through pure brutal training is being unleashed. Every ounce of effort goes into completely breaking Park Kangwook. Doyle's words keep returning. Raw physical strength alone does not always win big fights. What really matters is an iron will backed up by a strong body. With that thought locked in, Donggu pours on a violent storm of kicks and punches. Doyle's final advice rings loudly in his head. When he feels completely ready to quit, he just has to push for one more strike. Donggu draws that extreme willpower from his most painful memories. The dark days of being bullied, beaten, and literally used as a human chair by Park Kangwook. Pure defiance fills Donggu's eyes. He silently swears he will never go back to that miserable life. Armed with that resolve, he steps forward hard. Donggu realizes he does not need to become Doyle. Being himself is perfectly enough. Everyone watching is absolutely stunned. Then Donggu drives one final devastating blow straight into Kangwook's head, ending the fight entirely. Kangwook drops completely unconscious. Even his loyal followers are shaken, collapsing at their leader's huge defeat. Donggu's friends run over at once. They eagerly hoist him onto their shoulders, cheering his massive win. Proudly, they shout out Leader Ma Donggu, and the plot thickens instantly. Far away at a Russian Blackhead branch, a woman sends out all the gathered intel through a secure app called Cox. Later on, as Doyle and Donggu are finally leaving, Donggu spots Doyle's brand new wireless earbuds. He asks where Doyle got them, especially since his uncle's company has not released them yet. Plus, he really wants to know who he is talking to. Donggu keeps firing off eager questions, including where they are actually headed. Doyle casually brings up his promise to erase Sukdong School within a week. Meanwhile, at a sketchy pool hall, a Sukdong thug is busy tormenting a poor student, forcing his tongue out and shoving a burning cigarette right up to his face. Then Doyle and Dongwu step inside, and the noise just instantly dies down. The local gang leaders just stare, totally confused about who these guys even are. But Doyle stays perfectly calm, announcing he is here to keep that promise. What happens next is a total massacre. Gang members end up sprawled everywhere in pools of blood, some tossed right across the pool tables. The gang leader is absolutely terrified now. Sukdong High number 4 Jung-soo completely panics. He wonders who this guy is and how Suman School found someone so ridiculously strong. A quick look shows Doyle just crushing everyone with zero effort, but Jung-soo immediately notices something super weird about his actual fighting style. Doyle walks right up, asking if he wants to live or die. The question leaves Jung-soo frozen. Doyle tells him to listen up closely if he wants to survive this. He only needs 2 favors, and first on the list is info about that new kids gambling site. He orders Jung-soo to hand over every single piece of evidence and name tied to the operation. All of it gets sent through a new app Doyle just installed on his phone. The second order is to go tell Wong Guokwai he has a strict deadline to visit Suman's school and finally kneel. Pointing at Dongwoo, Doyle makes it crystal clear. Their boss needs to kneel before his boss in total surrender or a lot more blood will spill. This completely confuses Jung-soo, making him think this random glasses-wearing kid is actually Suman's brand new boss. Because anyone commanding an absolute monster like Doyle has to be seriously dangerous. Meanwhile, Dongwoo immediately starts panicking and tries dragging Doyle away, completely convinced that someone like Wong Guokwai would never just show up on command. Sweating bullets, Dongwoo demands to know if he understands who Wong Guokwai actually is. He just completely blows up, calling Doyle absolutely insane for even suggesting this. Doyle casually admits that this will definitely trigger a massive gang war, which just makes Dongwoo even angrier. He calls Doyle a pure psychopath, screaming that real gang wars do not happen anymore. But Doyle just lays out his logic. Every time he beats a guy down, someone stronger always shows up. He is completely sick of it, so he will just wipe out Sukdong's school in one shot. Dongwoo loudly yells that they are going to die from sheer numbers alone, but Doyle tells him to stop worrying. Turning back to Jung-soo, he coldly repeats his main order, go fetch Wong Guokwai right now. Jung-soo just starts laughing oddly. When Doyle threatens to end his life, Jung-soo says he's only laughing because nobody ever demands to see the leader. Around here, it always works the other way around. Elsewhere, on a dark, rainy night in Gimshan, someone stands completely drenched, just crying in pure total despair. Nearby in Gimshan, a terrified man watches a brutal fight unfold, realizing this wild attacker moves like something not even human. The crazy rumors going around are actually all true. This brutal attacker is the Ghost. Terrified by that speed, the guy tries to run for his life, but the Ghost pounces and completely finishes him off first. It is perfectly clear this brutal fighter is tearing through all his enemies with zero mercy. The last few gang members rush the Ghost in one incredibly desperate final move, but the Ghost does not care about numbers, charging head-on with this really dark, twisted smile. Wielding a sharp blade, he flashes through the group at terrifying speeds, cutting them down one after another without even a tiny hint of mercy. After easily wiping out all the nearby men, the Ghost locks onto the gang leader as his next big target. He charges straight at the boss, smiling wide because he really thinks his attack landed perfectly, but the man stands there entirely unharmed. Jung-soo informs Doyle that the exact guy he wants is currently in Seoul, away on a little revenge trip. The Ghost is genuinely shocked to realize this gang leader is not some easy prey. Suddenly, a totally fatal-looking punch flies right at him, leaving absolutely zero room to dodge. That heavy impact launches the Ghost straight through the air. The leader then follows up with one brutal final blow, knocking him out cold and sending his bloody teeth flying. Right after that, one of his men tells him to report this brutal result right away. That leader is Wong Guokwai himself, the head of Sukdong School and part of the 12 Nations. But here is where the plot thickens. Somewhere else in a spot resembling a max security prison, Day sits quietly in a wheelchair, solid proof of his past defeat, while a mysterious visitor waits for him. Meanwhile, Jung Chun-sik sits down with Jung-soo, who nervously shows off a flyer reading that Kim Doyle of the Thunderfist now officially rules South Seoul. He reports that the crew of YCQ got sent straight to the hospital and then fully explains the brutal attack at the pool hall. Jung-soo finishes up the report, claiming this attacker is just a loyal follower of Suman's brand new leader Dong-woo. He also mentions how Doyle barged right in demanding their big boss come kneel before them. Trying to save some serious face, Jung-soo lies, claiming he completely chewed Doyle out and sent him packing. Jung Chun-sik just explodes, angrily ripping the flyer completely apart. Muttering that the world has gone totally crazy, he completely shocks them by ordering everyone to just ignore the threat. When Jung-soo nervously questions the choice, Chun-sik says Doyle is just a pathetic liar chasing fame by falsely claiming he beat him. He compares Doyle to some other man from the past who once stained the reputation of the 12 Nations, calling this kid just another total nobody desperate for attention. Chun-sik keeps going off, telling Jung-soo that nobody would actually believe Beiji Cho was beaten by Doyle. In his eyes, Doyle is only trying to stir up cheap drama, and hiding behind Dong-woo as a front just feels like a really old-school gangster act. He finishes up by saying people like that are just mosquito trash, not even worth the effort. Later on a rainy day, Doyle shows Dong-gu the absolute basics of blackhead close-range combat. Dong-gu is still sweating bullets, asking if Doyle actually believes Wong Guochi will hit Suman School. Doyle just shrugs, he will beat him somehow. Dong-gu snaps, sure. Doyle has zero idea how terrifying Guochi truly is, or how absurdly overpowered the guy is. He turns to Jingu for backup, who nervously admits Guochi broke human limits long ago. Doyle cuts him off cold, he is still human. To prove his point, Dong-gu drags up an old middle school rumor. Word on the street was Wong Guochi literally beat a bear to death. He ties that rumor to a crazy incident 3 years back. A black bear escaped Chongju Zoo and caused total chaos everywhere, before turning up completely dead. The legend says Guachui killed it, barehanded. Donggu practically begs Doyle to please take this seriously, but Doyle completely ignores the warning. While Doyle is busy calculating his next major moves, with absolutely no turning back, someone hidden is totally listening in. The scene flashes back to Doyle casually drinking juice and confidently declaring Wang Guachi will definitely visit Suman. Elsewhere, Jiangsu is reporting back to Jiang Chan's sick. He hesitantly admits something feels super off about Doyle. His movements straight up mimic Ha Chiho. He feels the exact same about Madongo Doyle's supposed boss. Jiangsu suggests wiping them out right now, before they get any stronger. Chan-sik just laughs. Does he mean the Ha Chiho from the National Union? If Doyle actually matched that monster, they would all be dead already. Hearing that, Jiangsu bitterly thinks he almost was. Chan-sik tells him to drop the nonsense and grab a drink instead. Right after that, the boss starts hitting on a girl from Chungal High School. He even offers to call Jung Hun Woo and make school a total breeze for her. Jiangsu thinks Chan-sik should worry about his own men first. Jiangsu is trapped inside his own panicked head. Disobey Doyle and he is a dead man. But if he follows Doyle's order and reports Suman, his entire gang faces a massive public disgrace. No matter his choice, life is about to become utter hell. Then the Yumyang-go workshop boss suddenly rushes in. Completely out of breath, he screams about a major disaster. He finally chokes the words out. The workshop got hacked. Jiang Chan-sik freezes for a solid second, asking if that is actually true. That same rainy night, a giant screen lights up. It is a massive direct threat. Checkmate. To get the password back, they have to hit Suman High School and meet Madongo tomorrow at 8 p.m. sharp. Somewhere else, Chan-sik gets a phone shoved in his face. Confirming Madongo is that exact same kid from Suman School. Chan-sik is on a call, visibly ticked off. Then things get worse. The Simon workshop just got robbed too. You know what happens next? He crushes his phone barehanded. He spits out Madongo's name, exploding into a furious curse. Far from that mess, Doyle just strolls through the rain without a single care. Then he suddenly stops. He definitely senses someone. Back at the hacked workshop, Chan-sik demands to know what ransomware even is. He figures this problem is an easy fix with just a password, screaming into the phone for the caller to explain it in plain terms. The sheer pressure is clearly cracking him now. The shouting matches instantly stop when a real VIP arrives. A lackey quickly announces the boss is here and everyone immediately bows down. It is Wang Guachui, the absolute top leader. Jiang Chan-sik scrambles up, apologizing for the delayed welcome. Guachui just sits coldly, demanding to know where Suman High School is. That completely catches Chan-sik off guard. Guachui casually brings up a brand new betting game circling around the prison. The story cuts to a bleak prison meeting room. There, Guachui is visiting Bakchak, who is now stuck in a wheelchair. He claims he came to discuss money, but honestly, he just feels disappointed. In his eyes, there is absolutely nothing left to discuss, with a broken man in a wheelchair. Bakchak shoots back a warning. Ending up like this only takes one bad moment. He then adds that a literal demon lives at Suman High School. Right after that visit, Wang Guachui gives Jiang Chan-sik a direct order. Gather every single group under their banner and march straight for Suman High School. Elsewhere, the spy, who was watching Doyle and Donggu, finally steps out into the rain. He blocks Doyle's path, calls him commander, and says it has been way too long. Then Wang Guachui officially declares the Sukdong gang will crush Suman School tomorrow. Meanwhile, down in Busan, the blackhead leader Duong is meeting with Doyle. Duong complains loudly that Doyle dragged him all the way to Busan. They easily could have met in Seoul, right near his mother's place. He claims he loves ports, though the place where land and sea routes finally meet, and to him that feels strangely romantic. He warmly calls Doyle his son, saying he really missed him. Duong points out Doyle has been in Korea for a full year now. He's probably seen enough. His dad asks when Doyle plans on leaving, even offering him a Korean face mask. Doyle completely shuts him down. He already made it perfectly clear he is never going back. Duong just lets out a mocking laugh, asking if his kid is still mad about that frozen bank account. He insists that came from the finance team, not him. Doyle just asks if they are done here. Then he gets up to leave, saying he has places to be. His dad tries keeping him around for a meal, but Doyle just walks off. Duong mutters that handling his own sons is honestly harder than meeting the president. As Doyle leaves, his dad shouts out that he loves him. Once the kid is gone, Duong calls over Jigwon, one of his guys from the Blackhead special team. He tells him to watch over Doyle. Duong complains that his son brings total disaster everywhere he goes, bringing up Japan, and admits he just cannot control him anymore. Still, he notices Doyle seems pretty fine having Jigwon around, so he orders him to bring his boy back. Jigwon respectfully accepts the command. A bit later, while Doyle walks down a long hallway, Jigwon catches right up. Doyle shoots him a pretty cold look, asking if he has some kind of death wish following him around. Back over at Suman High School, the field clock reads 7:58 p.m. Donggu just stares at his phone in absolute panic. He thinks Doyle is totally insane for being so sure the Sukdong gang would actually show up. Now he is terrified this whole plan has completely fallen apart. So he shoots Doyle a text asking where he is and why he still is not at the school. Doyle just answers back that he is on the way. Even with that reply, Donggu keeps wondering what on earth he will do if Doyle never shows up and bails on everything. Elsewhere on the field, Jo Youngko wonders why they are even hanging around this late. Park Kang-wook says they came because of him since he's the kind of guy whose orders cannot be ignored. Plus, with Donggu asking so seriously, he felt forced to help out. Honestly, he still is not sure if that request was actually begging or just blackmail. Jo Youngko says they should leave, but Kang-wook really wants to wait and see. Nearby, Park Jingu is laughing like crazy, totally thrilled for this fight with Sukdong. He has been craving something like this ever since his military days. Around the field, the Suman students really admire Park Jingu, one guy even pointing out his crazy athletic build. Then the Suman High School cheer squad actually shows up. One girl tells her friend Mina this feels way more like a gang war, wondering why they even need a cheer squad here. Mina answers that having a pretty girl cheering matters in literally any situation. Then she scans the huge crowd, clearly annoyed that Doyle is missing and she has to look at everyone else. Meanwhile, Donggu keeps staring at his phone, cursing Doyle for causing all this insane chaos and then just vanishing. When the clock hits 7:59 p.m., one student points out fighting Sukdong makes zero sense, saying they should totally run while they still can. That just makes Donggu panic even more. He is literally shaking with fear. Over at Yeongdeungpo Station, Doyle walks with Jigwon, who mentions he found his small studio apartment right near his home. Doyle snaps back. If he wants to die, he should just get it over with. Checking the time, 8:11 p.m., he suddenly realizes he is seriously late. As he keeps moving, someone purposely slams right into his shoulder. Back on the school field, everyone keeps wondering what is taking so long. It is already past 8. Donggu suddenly starts laughing, mostly from pure relief because deep down he always knew this never made any sense. The others relax too, figuring Sukdong stayed away because Suman has a ridiculously nasty reputation. The mood finally loosens up and Mina even brings out fried chicken for this fight that never happened. Soon the students are chatting and taking group photos. Park Hae-wook jokes about how today was supposed to be about showing their power, then casually asks his buddy for a cigarette. But for a second, the whole mood tightens. When he repeats himself, his friend just stares toward the school gates in absolute shock. A massive crowd is heading straight for them. The sight leaves Donggu and the others totally stunned and terrified. The invading group crosses the dirt field without even slowing down. Their leaders finally come into view. Jang Yongwon, head of Kangol High School under Sukdong. Jang Dongman, leader of Munchin High School Bei Yuan, Sukdong's number 3, and Jang Chansik, their number 2. Then their leader Wang Gui steps right forward and roars, demanding to know who the demon of Suman is. At that exact same moment, back in the station, Yu Dong-suk completely blocks Doyle's path, greeting him with a smile. Jigwon just watches, thinking this has become a huge pain. Still at the station, Yu Hayoung, the leader of the Norm group, speaks up to Doyle. He mentions they might let someone off the first time, but never the second. Now, watch back at Suman School. By 8:24 p.m., the fight is underway. Donggu gets punched so ridiculously hard his glasses fly right off as he hits the dirt. Off to the side, Wang Gui calmly sits there eating raw meat with drinks in hand. He watches as the Suman students get chased down and brutally beaten. Donggu runs in sheer panic, frantically yelling at them to stay away. Wang Gui picks up another piece of raw meat, casually asking Jang Chansik if this runaway kid is actually Suman's leader. Chansik replies that his face definitely seems to match the one in the photo. He adds that judging by his total lack of presence, Donggu looks like a complete nobody just piggybacking off someone else's reputation. But honestly, Baekyu Hwan isn't buying that excuse at all. He wonders how a random punk could manage to strike 2 of their turf spots in Yeonyang and Seoman. Jang Shan-sik just laughs in his face, asking if he seriously thinks Donggu matters. Yu Soo-hwan fires back that he missed the point. Here is the real issue. These absolute fools actually had the nerve to challenge Sukdong's school, and honestly, we are just as confused as he is. Everywhere the Suman students are getting completely flattened. Wang Guk-cheol casually keeps chewing his food. He claims with total confidence that the demon is definitely here, exactly like Baek Jo-il warned him earlier. Smack in the middle of this total chaos, Donggu flashes back to Doyle's #1 rule of blackhead close combat. Keep your emotions in check. The rule is dead simple, stay completely calm. But an attacker points him out as the boss and shouts to jump him. Donggu instantly panics and sprints away, screaming his lungs out that he isn't the leader. He legitimately wonders how any normal human is supposed to stay chill while actively getting beaten to death. Then that second major lesson hits him. Build up your stamina and conserve it. Burn as little energy as you possibly can. Donggu decides the whole staying calm thing can wait. At least he trained like a beast for endurance, remembering those absolute nightmare workout sessions. Even with that, taking hits while sprinting makes him realize training was barely enough. He just starts shrieking in pure pain and blind panic. He finally gets it. In a 1 versus 20 brawl, the mob naturally starts off with infinitely more stamina than a single target. Then he loses his footing for a split second. A gang member instantly blasts him across the face with a brutal kick, sending Dong-gu completely flying. He violently struggles back up to his feet, gasping and totally wiped out. The attackers box him and ordering him to just accept his beatdown. Completely terrified, Dong-gu screams out what good is stamina against a mob this massive, and then rubber bullets suddenly shred right through the battlefield chaos. A quick flashback rolls. Doyle hands someone a literal gun and asks for 2,000,001 in return. The buyer is completely stunned he would actually part with something so insanely valuable. Turns out the piece is a 9mm Glock 24 packed tightly with specialized rubber rounds. Cutting back to the brawl, our shooter is a massive student named Chang Su rocking a heavy protective vest. He checks if Dong-gu is still alive, and Dong-gu instantly shouts out his name in pure relief. But before they can even celebrate, a Sikdong member kicks him right back into the dirt. The attacker sneers, asking who this pig is, and starts ruthlessly beating him. Dong-gu scrambles up, screaming Chang Su's name as the big guy marches through a literal rain of incoming kicks. Dong-gu yells at them, "You complete cowards for swarming a guy like this." One thug laughs and fires back. How can they call anyone a coward when their own crew literally brought a gun to the fight? In that exact split second, Dong-gu remembers Doyle's third major lesson: stick strictly to the basics. A gang member shouts out that packing heat is the ultimate coward move, except Dong-gu isn't the one holding the weapon. He charges and slips right past a wild punch and fires off a beautiful, clean counterstrike. The thug drops straight to the pavement. Dong-gu absolutely beams with newfound confidence, realizing his heavily practiced double punch actually worked. He tells Chang Su to hang on tight. Time to make these guys pay. But unfortunately, that tiny spark of hope dies instantly. A Sikdong punk kicks him square in the back, curses Ma Dong-gu out, and orders the mob to crush him flat. Taking heavy blow after heavy blow, Dong-gu remembers lesson number 4. Weaponize your grudge and sheer willpower. He just keeps eating hit after brutal hit. The Suman students realize how totally screwed they are. They are outmanned 10-1 here. Jo Yoon-cheol tells Park Kang-wook they desperately need to run away. Jo Yoon-cheol is already full on bolting, screaming over his shoulder for his buddy to follow. After 1/10 Park Kang-wook chases after him, yelling for him to hold up. Then Park Jin-gu leaps into the fray, flexing some genuinely insane strength and dropping 30 Sikdong thugs entirely solo. Baekyu Hwan watches closely, admitting that Park Jin-gu is undeniably strong. Honestly, it is exactly what you would expect from Il-gyong's former number 3 guy. Still, he totally writes off the rest of the Suman crew as dead weight. Meanwhile, Jang Chan-sik bellows at his men, ordering them to herd the stragglers right into the dead center of the field for a final slaughter. The clock hits 8:42 p.m., and Baekyu Hwan still cannot shake this nasty feeling that something is very wrong. How did these high school punks successfully hit their workshops, and how did they even force Wang Guk-cheol to show up in person? By now, the Suman fighters are completely drained. Park Jin-gu wonders if this is the legendary pack hunting style of Seokdong School. Down on the field, Jang Chan-sik aggressively barks at his gang. He asks why they are just standing around, ordering them to end this right now. The mob of attackers immediately rushes the totally terrified Suman kids. Meanwhile, a cheerleader tells Mina this is definitely not the time to keep casually eating fried chicken. The other girls mention they should probably call the police. Mina just mocks the Suman fighters for being absolute losers right before realizing her phone is completely missing. Out of nowhere, Jang Do-min steps right in front of them, roughly demanding to know what 2 pretty girls are doing out here. Farther down the street, Park Kang-wook and his buddy are fully sprinting away, his friends screaming at him to hurry up. Park Kang-wook skids to a halt, breathing heavy, and flat out says he has to go back. Jo Yoon-cheol stares at him like he lost his mind, asking if he dropped his phone and telling him to just look for it tomorrow. But Park Kang-wook remembers that heavy promise he made to Dong-gu. He tells his buddy, "Hey, I am Park Chang-gu, a guy who's practically made of suffering. Pain does not scare me anymore." Jo Yoon-cheol just stares at him, completely baffled by that insane logic. Meanwhile, back at school, Jang Do-man hauls the cheerleaders away over his shoulder, totally humiliated and silently swearing absolute payback. Over in some alley, Dong-gu takes a brutal beating. A gang member just drags him right along. He collapses in pure despair. All that weird blackhead training feels totally useless now, and he curses Duel for being a complete fraud. Later on the field, Dong-gu is forced down on his knees, gag in his mouth, hands tightly bound. He's lined up right next to all the other beaten students. Park Jin-gu lies nearby, knocked out cold and bleeding heavily. One Guaoi just sits on a bench, muttering over and over that the devil actually lives here. Then he brushes off the whole idea of Duel being real as total nonsense. He wonders why Beijol ever lied to him. Jiang Chan-sik asks Guaoi what they should do with all these captives. Guaoi simply orders them to start the punishment. The first student is going to lose an eye. The next one gets both ears completely ripped off. For Changgu, he orders a leg crushed so he can use him as a chair. And for Donggu, the guy who fought back until the bitter end, he gives a very simple order: kill him. Guaoi then explains the whole cover story to Jin Yonghuan. They are framing this as a clash between Kang Seho and Sum Hai, where one poor troublemaker tragically died. He asks if that story works, and Yonghuan completely agrees. Yonghuan promises to grab students with criminal records and clean this mess up quietly. Guaoi laughs coldly while the terrified prisoners violently shake. Jiang Chan-sik sneers at one student. He asks if the kid finally understands his massive mistake. The student completely breaks down, screaming and begging for mercy just this once. Guaoi ignores him completely. He looks at a tied-up Donggu, notes how he fought to the very end, and asks if he really is their leader. Then Wan Guaoi orders that exact same captive student to murder Donggu himself. He tosses him a sharp knife. If he does it, his own punishment gets completely cancelled. The student freezes solid, remembering Guaoi wanted to gouge his eye out. Jiang Chan-sik and another thug watch with awful mocking smiles. With a wildly shaking hand, the student actually reaches out and takes the knife. Then he walks slowly toward the bound Donggu. Chang Su watches in tears, totally helpless to stop this nightmare. Standing right in front of Donggu, the student cries and blames him. Why did he have to do something so incredibly stupid? He asks what weak people like them actually thought they could change here. Through heavy sobs, he says losers like them were never going to win anyway. Donggu flashes back to those painful years, getting bullied absolutely everywhere all the time. The student says enduring pain is the only thing they are actually good at. They should have just kept suffering in silence. Back in the present, two Sukdong guys mock his mental breakdown. They complain this is getting pretty boring. The student just keeps yelling at Donggu. What right did they ever have to try and save anybody else? Jiang Chan-sik finally loses his patience and strikes him. He orders the kid to quit crying and stab Donggu right now, warning he dies too if he refuses. Both hands violently shaking, the student grips the heavy knife under that crushing pressure. The gang members scream for him to hurry up, and he finally lets out a massive yell. But then a gunshot violently cracks through the air. Over in the alley, the cheer squad girls are tied up and gagged. Back on the field, Donggu looks up in pure shock, totally thinking Kim Duel finally arrived. But no, it is Park Kang-wook, standing in the pouring rain ordering Sukdong to stop. Kang-wook blames himself for coming back, calling himself entirely crazy. Since Ilgong fell, he feels like absolutely nothing is real anymore. He remembers Duel asking for his help, wondering why he should ever assist an enemy. But Duel reminded him of one fact: he is from some high school too. Kang-wook admits he might have actually lost his mind, falling for cheap words like that. Then he shouts at Sukdong to get out of their school right this second. Jiang Chan-sik heavily mocks him. Why tell them to leave when some actually invited them? Then Jiang Chan-sik moves in an absolute flash. Knife in hand, he aims straight for Kang-wook. Kang-wook instantly realizes this will not be easy at all. Jiang Chan-sik shoves a knife at the student, telling him to finish Donggu fast or end up dead. Park Kang-wook is already badly hurt and coughing hard. Meanwhile, the Sukdong thugs scream for the student to just stab Donggu. The student keeps thinking about those earlier words, "It is our turn now." He sees it as absolute nonsense. To him, weak people like them were never meant to have a turn. He breaks down completely, screaming that it was never going to be their turn anyway. Right then, Chang Su yells at Sang Chol. He desperately begs him not to stab Donggu. Sang Chol freezes for a brief second. Donggu shuts his eyes tight, totally ready for the end. And watch this crazy timing. A blinding light hits the field. A motorcycle tears through the Sukdong thugs, launching them straight into the air. Duel has finally shown up. He steps through the rain without a single hint of fear. Gang members close in from both sides while the tied-up cheerleaders just stare in absolute shock. Duel asks Guan exactly how many enemies are out here. He coldly answers 87. After hearing that number, Duel asks for his help. Guan agrees right away. Dong Yong-wan has zero clue who he is dealing with and charges straight in. He never even makes it. Doyle drops him fast with a brutal flurry of punches, stepping forward alongside Gihen like it is nothing. Sang Chai just stares up at his savior, tears suddenly welling in his eyes. The whole reality hits him hard. Sang Chai totally breaks down, crying in pure relief. Doyle walks right over to him. He tells the kid to stand up. It is finally their turn. Flashback to the train station earlier, an intercom announcing a departure for Busan. Ju Ho-young warns Doyle straight up he might let an enemy slide once but never twice. Running into Doyle again feels like pure fate, so Ju-ha invites him for a drink. Yu Jang-suk notices Doyle seems pretty rushed though. Ju-ha just tosses him a key. He mentions the spot is right by the first exit of the station. Then he heads out, promising they will absolutely grab that drink next time. The second he leaves, Yu Jang-suk turns to Ju-ha asking why he keeps helping that kid. Let us jump back to the absolute chaos on the field. Doyle and Gian are tearing through the Sukdong guys like wet paper. Donggu just stares completely clueless about Doyle's new helper. But whoever he is, these two have already flattened more than 70 people in record time. Off to the side, Seo Mina is somehow untied and casually eating fried chicken while cheering Doyle on. Donggu just watches her wondering who actually freed her. Over on the Suman side, a panicked student runs straight up to Park Kangwook asking if he is alright. Kangwook brushes it off. He jokes that he is still the forever pummeled Kangwook. What other possible reason would he have to even show up here? He flashes the thick padding strapped tightly around his stomach. He definitely came prepared. The guy is just glad he is safe, even if that weird nickname makes zero sense. Nearby, Park Jingu lies sprawled out in the dirt, completely bloody and unconscious, hoping nobody forgets him. Watching this happen, Chang-Soo quietly wonders if they should seriously just sit back. He points right at Seo Mina munching on chicken in the back. Somehow, she is the only person here who managed to avoid a massive beating. He remembers Doyle walking up earlier. He apologized for the delay, then ordered all the injured students to fall back and rest so they would not block his path. Donggu sighs, admitting they are way too injured to actually jump in anyway. Then a different detail catches his eye. Boss Wang Guai does not care that his men are getting crushed. If anything, the guy looks highly entertained by it. Suddenly, Jang Chunsik erupts into wild, absolute madman laughter. He strides right toward Doyle, openly mocking the Suin school for hiding their little secret weapon. He claims it all makes perfect sense now. Complete trash students would never dare challenge him without a reason. For Chunsik, Doyle is the actual prey he has been hunting for today. Then it finally clicks why Doyle looks so familiar. He is the exact lying bastard who beat Bei Jishul. Jang Chunsik whips out a bounty flyer. It shows Doyle right there under the name Thunderfist, proving he is their target. Hearing that, Wang Guai cracks up, calling the nickname totally childish. He admits Doyle has decent combat skill. Still, he completely looks down on the guy who supposedly forced one of their 12 leaders into an early retirement. Wang Guai scoffs that Doyle really does not look very special. This pulls us straight into the bloody history of Jang Chunsik. Way before Bei Jishul finally united the Iliang school, Chunsik almost accomplished it first. People totally wrote him off as a loser after the clash with Jishul, but he clawed his way up, claiming Southwest Seoul and building a genuinely feared reputation. His absolute cruelty is what truly terrified everyone. He became infamous for savage threats, literally chopping off fingers just to mentally break his rivals. Back in the present chaos, Park Jingu forces himself upright. He frantically warns Doyle that Jang Chunsik is a total monster who fights dirty to win. But before Chunsik can even flinch, Doyle tags him with a blindingly fast, precise strike. Chunsik is left just standing there, completely stunned. Then the grim reality hits him. Doyle directly nailed the fainting pressure point on his hand. He cannot even fathom how someone spots and hits a target that small mid-brawl. It has to be impossible. He fights to stay totally calm, refusing to get rattled by a fraud. Chunsik convinces himself Doyle is just running dirty little mind games. Well, he can easily play that game too. So he fakes a total meltdown. He charges forward, screaming about murder, and launches a vicious kick, but Doyle casually slips right past the attack. That is exactly what Chunsik wants. He is playing the part of a reckless idiot fighting on pure blinding rage. The entire plan is to make Doyle believe he is mentally shattered and is just swinging wildly. Watch closely, this is a classic trap. In reality, he is studying him setting up a lethal finishing blow. By constantly targeting Doyle up high, he assumes the kid will definitely drop his guard. Chunsik throws a calculated bait punch to force Doyle down. A nasty smile creeps up. He thinks this fight is already over. Park Jingu instantly recognizes the stance. It is Jang Chunsik's signature move, the face-crushing knee strike. But what happens next leaves the boss completely frozen in shock. Doyle fires back with a brutal lightning-fast uppercut. Chunsik cannot comprehend it at all. He clearly attacked first. Yet before his brain even catches up, Doyle is already hammering him with an absolutely devastating combo. Chunsik is practically spinning. Based on Doyle's awful positioning and timing, that counterstrike should have been physically impossible to pull off. He dropped a signature technique he believed was absolutely unbeatable, and Doyle still completely shut the man down. That is the exact moment he realizes in pure horror. Doyle is miles ahead of him. Panic sets in tight, but Chunsik tries to choke it down by throwing one last desperate punch. He sees the next strike from Doyle coming right at him. He tracks it perfectly, but his body freezes up completely. No way to dodge. The combat style Doyle uses makes zero sense. Chunsik starts seriously questioning what kind of absolute monster he is even fighting. He finally believes the rumored Doyle really is the guy who crushed Bei Jolu. A split second later, Doyle launches the final knockout blow. Chunsik hits the concrete and instantly blacks out. With the fight wrapped up, Wang Guowi stares down Doyle, realizing he is looking at the actual demon of Suman. Doyle turns to face him totally ice cold. He says he had no clue Guawi was even here. Right in the middle of this tense stare-down, Wang Guawi literally grabs the motorcycle Doyle rode in on and chucks it at him with terrifying strength. Doyle barely dodges. The heavy bike smashes into pieces on the dirt. Guawi just stands there flexing his muscles. The Sumin students are left totally speechless. Nobody can quite process that Guai just threw an entire motorcycle. Everyone else starts believing the wild rumor, the one about him killing an actual bear. Is this guy even human at this point? Meanwhile, Park Jong-go tells Dong-gu that Doyle is in for a brutally hard fight. He warns him not to underestimate Guawi either. Suddenly, Jong-go gets completely blindsided by Yu Huan, the number 3 guy from Sukdong. Park Jong-go explains that Yu Huan was originally their number 2 right up until Chun Sik showed up. He points out that in pure combat skill, Yu Huan is actually several levels above Chun Sik. This totally shocks Dong-gu. Why only 3rd place? The reason is super simple. Chun Sik simply makes way more money for their street gang. Because of the money issue, Yu Huan got bumped down the ranks. Park Jong-go then drops a huge reveal. The father of Yu Huan is actually Bei Su. He was the very first champion of the OFC. That means Yu Huan has pure fighter blood in his veins. The guy is a natural-born genius. Back in the action, Yu Huan openly mocks Ji Won for just standing around. He asks if he forgot how to throw a punch or just cannot find a decent opening. Doyle answers for him, shouting at Ji Won not to kill the guy. Ji Won casually replies he is just calculating how much strength to actually use. It has been a really long time since he fought without lethal intent. Hearing this, Yu Huan just laughs, brushing it off as cheap trash talk. He claims even killer intent is not enough. Not against him. And with that, the two of them finally clash. Yu Huan rushes in hard, but Ji Won slips past every single strike like it is nothing. Yu Huan is left completely stunned by this. How is this guy avoiding everything so casually? You have to see this trick. Ji Won is perfectly reading the patterns of Yu Huan and predicting every single move. Yu Huan gets furious, wondering how long this arrogant jerk plans to keep acting so completely superior. Suddenly, Ji Won strikes out, casually pointing out that the movements of Yu Huan are way too wide. A split second later, he counters with such insane speed that Yu Huan takes a clean hit, completely confused about when the guy even moved. Ji Won keeps the heavy pressure on and slams Yu Huan straight into the dirt with a brutal punch, wiping blood right off his face. Ji Won actually admits the aim of Yu Huan is sharp and pretty impressive, but looking down at him, he casually says this is absolutely nothing. In a real street fight, Yu Huan would already be a corpse. That brutal insult sends him straight into a blind rage. He flashes right back to his father, calling him a completely useless brat. In his mind, Ji Won is acting way too cocky after landing just a single hit, so he charges right back and screaming threats the whole way. Watching from the sidelines, Dong-gu realizes Yu Huan is insanely fast. But even with that speed, Ji Won slips past the attack with total ease. That just makes Yu Huan even angrier. He curses him out, swearing he will test exactly how long this guy can keep dodging. Park Jong-go is absolutely stunned by the speed Ji Won has. He remembers Zhang Chan once warning him to never pick a fight with that exact man. Still, Jong-go grows extremely tense watching it. Ji Won is avoiding these savage attacks by a single hair, and the fight is getting totally brutal. He feels like Yu Huan might clip him at any given second, but from the perspective of Ji Won, dodging this endless barrage is actually super simple. Suddenly, Ji Won fires back with a massive heavy punch. Yu Huan cries out in pure pain. Ji Won instantly notices his reflex just targeted a vital spot. That genuinely worries him. He really does not want Yu Huan to die out here. So he steps in to end this fast, asking Yu Huan directly, which one do you want, broken an arm or a leg? Those exact words drag up incredibly ugly memories for Yu Huan as he writhes on the ground. He remembers his own father cruelly mocking him, demanding to know why he never inherited his talent, why he always stayed stuck beneath him. Deep down, Yu Huan fiercely rejects it all. His idiot father is dead wrong. Fueled by pure spite, he screams out that he is the superior fighter here. Every battle he ever fought was just to prove it. Inside his head, he is the absolute apex predator. He launches at Ji Won with savage, uncontrolled force, totally furious about being looked down on like trash. Dong-gu sees Yu Huan get somehow even faster. Pushing the attack, Yu Huan yells out that Ji Won cannot treat him this lightly anymore. And Ji Won snaps out a blindingly quick punch that lands perfectly on Yu Huan. Reeling in total shock, Yu Huan thinks the guy literally just teleported. A second later, he recognizes it as an incredibly advanced close-range technique from the Blackhead organization. The move is known as the gun. For the first time ever, Yu Huan feels like prey facing down a giant beast. Game over. Pure shock spreads across his face as Ji Won slams another heavy hit into his gut, leaving Dong-gu and the others completely stunned. Guiyun doesn't stop there. He follows up with a fast, scattered 4-hit combo. Dong-gu completely freezes. He cannot believe a heavy hitter like Bong Yuan got crushed that easily and fast. Yu Huan drops right to the dirt, blood pouring directly from his head. Gui-yun just stands over him, ice-cold stare. Elsewhere, Sukdong School's number 4 Jian Jong-soo finally catches his breath. Trapped in a total nightmare by an absolute madman, everything around him is pure chaos. He holds the member list right in his trembling hands. Complete forced surrender. Over at the Gimshin Juvenile Detention Center, Jong-yoon high school leader Si-eun gets a seriously hostile visit from Baek. Si-eun cannot understand how a guy who can barely walk hits that incredibly hard. Baek says he heard all about Kwon attacking Suman's school. He casually replies he only heard a tiny bit in the visiting room. But the second Baek realizes that is actually all he knows, he suddenly stabs Si-eun right in the neck. Baek totally understands how the protagonist operates. Kwon definitely orchestrated this. Elsewhere, 2 other guys discuss the exact same situation. One tells Juwon, the number 2 guy of the National Union, 3rd team, that Kwon is hitting Suman's school. Juwon adds a massive rumor going around. Someone at Suman practically forced Baek into retirement. The other guy brushes it off as gossip, but if true, Suman has 0 chance. There just are not many monsters on the protagonist's massive level. Back at Suman, Do-il keeps pressing Kwon with fierce hits. Kwon does not even bother dodging. He tanks every single strike with raw toughness, leaving Dong-gu totally wondering what kind of unbelievable freak he is. He fires off non-stop dangerous blows. Do-il cleanly dodges every single one of them. Do-il even grabs a bench to use as a literal weapon against the protagonist. Watching this madness, Dong-gu is completely amazed that Kwon can absorb such brutal damage. Plus, his destructive power is completely insane. Dong-gu suddenly realizes Kwon exists on an entirely different level. Meanwhile, a National Union member tells Juwon everything he actually knows about the guy. He claims he does not know much about Baek since that falls under another team, but he swears he literally saw the protagonist beat a real bear to death. Absolute insanity. Do-il is still taking hits from Kwon. Jong-soo genuinely fears that even just blocking this massive monster could completely shatter Do-il's arm. Even so, Do-il refuses to back off. Kwon rushes in with another crushing hit. Do-il neatly slips right past it. They start trading punches at truly blinding, unbelievable speed. Dong-gu just cannot wrap his head around it. How is a massive guy like Kwon this ridiculously fast? He looks like a completely broken game character. One guy admits the bear story might actually be completely true. With so many wild monsters around, it just does not seem impossible anymore. But the other guy instantly corrects him. This is different. The protagonist is completely psycho. Gui-yun explains the huge gap. Baek is a fearless psycho, but Kwon is way worse. A lunatic who goes completely berserk the second he feels genuine fear. Gui-yun shares the bear story, saying the protagonist was not even fighting for his own survival. To him, it was essentially just a game. Born with a body pushing way past normal human limits, he never felt fear, so he desperately wanted to finally experience it. Gui-yun simply calls that reverse fear. He finishes by saying that facing Kwon is exactly like staring down pure despair. Pure terror washes over Dong-gu and the rest. But right in the middle of the fight with blood dripping down his face, Do-il actually starts smiling. In his cell, Baek laughs softly to himself, wondering if Kwon finally ran into Do-il. In a flash, Do-il dashes forward, strikes Kwon, and cleanly slices off his right ear. Kwon grabs his head. He screams out in absolute pain and fury. Over in prison, a bloodied Baek wears a pretty chilling smile, completely wondering if the protagonist is finally feeling the fear. Do-il tells the screaming Kwon to just shut up, reminding him of reality. Then Baek thinks back to that weird feeling he experienced during his own fight with Do-il. At that exact moment, Kwon's face twists. Pure, absolute rage. The scene cuts over to a police station where Jong-soo sits across from Officer Chung-sik. Chung-sik confirms Jong-soo ran an illegal gambling site and is turning himself in, which Jong-soo admits. The officer then asks why he is suddenly surrendering out of nowhere. This is not his first crime. What is the real trick here? Jong-soo just hesitates. Does he seriously think he can betray Kwon and just walk away? Police protection only goes so far, and Jong-soo absolutely knows it. Now here is a wild thought. Humans reach the top of the living pyramid using intelligence, the very trait that let them build groups and invent tools. Without that precious brain power, humanity would be sitting in a completely different spot. A naturally strong person gets stronger through training, which clearly requires serious intelligence too. But that raises a major question. What if someone is born with power way beyond normal limits? That basically means a real monster was born, and that is exactly Kwon. Back in the day, he could easily knock out 100 pull-ups while weighing over 100 kilos without even breaking a sweat. Ever since birth, his physical limits were just miles beyond normal. Flashback time. A teacher refused to believe this kid took down an entire bear barehanded, but the rumors spread anyway. And just like that, the legend of monster Guokji was born. Barely anyone in the whole country could match his strength. But right now, at Suman High, Guokji's severed ear is literally lying in the dirt. This absolute monster just finally collided with something way worse. Blood pours down Guakji's face. He demands to know who this guy is, especially since he is fighting completely unarmed. Doyle just casually digs a finger into his own ear. Donggu watches from the sidelines in pure shock. He wonders if Doyle just tore the ear off with bare hands, but quickly rethinks that wound is a perfectly clean slice. Bei mutters that even Guakji is totally out of his depth here. Guakji is absolutely losing his mind. He desperately tries to figure out what insane trick Doyle just used to pull off the impossible. Guakji launches a brutal cheap shot mid-sentence. Doyle easily sidesteps the whole thing. The savage brawl rages on. Guakji totally snaps and unleashes an absolute hurricane of rapid punches, but Doyle just dances through the chaos with razor-sharp dodges. Donggu realizes he cannot even track the guy's movements anymore. Yet somehow, Doyle easily blocks a massive bone-breaking hook from Guakji, and the high-speed clash just keeps accelerating. Gu Young watches in total awe. He knows Guakji is a top-tier mercenary-level threat, completely baffled how a beast like that is still playing around in high school turf wars. Then Doyle answers back, slamming a devastating hook right into Guakji. The big guy screams out from the crushing impact, and right then, Gu Young realizes one massive detail. The guy wrecking him is Doyle. Let us jump back to the police station for a second, where an officer is interrogating Jung-soo. The cop repeats Jung-soo's totally crazy story. Supposedly, someone mailed him a clip of a real murder, threatened his life, and forced him into this confession. The tired cop just demands to see the footage. We know Jung-soo's computer randomly self-destructed earlier today. He tries explaining that to the cop, who just laughs in his face and asks if he is totally hammered. Jung-soo desperately swears he is sober and insists that footage was way worse than your average snuff film. Over at the schoolyard brawl, Guakji stares down Doyle in pure terror. There is no way this kid is human. Doyle is actually having fun now. He totally anticipates Guakji winding up for a second cheap shot. Guakji rushes forward with everything left in the tank, screaming that he finally found a real challenge. He throws a massive swing, but Doyle slips right past. Jingu gasps from the sidelines, "Wait, Guakji actually caught Doyle." Doyle stays completely chill. He moves instantly and counters with a sharp strike, making Guakji flinch in sheer panic, absolutely terrified of losing another body part. The monster flings Doyle away to create distance, but Doyle lands perfectly in his face, mocking him for being a massive coward. Guakji completely freezes up. Him scared, Doyle immediately punches him again while the big guy desperately denies his own fear. There is no way he is terrified. Jingu just watches in pure confusion, wondering if that last strike gave Guakji brain damage. Guakji furiously roars out that he does not even know the meaning of fear. Doyle just sighs. This guy is getting really annoying. So he switches to a high-level Baiko fighting-style technique, the double burst. Check this out. Back at the police station, Jung-soo drops a massive bomb. He warns the cop that the victim in Doyle's video was a huge deal. The guy was a Colombian presidential candidate who disappeared 2 years ago. Down on the battlefield, Doyle's heavy strike absolutely destroys Guakji. Inside his own fading consciousness, Guakji drops into pitch-black space, staring up as something colossal crushes down. It feels like a massive phantom finger crashing from the heavens, and he knows it is totally unavoidable. The defeat is absolute, leaving Jin, Mina, Jingu, and the rest of the crowd totally dead silent. Doyle just steps right over the shattered monster. Later on, an imprisoned Bei asks Guakji if Doyle was actually that overwhelming. Miles away, Ho stares blankly, asking himself if that crazy broadcast from Suman High was real. Back at the school, Donggu screams in pure victory they actually won. Doyle immediately shuts that hype down. He won this war, not the school. Guakji and his entire crew lie totally unconscious in the dirt. Kang Wook mutters a curse, genuinely impressed these little high school punks survived. All the Sumin students lose their minds. The crowd swarms Doyle, hoisting him onto their shoulders like a hero, while Jin Mina furiously yells at everyone to back off her man. Far from the loud party, Sang Chul, the kid blackmailed into carrying a blade, just sits completely alone in the pouring rain. While Doyle rides Jingu's shoulders to massive cheers about a whole new era of school life beginning, Sang Chul stays totally isolated, sobbing into his hands. Far away from the noise, Ho is still paralyzed with shock, wondering if those impossible results are actually true. By the time summer hits, the insane legend is everywhere. Suman High, a totally normal school, completely crushed Sukdong High, one of Seoul's worst delinquent empires. It truly felt like a miracle. Headlines blow up fast. Sukdong has officially fallen and justice finally wins. Somewhere else, a guy from the Raging Writers gang reads the screen, completely stunned by the update. A second later, he completely loses it, cracking up like it is the funniest joke ever. Meanwhile, Hull discusses things with another guy who confirms this insane news is actually about Suman High. Hull mentions their new leader goes by the name Donggu. The guy figures Donggu has to be an absolute beast if he actually took down Won Gukui. He suggests getting on his good side, and Ho totally agrees. Ho immediately orders his men to invite Donggu over politely and pitch a recruitment offer. That guy is you, one of the National Union's 3 pillars. Suman's victory spreads fast, but for one specific guy, the pain just lingers. Up on a roof, Sang Cheol sits next to Donggu. He knows he cannot just pretend everything is fine or return to normal after what he pulled. Guilt completely eats him alive. He just cannot carry that heavy burden anymore. Even so, he thanks Donggu for actually showing him kindness. He stares down at a phone picture clearly labeled "Our Time at Suman." He promises to guard that memory forever. Shortly after, Sang Cheol's friend actually transfers out of the school. Later in the anime club room, Donggu screams at Jingu and the rest of the crew. He demands to know why they hang around here when they literally ignore anime. Turns out they only show up because Sang Cheol's friend left. Jingu shoots Doyle a cold glare and asks who he should eliminate first. Right then, Mina loudly whines about the terrible heat. Bongu snaps back that the AC sits at 18 degrees, reminding her to wear the official uniform during club hours. He looks over. Total shock. Kang Wook is actually hanging there. But Kang Wook quickly points out they are the ones who begged for his help to begin with. Donggu cheerfully suggests snapping a group photo. Meanwhile, Doyle screams at him to stop wearing only underwear to school. They take the shot, and slowly, this incredibly weird family expands. Suman itself undergoes a massive shift. A few students thank Donggu for making the school better, though he humbly insists he really did absolutely nothing. Doyul rudely cuts in, agreeing that part is true. He did all the heavy lifting. Then he demands 30,000 won from everyone for protection fees. Donggu screams at him to get lost. Yeah, things really are changing around here. The anime club starts planning a fun summer trip to Japan for a movie. Sitting nearby, Doyle flat out calls the whole idea completely stupid. Now, pay close attention to this next move. One student stares, wondering why he wants a fight. Doyle ignores them, declaring they will hit Jeju Island for a month instead. The whole class loudly protests. Who gave him that authority? He coldly fires back that he will do whatever he wants, making his logic sound completely ridiculous. Doyle then orders the entire class to pack up and get ready immediately. Once summer vacation officially kicks off, they will start a very special project. Doyle reveals himself as the head training leader with Giant as the main instructor. This nightmare is called the Weakling Rehabilitation Project Hell Training. Donggu instantly protests. He asks how Doyle gets to make the rules when he is the actual leader, but Doyle drops the exact same freezing response. He will do whatever he pleases. Bam. Summer vacation violently begins. Down on Jeju Island, Mina and her friend are absolutely thrilled to hang out there for a whole month. Her friend shows off a wild new photo app that makes you look like a famous celebrity. Mina gets super excited, ready to snap some fancy shots. She jokingly asks out loud if anyone wants to oil up her body. Standing super close, Doyle casually offers to do it for 100,000 won per body part. Mina gets super annoyed at the insane price tag. Meanwhile, Donggu screams, wondering why everyone even followed him here. Back at camp, hell training is already in full swing. Giant aggressively shouts for the students to pick up the pace, asking if they plan to kill someone today. He throws out a dark warning. Run away, you die. A few kids skip training, claiming their parents forbade it. Donggu really wishes he used that exact excuse. Giant keeps dragging Kang Wook through absolute hell ruthlessly, mocking him for being so slow. Kang Wook loudly complains that Giant punched his solar plexus so hard he literally cannot breathe. But Giant just orders him back on his feet. Kang Wook screams in panic, asking why they would ever need to kill anyone. After one brutal month of training, everything shifts entirely. Giant still screams the exact same question. Will they kill someone today? This time, the students actually roar back together, yes, we will kill. Mina and her friend watch from the sidelines. I know, right? Her friend points out how terrifyingly fast people change in a single month, acting completely brainwashed now. Mina could not care less. She simply wants to know where Doyle wandered off to. Nearby, Donggu screams in pure agony, begging them to send him to North Korea instead. She watches him in absolute disgust, complaining that dealing with this pure nonsense first thing in the morning makes her want to scream. Over in Jeju's Yeondong area, several gang members lay completely dead across a bloody office floor. Deep inside, Doyle sits comfortably with the terrified gang boss. He chews on raw fish, complaining he hates the taste and would much rather eat some pork. Still, he casually mentions he will finish eating it since the boss went through the trouble. Heniel is absolutely dying inside. That food was definitely for him before Doyle randomly crashed the party. Sitting in the Yeondong gang office, the nervous leader asks exactly why he is here. Doyle tells him to drop the polite act. That just terrifies Heniel even more. He still remembers losing several gold teeth to Doyle back when the guy casually debated just killing him. Keeping up that completely icy tone, Doyle asks what he has been doing lately. He openly mocks Heniel still kidnapping random kids. Heniel scrambles to deny it. He claims he lives an honest life now. Doyle is not buying it. He calls out the lie right away, revealing he already knows about the secret illegal fighting ring. Hanil freezes up entirely, wondering how much Doyle actually knows. He tries brushing it off as a harmless little game. Doyle notes it seems pretty massive for a small game. Then he actually complains the fish tastes too fishy to keep eating. Hanil is secretly furious. Doyle already ate everything anyway. Then the actual rules come out. 10 fighters, a 5-meter high ring, and the last man standing wins with 0 rules or weight classes. He calls it insanely extreme while eating more annoying, Hanil even worse. Hanil rushes to defend the setup, swearing they plan to adjust the rules gradually and make it safer. Doyle cuts him right off. The no rules part absolutely great. Real fights do not have them anyway. A quick flash shows some students enduring brutal training shouting in perfect unison to kill. Right after that, Doyle gives an order. Throw in 3 of his own fighters. He also demands their absolute best 7 step up to face them. And here's where it gets wild: the Jeju Island illegal ring. Death 10 only runs on 2 rules. First up, 10 fighters enter and clash until just one remains standing. Second, that ring is a solid 5 meters high. If someone falls, the organizers take 0 blame and that fighter is instantly eliminated. Other than that, anything goes. Biting strikes to the back of the head, even scratching. In a place, this savage Kangwa just stares in pure despair, wondering why he is back here again. Suzy and her friends sit up in the stands, totally shocked a place like this exists in South Korea. They are pretty impressed by the massive size, but annoyed their phones got taken so they cannot post to Instagram. Down in the ring, Donggu stands there looking visibly nervous and tense. Up in the VIP room, Hanil brags slightly about the fancy setup. Doyle shoots back with heavy sarcasm. Did kidnapping rich kids pay for all this? Hanil nervously denies the accusation. He insists investors paid for everything. Doyle reminds him to drop the polite act, then asks which fighters actually matter since he demanded the best. Hesitating, Hanil explains their champion got into an accident and is stuck at school for the time being. Still, Hanil strongly assures Doyle they are fully prepared and absolutely will not disappoint him. Doyle tells him to continue while casually grabbing that coffee from Hanil and drinking it, which secretly drives the guy crazy. He kicks off the introductions. Fighter number 1, Han Hoi. Up in the stands, the girls call him handsome, though Suzy thinks he looks a bit cheesy. Hanil explains this Busan native is their current top fighter and former Death 10 world champion. Doyle casually asks if Hanil has heard of the 12 nations. Hanil admits he knows a little, so Doyle notes they must be famous if even he heard of them. Laughing nervously, Hanil calls them the future rulers of the Korean underworld. He admits that back when he was the exact same age as Doyle, he wanted that title too. Doyle coldly says he understands. This makes Hanil feel completely uneasy. Hanil goes on, Han Hoi actually belongs to the 12 nations, serving as a high-level fighter under Ju Haeyoung, the leader of No Orium. He adds that even pro fighters fear Ju Haeyoung. Han Hoi, being his close right-hand man, just proves his ridiculous skill level. This makes Doyle remember that deeply strange guy he met before Ju Haeyoung. Hanil then moves to the next guy. Fighter number 3 is Jeju native Yu Heecha. He reveals the dad of Heecha currently leads the Halabang gang. Hanil proudly claims he and the guy are basically brothers. So Heecha is pretty much a nephew to him. He adds the kid has incredibly solid basics since he was raised in the underworld and groomed from birth. Last up, fighter number 7 is Cha In-bom. Calling him a rising star after his rookie tournament win, Hanil warns Doyle not to underestimate the new guy. Doyle bluntly replies he never did, quietly irritating Hanil all over again. Hanil adds that In-bom used to roll with the Japanese Yakuza Nagumi, making his raw skills definitely worth watching closely. Doyle thinks to himself, Kia Nagami is exactly where that woman went. Up in the stands, Suzy feels like she has definitely seen fighter number 7 somewhere before. Hanil finishes up by explaining the rest fighters 2, 4, 5, and 6 are all ranked members of his group, so there is absolutely nothing to worry about. We have Kim Jong-ho ranked 4, An Jong at 41, Jung Man-soo at 9, and Bae Ji-hyuk ranked 7. After listing out the roster, Hanil nervously asks exactly who Doyle brought. He practically begged them not to be some blackhead organization strike team. He really did not want a bloodbath here. Doyle just casually took a sip and told him to relax. It was nothing like that. They were just his buddies from the anime club. Hanil stood there completely stunned. He honestly wondered what anime even meant, and more importantly, how a guy like Doyle had any friends at all. Draining his drink, Doyle cut the guy off and told him to just start the match already. Hanil was visibly annoyed, especially since Doyle chugged the entire cup. Down in the ring, our announcer hopped out in a full bunny costume. She introduced herself as Yua, the official mascot of Death 10. The crowd absolutely roared. She welcomed everyone to the surprise match, promising a bloody good Saturday night and one hell of a fight. The audience screamed loudly for Death 10. She introduced the 10 fighters by number. Number 1, An Hyode. Number 2, Kim Jong-ho. And number 3, Yu Heechul. Then came number 4, An Jang-gu, number 5, Jung Man-soo, and number 6, Baek Ho-kai. Rounding it out were 7, Cha Un-bom, 8, Park Jin-gu, and number 9, Park Kang-wook. Junggu took the number 10 spot. With that, Yua officially kicked off the match. Meanwhile, over at Jeju International Airport, a woman calmly strutted through the busy terminal. A subordinate informed her the trader had already arrived. She just smirked, noting it had been a really long time since her last trip to South Korea. This was Seolju, head of operations for Kat Nagumi. Back in the arena, the tension was incredibly thick. Yua hyped up how this special match was absolutely stacked with ranked fighters. Then number 2 made his first move. That was Kim Jong-ho, current rank 4. He won the very first Death 10 and brought some serious veteran skills to the cage. Jong-ho thought today's lineup felt incredibly weird. Elite fighters were just thrown in with total unknowns. Drawing on his experience, he figured hit and run was the smartest play. Numbers 1 and 3 were tough walls, so he decided to crush the rookies first. Park Jin-gu shouted out was he the main target, because he would gladly take that challenge anytime. The crowd turned up the volume, screaming for a clash. Jong-ho decided to put the giant muscle head down first. Easy money, easy cheers, and barely any damage before his next fight. The two immediately charged at each other while Yua hyped the moment to the ceiling. Jong-ho planned to snag a quick win, then safely bow out. He rushed Park Jin-gu, but On Hyade suddenly jumped into the mix and launched a kick at his face. Jong-ho barely managed to throw his hands up and block. He was totally stunned. Why was Hyade attacking right now? The guy had never struck first in any past match. Jong-ho dodged another wild strike. The announcer completely lost it over this sudden aggression from Hyade, who normally just stood still early on to conserve energy. Jong-ho yelled out, did he really want to fight? Hyade just fired back, asking if Jong-ho actually thought he could handle him. Hyade openly mocked him, telling him not to waste his stamina. If he was actually smart, he would just jump out of the ring right now. Grinning, he added that the drop wouldn't even hurt if he landed right. That little comment sent Jong-ho into an absolute rage. He screamed at Hyade to jump instead and swung hard. But Hyade smoothly slipped past, landed a massive punch, and grabbed him right by the throat. Watch this. The announcer screamed that fighter number 1 On Hyade was pushing his opponent right to the edge. Jong-ho tried to resist, but Hyade completely overpowered the guy and just hammered his face with heavy punches. Then he kicked him completely out of the ring. Jong-ho plunged from the massive height, leaving Suzy screaming in absolute horror. The announcer declared him eliminated in one single move. She was completely shocked. Rank 4 Kim Jong-ho was out, utterly destroyed by On Hyade. The crowd absolutely exploded, chanting On Hyade's name over and over. Up in the luxury VIP box, Hanil just laughed while watching the brutal fight. Doyle mentioned he could not believe Hanil built a place like this. Hanil quickly defended himself. These fighters came for the cash, nobody forced them to bleed. He explained how the top 5 walked away rich, while losers in 7th through 10th place just sank way deeper into debt. Plus, keeping this underground ring running was highly expensive, meaning the rules had to stay incredibly harsh. Hanil openly called the whole operation ruthless. Back in the ring, An Jang-gu casually walked right up to Park Jin-gu and greeted him long time no see. Meanwhile, Yu Heechul was cruelly toying with young Mansu. The guy just kept screaming out in pure agony. Yu Heechul brutally mocked him for running his mouth, reminding him he had already warned him to keep quiet. Sneering, he asked if Mansu wanted a broken jaw. He just kept kicking the guy until Mansu finally begged him to stop and took back every single word. But Yu Heechul ignored the begging completely and just kept stomping. The announcer screamed that number 3 Yu Heechul was absolutely wrecking fighter number 5 Jung Mansu. Deep in the crowd, Yu Heechul's father cheered him on. That was Yu Hanga, the Harabong gang boss of Jeju. As the brutal beating continued, the announcer officially called fighter number 5 eliminated. Jung Mansu was officially out, taken down by Yu Heechul. The entire crowd immediately started chanting Yu Heechul's name. Kwan, another fighter in the match, looked totally sickened. He wondered how anyone could actually cheer while a man was dying. Then he caught Yu Heechul staring right at him and instantly knew this guy was a complete psycho. Watching him snap another fighter's arm like a twig only proves the point. A second later, Heechul turns toward him wearing this absolute creep of a smile, clearly picking his next victim. Heechul walks right up, mocking MC for looking pathetic. Panicked MC begs him to just stay back. Elsewhere in the cage, An Jong-gu grabs his collar while Jae-hyuk screams at him to let go. Jong-gu is eating hit after hit, taking serious damage, but he absolutely refuses to loosen that grip. Jae-hyuk is completely trapped. With Jong-gu clinging this tight, he cannot properly attack or even defend himself. Cha In-beom and An Jong-gu are officially teaming up against Bae Jae-hyuk. The announcer hypes up their teamwork. Then Cha In-beom lands a clean shot to Jae-hyuk's face, making Jae-hyuk curse them out as dirty cowards. Even with brutal body shots pouring in, An Jong-gu still will not let Jae-hyuk go. Jae-hyuk finally grabs the guy and throws him off. The announcer screams, "Rank 7 is not going down easily." Breaking their teamwork, Jae-hyuk charges straight in. He goes head-to-head with Cha In-beom in a completely brutal exchange. This is exactly where Jae-hyuk's years of veteran experience start showing. Little by little, he completely takes control of the fight and backs In-beom right to the edge. With In about to fall, Jae-hyuk calls it over. But right as Jae-hyuk throws the finishing punch at Cha In, his fist dead stops. Jae-hyuk freezes up, totally confused by what just happened. The announcer screams that his savior has appeared at the exact perfect second. An Jong-gu just locked onto Jae-hyuk from behind. Absolutely furious, Jae-hyuk calls him a damn leech, wondering when he even got there. The announcer points out player number 4 An Jong-gu catching Jae-hyuk's leg. In jumps right on that opening and attacks while the announcer yells that nobody survives a 2-on-1 beating. These two lower-ranked guys completely overwhelm the 7th-ranked Jae-hyuk, and In just keeps hammering him. Jong-gu holds him completely pinned while In just keeps swinging without stopping. Finally, In finishes the whole fight with one final punch. Jae-hyuk gets eliminated. The two fighters stand there breathing heavy, getting completely ready for whoever comes next. Jong-ji watches in pure shock, wondering what these insane rules are. He complains that no real sport allows jumping people, calling the entire setup pure madness. But the announcer sounds absolutely thrilled, screaming that the ranked fighters are dropping one by one. This is what Death 10 is all about, she claims, urging the crowd to get even louder. Meanwhile, at the Harabang gang office in Jeju, Yu Honggu and his men lie dead in bloody pools. Seo Minju listens as her follower reports recovering every USB Honggu sold. Coldly, Minju asks where that person is now. After verifying the intel, she confirms the target is at the Death 10 arena. Switching back to the ring, Yu Haecheol walks up to Guan asking what his weird FIP nickname means. Guan replies it stands for forever, in pain, meaning he has suffered so deeply that he actually started enjoying it. Then he offers a deal. Let us take out the other fighters together first and just meet in the finals. Haecheol completely rejects him. He says Guan looks far too weak and absolutely tormenting weak people is his favorite thing in the world. Across the ring, Jong-gi gets battered by In. He tries fighting back, but An Jong-gu jumps in and grabs him from behind, making Jong-gi even more insanely furious. In just keeps ruthlessly punching Jong-gi right in the face. The announcer points out players 4 and 7 are officially teaming up again. She shouts that player 10 Ma Jong-ji is getting crushed. Jong-ju yells out, and suddenly, An Hodiak fires a massive kick right at his face, which Jong-ju barely manages to block. Hodiak scolds him, asking how anyone takes their eyes off an opponent, wondering if he needs the basics taught to him all over again. But let's pause and look back at the past, specifically the First Namel War, a major brutal clash between the No-Name and Ilgyeong groups. They fought for control over runaway teens, dragging the bloody battle out for 3 full days. Ultimately, Ilgyeong got humiliated, leaving No-Name on top. An Hodiak admits that even with Ju Haeyeon overseas, Ilgyeong's Pai Jicheol was still incredible. He was an absolute beast who nearly crushed all of No-Name by himself. Hodiak adds that if that beast of a man never existed, things never would have escalated into a second war. Then he mocks Jong-gu for glaring at him so hard, asking why he keeps bringing Pai Jicheol up. Coldly, Jong-gu answers that Jicheol is already dead. Back in the ring, Jong-gu reflects on how desperately he once craved power, even willing to sell his soul. But he realizes that old self is long gone. He declares a new master has risen inside his chest. Then Jong-gu dares Hodiak to come at him with absolutely everything he has, calling him interesting. Instantly, Hodiak rushes straight for his throat. The announcer explodes with hype. The star of Death 10 player number 1, An Hodiak, is moving at totally inhuman speed. Hodiak charges so insanely fast, it shocks the crowd, swinging a brutal kick at Jong-gu. Jong-gu blocks with his hand, but the massive impact still sends him flying. Then An Hyodo goes on the offensive again. He is unbelievably fast, unleashing a wild flurry of kicks and ending with a brutal high kick right to Jingu's face. The announcer is completely stunned. Player number 8 is somehow still standing, and he fires back with a massive punch. But An Hyodo slips past it effortlessly, staring at him in pure surprise. Up in the VIP room, Guiyong watches closely. Studying this fight, Guiyong realizes something major. An Hyodo is actually on a level practically matching that man. These definitely aren't the skills of some street thug. Even with a flawed style, his flashy attack pattern reminds Guiyong of the Russian Phoenix and his close-range brawling. After a brutal exchange, An Hyodo lands a perfectly clean hit. Yet Jingu refuses to back down, trying to strike right back. An Hyodo dodges it with absolute ease. He openly mocks his opponent, saying Jingu got a lot stronger and wondering how he survived that blow. Jingu has to admit this guy is just insanely strong. Deciding to push things even further, An Hyodo prepares a much stronger move. He calls out a back face kick, a move that instantly makes Guiyong remember the past. Jingu standing right behind him, begging to become stronger. That was all he ever wanted. Guiyong remembers how Jingu spent years just training his body. But lately, he felt completely stuck. No matter how hard he pushed, it only got worse, like sinking into mud instead of moving forward. In the end, he started believing he was born with solid limits he could never break. Back in the present, the announcer shouts in pure shock. Jingu actually endured the kick. The The crowd whispers in absolute disbelief, asking how this rookie is still hanging on loudly, praising the strength of player number 8. The announcer explains Antihero missed that back kick by the tiniest possible margin, and that little detail really starts to annoy Antihero. Jingu uses the opening to completely close the distance. The two just keep trading heavy blows. Suddenly, Antihero is caught off guard by how crazy powerful Jingu's punches actually are. The announcer gets even more hyped up. He wonders where this hidden gem came from, calling him insanely strong. As the crowd gets louder for player number 8, Jingu grows fiercer, throwing every strike with more power and willpower. He asks himself if this is really as far as he can push his body. Then he lets out a roar full of pure resolve. Charging with absolutely everything he has, Jingu throws a massive punch right at Antihero. But Antihero answers with a completely devastating counter. The blow violently snaps Jingu's head back. Pain rips through his jaw, blood spilling from his mouth. Launched to the floor, he helplessly rolls across the ring while Guiyang watches in dead silence. The announcer loudly declares that Jingu still cannot break through the solid wall called Antihero. Lying there on the ring, bleeding in quiet despair, Jingu wonders if this is really all he can do. Old memories come flooding back. Jingu was born incredibly tiny, just 43 centimeters long and weighing 1.4 kilograms. Since childhood, he always lagged far behind the other kids. And at school, where only the strong survive, being smaller and weaker made him a really easy target for every bully. So for 14 years, Jingu lived as absolute prey. But then a small hope appeared when he started working out. His body changed crazy fast. Getting taller and much stronger, his classmates barely even recognized him. As people started treating him differently, he got totally hooked on hardcore training. People constantly warned him about skipping too much school, saying he might not get into any high school at all. But the more he chased physical strength, the closer he got to Ilyong High School. Yet even with all that effort, one hard truth stayed right in front of him. Some abilities are truly set from birth. No matter how hard he trained, he still felt trapped by that weak body born at 43 centimeters and 1.4 kilograms. Since day one, that inherent weakness just stayed with him forever. No matter how people tried tempting him with booze or women, he only cared about his training. Even knowing talent matters, he never stopped pushing himself forward. Jingu always knew he was just a side character in life, knowing exactly where his physical limits were. Check this out. Jingu shocks absolutely everyone, standing back up with his fist tight, fully ready to keep fighting. Hyodo just looks down on him, telling him to stay on the mat. He says getting back up will not change a single thing. Before Jingu can fully recover, Hyodo charges right at him again. The brutal exchange starts right back up, Hyodo wearing this fully confident grin. The announcer points out Jingu has already taken way too much damage. He just cannot match Hyodo's speed anymore. Watching from afar, Guiyang remembers the exact moment Jingu said he had realized something important. Back then, Jingu admitted to Master Guiyang that everyone has real limits. Meanwhile, in the ring, punch after punch and heavy kicks just keep landing on Jingu. He cannot even fight back. He told his master he understood that harsh truth, but actually accepting it. That was the hard part. In this massive war of the world's strongest fighters, his dream was always to become the champion Hercules. He knew that dream was way beyond him right now. But he truly believed real fights could teach him things a gym never could. So if he followed Doyle and gave it his absolute everything, maybe he could somehow still get stronger. When Guiyang gave no answer, Jingu figured this was all someone like him could ever achieve. Back in the present, Hyodo drives a sickeningly brutal kick right into Jingu's stomach. The announcer wonders if Jingu is finally finished, but he somehow stays right on his feet. Gasping for air and refusing to quit, he lets out a massive roar. Hyodo stares in total disbelief that Jingu still has this much fight left. Jingu stands his ground, pulling power from pure willpower, flashing back to all his past weakness. Even with zero chance of winning, he chooses to keep fighting. The announcer is totally stunned as Jingu gets up and charges right back in. Haide yells out, calling him an absolute lunatic. They slam their kicks into each other, ankles crashing together hard. Pain shoots through Haide as he realizes Jingu is targeting that spot on purpose. Then we jump straight back to the past. Ji-won asks Jingu what he just muttered. Jingu completely panics, wondering exactly how much Gi-won heard. Then he notices the wireless earbud sitting in his hand. That is the exact second he realizes he has been speaking his inner thoughts out loud. Completely embarrassed, he tries playing it off by complaining about the heat. Then he suggests grabbing a protein shake and quickly tries to make his exit. Gi-won stops him short, telling the kid he is actually doing well. He means the training results. It isn't perfect by any means, but he is visibly improving. Back in the present, the fight is still going incredibly hard. Hyodo shouts in pure anger that this punk did it again, as he and Park Jin-gu smash fists in another violent clash. We flash back 3 days before the match with Ji-won handing out crucial advice. Duo mentions it is hardly the best plan since it wears down and seriously damages the body. But if Jingu ever faces a highly skilled fighter, he needs to read their pattern, protect those vital spots, and overwhelm them using sheer raw force. Gaiwan points out most guys could never pull that off, but Jingu definitely can. Back in the present ring, Jingu puts that exact plan to work, yelling as he tanks a storm of hits. Hyde stares in total shock, wondering what kind of monster just eats every single attack. Even through agonizing pain, Jingu pushes forward and throws another heavy strike. But Hyode slips right past it. The announcer screams that Park Jingu is taking Hyode's attacks like a human shield, only caring about landing his own hits. The two lock into a completely savage trade of punches, hammering each other again and again. Neither man cares about dodging or pain anymore. They just keep throwing fists at the exact same time. The announcer calls it the most violent match ever seen here. Every single hit rings through the arena. Ji-won admires how Jingu built this rugged body little by little. With endless effort and every drop of sweat, this is the brutal physique he forged for himself. Then in one massive moment, Jingu smashes a brutal headbutt into Hyode, stunning everyone in the stands, including Mina and her friend. As Hyde drops heavily to the ground, the arena absolutely explodes with cheers. The announcer shouts that something totally unbelievable has happened. Park Jingu has actually brought down the mighty On Hyode Gi-won, gives a small proud smile, like he knew from the very start Jingu would win after all that grueling work. Jingu stands there letting out a massive cry of victory while Gi-won proudly calls him a true gem. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the ring, Ma Donggu is still in serious trouble, getting heavily teamed up on by players 7 and 4. But watch what happens next. The announcer notes rookie Park Jingu used up absolutely everything he had, knocking player number 1 On Hyode out of the match. Jingu feels every last drop of strength leave his body and he heavily collapses straight to the floor. Ji-won realizes that nasty kick Jingu took earlier is exactly why he is staggering so badly now. Watching Park Jingu go down, Ji-won can tell even from a distance that the kid has a mild concussion. The announcer points out Jingu has suddenly collapsed and cannot get back up, throwing this entire rookie trio into very real danger. Then all attention shifts heavily to Park Kang-wook as player number 3. Yoo Hee-chul lands a brutally heavy punch. He mocks him, asking if that hurt. Kang-wook, in terrible agonizing pain, begs him to wait just a second, but Hee-chul completely ignores him and punches him again. From the roaring crowd, Hee-chul's father, Yoo Hong-gu, leader of the Harabang gang in Jeju, proudly cheers him on. One of his men runs up and Hong-gu absolutely snaps, having ordered 0 interruptions during his son's match. But the man insists it is incredibly urgent. He reports that the Katana Group's 2nd Division leader, Yuki Onna, the Snow Woman, has officially arrived in Korea. Hong-gu is completely stunned, and the situation is about to get much messier. He hears she already hit their Seigwipo office, took their secure USB, and is now heading straight for the Death 10 arena. Hong-gu explodes in blind rage and strikes his man, absolutely furious that some lowlife dared mess with them. He orders everyone fully mobilized, especially Il-chul, demanding they drag that woman right to him. Somewhere else, standing in the middle of a completely bloody scene, Nam Il-chul, the Harabang gang's operations commander, gets the urgent call from headquarters. Back in the ring, after taking a brutal beating, Park Kang-wook actually declares his surrender. Hee-chul looks visibly surprised, but Kang-wook nervously repeats it. Even the announcer sounds shocked, while the crowd loudly boos and Mina, completely embarrassed, calls him a loser. From the VIP room, Do-il calmly reminds everyone Death 10 has absolutely no surrender rule. Down in the ring, Hee-chul answers with a vicious kick that sends Kang-wook straight to the ground, flashing a sick, mocking smile. He tells him he is exactly right, there is no surrender here. Oh-chul keeps tormenting Park Kang-wook coldly. He tells him that in this place you either get dragged out half-crippled or fall out of the ring. Stepping right up, he mocks him. He asks what he thinks he can do, then stomps hard on Kang-wook's foot, pulling out a raw scream. Laughing out loud, Oh-chul says he is not letting him off easy because this is too fun. Right after he crushes Kang-wook's ankle under his heel again, drawing out another agonizing shriek. Oh-chul sneers Kang-wook is the absolute perfect target to torture. Meanwhile, in a hidden arena hallway, Seolmu pushes forward with her crew, stepping right over the knocked-out guards. She mocks how unnecessarily fancy this underground setup is, wondering where these street punks even got the cash. One of her men chimes in. They suspect that crazy bastard who killed Okita is funding this. The money from Okita's group definitely ended up here, though the exact source remains unclear. Seolmu states they have to find out since that cash is theirs anyway. Then she grumbles about how many designer bags that stolen money could have bought. Her followers agree to keep that in mind. As they move forward, Nam Il-chul and his men block their path. Il-chul asks straight up if she is the Snow Woman. Seolmu just laughs at that. She asks if his boss wants her phone number. Back in the ring, Oh-chul says that is for him to decide. A brutal crack to the jaw sends Park Kang-wook flying backward. Up in the VIP room, Gannon watches and realizes that Bastard is thoroughly enjoying this torture. He uses just enough force to keep his opponent awake without knocking him out, playing with him exactly like a kid testing a brand new toy. The crowd goes wild for Ochul, screaming for him to completely crush that loser. Kangwook lies on the cold floor, hurting badly, while the audience laughs and tells him to get up like he's just faking it. Flashing a nasty grin, Ochul tells Kangwook to get up, already complaining he has waited long enough. Plus, everyone clearly loves watching him get totally wrecked. The arena bursts into laughter as Kangwook tries to stand again, barely holding himself together. Looking up, Kangwook asks how Ochul can enjoy this. Ochul smiles and says of course he does. Trash-talking him on the ground, he points out everyone laughing at him. He tells him to quit squirming and stand on his own feet. Then he poses a question. If Kangwook were in their shoes, would he really say this was not entertaining? He starts rambling about how people are fundamentally evil by nature. Humans are literally built to take pleasure in crushing anyone weaker. To Ochul, hurting the helpless is just basic human instinct. Right on cue, the crowd gets even louder, loudly chanting for him to kill Kangwook. Ochul says everyone is the same, so does Kangwook really think he is different? Those words hit hard. Memories rush back to when Kangwook bullied weaker kids and took their money just for fun. Chul's twisted logic keeps ringing in his head, telling him to think hard about it because he is no different from the bloodthirsty crowd. In the corridor, Nam Ilkul stands there stunned. Seolmu just wiped out 30 of his best men in seconds, so fast he could not even track her movements. Now he knows the white snow ghost is not a myth. A follower casually asks what to do with Ilkul, noting he looks pretty tough. Ilkul realizes the horrifying truth. The power gap between the Harbang gang and Japan's top syndicate impossibly huge. Seolmu says she is in a good mood after returning home for the first time in a while, so she might just let him live. She asks him straight out if he wants to survive. When Ilkul says absolutely nothing, she asks again if he wants to live. That sets Ilkul off. He snaps at her for talking down to him. He demands to know if she expects him to beg. Calmly, she replies that taking one finger would be enough. Furious, Ilkul rushes her, wildly shouting and asking who she thinks she is. But in a split second, she slips right past his attack, leaving even her own followers totally shocked. A heartbeat later, his throat is slashed. As he chokes and bleeds, she casually asks if losing a single finger would not have been better than dying. Turning away, she mutters that she really does not understand his logic. Blood pours from Ilkul's neck until he finally collapses dead on the floor. Before walking away, Seolmu answers his earlier insult, reminding him that she is Korean. Back in the ring, Kangwook coughs through the pain. With Ochul's words still echoing, he realizes he really is no different from them. As the crowd loudly mocks how well he can take a beating, Kangwook pants heavily. He clearly remembers his past life as a ruthless bully. People never get tired of watching trash get crushed. Slowly pushing himself back up, he silently admits, Chul was absolutely right, he had done the exact same things. They are exactly alike. The announcer yells in surprise that player number 9, Park Kangwook, is up again. Then he mocks him, asking what pathetic joke he will pull next. The crowd keeps throwing insults, screaming at him to kneel down and beg if he wants any mercy. Watch this realization hit him. Kangwook is stuck in his own head, wondering why he did all this while pretending to be a hero. Chul cuts into his thoughts. He asks what he is mumbling about, wondering if that last heavy hit permanently messed up his brain. Ignoring him, Kangwook keeps talking to himself. He remembers someone once telling him that guys like him were the real idiots of the world. Back then, he thought that was incredibly stupid. Predators were the cool ones, obviously. He brushed it off as the pathetic whining of weak prey that had nowhere left to run. But now, bleeding in this ring, he is finally starting to get who the real fool was. For the absolute first time, Park Kangwook takes a genuine fighting stance. The crowd is still screaming, calling him total trash. They tell him to jump or go die. The shame hits him heavy. He just stares straight into that vile face of Hitchell. He cannot believe he used to wear that exact same ugly mask. Honestly, just thinking about his own past makes him totally sick. The announcer screams out that even a stepped-on worm fights back. Kangwook does exactly that, charging completely straight at Hitchell. Hitchell gets caught completely off guard for a split second. Kangwook roars. Memories of his brutal training suddenly flash right through his head. But Hitchell quickly realizes this incoming punch is way too slow. He dodges, effortlessly slamming right back with a massive counter hit. Up in the VIP room, Guan calls this the obvious result. Kangwook never stood a single chance of winning this fight. The announcer shouts that Kangwook is down yet again. That makes knockdown number 5. She screams the name of player number 9. Kangwook lies there struggling hard for air. Then his past floods his mind. As a kid, he hit a massive growth spurt early. That alone let him easily coast through life. He used his big size to terrify everyone around him. When the other kids finally caught up, the fear was already carved in stone. Even the guys much bigger than him were terrified. But the actual truth was pretty simple. Kangwook was never special. He was just a boy who grew faster than the rest. While he enjoyed his easy life as a bully, Someone way stronger finally showed up. For the absolute first time, Kang-wook found himself on the other side. He became the helpless victim. Thrown into total pitch-black darkness with zero way out, he suffered endlessly, completely against his own will. Look, only when a clueless guy is forced into the shoes of someone else do they finally grasp how deep that pure misery goes. The terror of living inside that dark place. And the crushing truth, he was the exact monster who shoved innocent people into that hell. He remembers screaming at his own bully, begging to be let go, pleading and asking why he had to be the one suffering so much. That was the moment he realized how totally rotten he was. Back in the current ring, Hichul brutally mocks him. He asks if he can even stand up, calling him a fun little toy. The announcer notices Kang-wook has completely changed since trying to surrender. His eyes are razor sharp now. This time, Kang-wook attacks first, throwing an absolute rush of heavy punches. Hichul laughs at how incredibly slow they are. He drives another heavy shot right into his body. More painful memories hit Kang-wook. This time, it is from training on Jeju Island. The head coach told them they absolutely had to finish no matter what happened. One day, Kang-wook apologized to Dongwoo for making them do extra training yet again, but Dongwoo completely brushed it off. He replied with heavy sarcasm Kang-wook had plenty more things to apologize for anyway. Snapping back to the present, Kang-wook clenches his teeth. The crowd murmurs about how tough these crazy rookies can be. The announcer is totally shocked. Player number 9, Park Kang-wook, somehow endured that insanely brutal body shot from Yoo Hichul. Hichul gets visibly excited. He asks if Kang-wook wants some more before violently rushing him again. But this time, amazingly, Kang-wook dodges and fires back a sharp counter. Hichul only sneers. He calls the punch pathetic, then answers with a totally brutal hit that drops Kang-wook right back down. Not stopping there at all, he blasts him upward with another completely savage punch. Kang-wook flashes back to Jeju Island again. Dongwoo was just tearing into him. Even though Kang-wook genuinely tried to apologize, Dongwoo refused to accept it. He asked if sorry really fixes everything. He loudly reminded Kang-wook that he still hung around the exact same people who used to bully him. So why act nice now? Dongwoo flat out said he had no idea why Doyle accepted him, but he definitely never had. And he still could not forgive him at all. Back in the bloody ring, Kang-wook keeps pressing forward, refusing to back off. Hichul grows highly irritated. Why does this crazy bastard keep charging in? The harsh words of Dongwoo just keep echoing. Kang-wook had done way too much wrong to be forgiven so easily. Dongwoo furiously called out all his lame excuses, like blaming cheap cigarettes for his weak lungs. Dongwoo asked if he honestly had no clue why he kept lagging behind in training. He brought up Kang-wook and his pathetic school life. In a world where everyone fights so incredibly hard just to survive, Kang-wook only mocked the effort of other people. He never learned a single thing about real struggle, failure, grit, or true passion. He completely wasted his life. He wasted his precious time and chased absolutely nothing but quick, cheap pleasure. Dongwoo told him this was the road he chose himself. This is the tragic life that comes with it. Driven by those heavy words, this is where the momentum shifts. Kang-wook just keeps advancing through the heavy blows, leaving the announcer totally stunned. He roars, rushing in with a massive kick. Hichul blocks it, but this time he actually feels the raw power behind it. Both the crowd and the announcer are left completely stunned. Kang-wook literally forces the much stronger Hichul right back into a tight corner. Hichul fully snaps, screaming and asking if Kang-wook wants to die. Yoo Hichul rages in fury, demanding to know how a pathetic toy like Kang-wook dares to look him in the eye. He sneers getting cornered means absolutely nothing. Those weak, slow punches will never beat him. The announcer screams out. Kang-wook charges in again, but this time he moves way faster. He finally lands a genuinely clean hit. Still, Hichul mocks him, calls him a total idiot, and asks what he thought that would even do. Then he fires back with a brutal kick, sending Kwon flying across the ring. That heavy impact pulls the main character right back to Dongwoo's lecture on the Jeju beach. Back then, Dongwoo told him to finally start living right from now on. With Doomina and Ji-won watching from afar, Dongwoo just kept on scolding him. He told him to stop hiding behind weak excuses like having ruined lungs from smoking. Dongwoo made it clear he needed to take life seriously. He had to face his own mistakes, pay up, and fix whatever he could. Then Dongwoo pulled out a revival coupon and slapped it down right in front of him. He promised Kwon would earn 1 stamp every single time he helped them, telling him to fill it up the right way. Basically, he needed to put in some actual effort. Then Dongwoo made him promise. He reminded our guy that he still owed him for that rescue, and thanks to the extra training time that day, he would forgive him. Back in the present, Hichul is totally shocked to realize Kwon actually grabbed his leg while falling. Kwon held on to Dongwoo's words, clinging to the fact that he had been forgiven. With that very thought pushing him forward, our protagonist launches himself right off the edge. He drags Hichul down through the air with him, leaving the announcers completely stunned. Both fighters crash hard outside the ring, and that massive drop wrecks them both. Kwon definitely gets the worst of it. Pain tears through his entire body as they lay there covered in blood. Back in the day, Donggu had helped the exhausted main character walk. Later on, Quan actually kept his promise to help out and improve quietly, asking Donggu to stamp the coupon. That coupon now showed a single stamp. His debt for that extra training was officially paid. The announcer yells that Quan tried taking Heechul down for the long game but ended up tumbling right alongside him. Honestly, Heechul looks incredibly hurt. The protagonist, though, is somehow still awake. Up in the crowd, Hyungu snaps and completely curses him out. He orders his men to drag him up there immediately, but one guy nervously cuts in saying something way more urgent just happened. The entire hit squad sent after Yuki Anna got wiped out completely. Hyungu freezes at the terrible news, then angrily shouts at them to call the Jeju Union. Down in the ring, the announcer points out that with Jeju still down, only 3 fighters remain in this match. Donggu is still getting absolutely hammered, but he finally slips out of Angu's grip. Right at that key moment, he seems to figure something out. He starts dodging player number 7, Choi In-beom's attacks, and focuses entirely on player number 4, Angu, finally escaping that nasty trap between them both. Angu drops to his knees in pure pain from all the damage he took across both fights. You can practically feel the tension. Donggu still isn't safe. Choi In-beom charges right back, forcing him to dodge the first kick and block the next. He can feel exactly how overwhelming his opponent's raw strength really is, and even with all that intense training, he barely holds on. The announcer screams that Choi In-beom is completely overpowering a worn-out Donggu with terrifying attacks. He wonders if an exhausted Donggu has any answer at all for this brutal assault. Meanwhile, In-beom is actually thinking about just how incredibly fast Donggu is. Elsewhere in the arena halls, Seol Miju walks alongside her assistant, loudly complaining that this whole place is an absolute maze. No wonder the cops could never catch these guys. She asks him if he is completely sure there is an elevator leading to the lower floors. She strongly doubts every single visitor came through here, guessing there has to be another hidden entrance. Her assistant admits he has no idea, since this is his first time here too. Miju immediately calls him useless as a secretary. Then she asks if Choi In-beom is definitely down there, and he says yes. Hearing that, she tosses her empty can aside and marches straight for the ring. Back there, Donggu keeps battling Choi In-beom, narrowly dodging a ridiculously heavy punch. The announcer calls it an absolutely amazing turn. He wonders out loud if Donggu has started reading In-beom's attack patterns, since more and more strikes keep missing. Donggu is already planning ahead when the next strike comes flying in. He ducks under it incredibly fast, aiming a mean counter right at his opponent's side. But right before he can land it, Angu suddenly grabs him, forcing his way back into the fight. Choi In-beom is totally stunned, pretty sure those ribs had been shattered. So how is Angu even moving? Angu shouts out that he cannot hold Donggu for long. In-beom takes the chance and heavily pounds the trapped Donggu. Seeing that pulls Angu right back into the past. He remembers that massive 80 million won debt from his mother's hospital bills along with the 2 younger siblings she left behind. Even with the situation being totally awful, he had to squeeze something out of this. Back then, In-beom asked if he truly understood what Death 10 was before joining up. One wrong move, he warned him, and Ang could easily end up in even deeper debt. Even worse, this cursed place could leave a guy totally broken and tossed on the street. And for the people running things, that is just another normal workday. Back in the present ring, the announcer shouts that it is another 2-on-1 scenario with Donggu trapped all over again. Donggu yells at them to let go while furiously hitting Angu. Angu coughs up blood, his body already completely wrecked from all that previous damage. Then he completely cries out, shoving Donggu incredibly hard right toward the outside of the ring. The announcer notes that the more Donggu fights back, the tighter Angu holds onto him. Even so, Donggu refuses to quit, endlessly striking at Angu's broken back. Angu pushes him right up against the edge of the ring. Donggu stops at the drop, but his fists keep flying. Angu shouts for In-beom to wrap this up quickly, and In-beom charges. Then a quick flashback hits. In-beom once begged Angu for an alliance. He hyped up that 1.5 billion won Death 10 prize money, plenty to wipe his debts and pay for his siblings to study. Back in that memory, In-beom practically begged for a team-up. He promised better survival odds and swore to help him grab that #1 spot. When Angu asked why he chose him of all people, In-beom claimed he still had cash from earlier matches. He said Angu's mother had always been a kind woman, and now it was time to finally repay that favor. Snap back to the present. Right at the edge, everything flips. In-beom violently betrays his own partner, launching both Angu and Donggu completely out of the arena. Cut to a nearby hallway. Seol Minju sarcastically points out a hidden elevator sitting right in a dump like this. Back at the main event, the ring is cleared. In-beom stares down at a fallen Angu with this incredibly toxic grin. He sneers that he only made it this far thanks to him. So consider that old debt completely paid off now. Meanwhile, Seol Minju calls someone out as a complete backstabbing snake, wondering how exactly to crush him. Down at the pit, Donggu screams mid-fall until Jingu suddenly lunges up and catches him mid-air. Letting out an absolute roar, Jingu leaps and saves Donggu right at the final second. Then he actually chucks him straight back into the ring. The announcer completely loses it, screaming that player 8 just saved Donggu from elimination. Jingu then slams violently into the hard ground below. The whole crowd is stunned, where players 8 and 10 secretly teamed up this entire time. The announcer screams out that only 2 fighters remain standing. The arena absolutely erupts in wild cheers. Donggu staggers to his feet, totally shocked to find Jingu gone. He yells out Jingu's name. The announcer takes that as solid proof those two were definitely working together. Donggu looks completely rattled, but Inbam refuses to give him a single second to breathe, launching a brutal strike. Donggu drops low, barely dodging. Inbam is just furious now. He thought his only real threats were Anu, Dak, and Yuich. Having 2 random rookies ruin his master plan is driving him insane. He screams that they are total cowards for teaming up in secret. Donggu flashes back to Inbam, using Angu as a literal meat shield before tossing him aside like garbage. So Donggu yells right back at him, "Didn't you have a partner too?" Inbam just laughs it off. He calls his old partner a completely worthless idiot who is only good as a human punching bag. In this place, teammates just do not exist. Trusting anyone else makes you a complete and total fool. He taunts Donggu, claiming he only survived by manipulating that giant meathead Jingu. Donggu glares at him with pure disgust. He tells him to shut his mouth. They are absolutely nothing alike. A warm memory flashes by 2 guys smiling together in a faded beach photo. Donggu snaps back that if their roles were reversed, he would have saved Jingu too. That is just what a decent human being does. That is how real trust works, he yells. When someone shows you genuine loyalty, you give that exact same loyalty right back. Even a monster should understand that much. Inbam just chuckles, asking if Donggu actually considers him a monster. Monsters only get hunted down because they are stupid and outdated. He sneers, telling Donggu he has absolutely no clue how the real world operates. Cursing him out as an arrogant punk, he lunges forward. The announcer screams into the mic, "Choi Inbam is making a charge." Even with the crazy speed, Donggu weaves right past the strikes. Inbam clicks his tongue, annoyed, right before landing a heavy, clean blow on Donggu. Still, Donggu refuses to back down. But Inbam brags that he can read every single punch coming, so absolutely nothing is going to connect. Then he blasts him with a completely devastating counterattack. Another flashback hits training with Doyle. Donggu was crying about being way past his physical limit, completely done. Meanwhile, Doyle just chewed on a donut, coldly ordering him to stand up. "You are not going to die," he said. Donggu screamed that none of this torture was even working. Doyle barely blinked, just staring right at his phone. Cut back to the fight. Donggu flat out refuses to quit throwing wild punches. Inbam mocks his terrible speed, laughing that no one alive would ever get hit by that trash. The announcer confirms that Donggu still has not landed a single clean hit. Now watch this arrogance. Looming over him, Inbam thinks back to Park Jingu, deciding the injured giant is still a way bigger threat than this kid. He laughs at Jingu for throwing his match away on such a stupid rescue mission. He hammers Donggu with a nasty combo of punches and kicks, still trashing that so-called heroic stunt. Suddenly, the punishing beach training flashes back again. He begged Doyle for just 5 minutes of rest. He was grinding while everyone else slept, screaming that he was a human, not a machine. Doyle just stared back blankly. There is absolutely no time to rest. Crushed by the pressure, Donggu screamed that Doyle was a complete sadist. How could he just sit there stuffing his face while his student was starving and suffering? Doyle casually reminded him, "You asked for this." Since Donggu claimed he could handle it, he had to push through. That sudden, dead serious tone completely paralyzed him. Back in the ring, Inbum is still completely lost. He just cannot figure out why these idiots throw their lives away for Dongwu. Taking a brutal beating, Dongwu flashes back to one crucial question. Why was Doyle pushing things this far? Doyle made it crystal clear he wasn't here to play around. Dongwu asked for this. Now they walk this crazy road together. Even with the odds completely against them, Dongwu has to trust him. Doyle tells him, "One more time, you can do this." Those exact words light a massive fire inside Dongwu. He desperately tries striking back. The announcers are completely stunned. He even has the strength to counter. Telling himself over and over that he can win, Dongwu pours every last drop of strength into his fist and charges Inbum. But the power gap is just massive. He still cannot match Inbum's speed at all. Inbum laughs right in his face, calling his punch way too wide and predictable. Then he launches what looks like the absolute final blow. Staring down and exhausted, Dongwu, Inbum loudly calls him and his entire crew pathetic trash. Right at that exact second, Seol Minju steps into the ring. Straightforward out of nowhere, Dongwu busts out a legendary move called the gun, violently blasting Inbum into the dirt. The commentators freeze up and Minju just stares. One final memory flashes by, Doyle telling Dongwu to put his absolute trust in him since they chose this hardcore path together. Inbum is completely stunned, having zero clue what just hit him. Meanwhile, Dongwu firmly holds onto Doyle's advice, always trust your teammate. Dongwoo instantly unleashes a brutal storm of punches, leaving the entire crowd breathless. Another quick flashback hits Doyle's voice, reminding him that trusting his team is the only way out. Watching from the stands, Seo Minju seriously wonders if that wild technique came from the Blackhead organization. Burning through his very last drop of energy, Dongwoo viciously slams Inbum onto the floor. He shoots a look straight up toward the VIP room right where Doyle is watching. He also remembers being much younger back when Doyle used to always carry him around on his back. From afar, Doyle watches him without blinking once. Then the entire arena explodes with massive cheers. Dongwoo's team finally wins this insanely bloody match, all thanks to the raw effort of the fighters and their coaches. The announcer officially ends the Death 10 Stadium event while the wild crowd chants Ma Dongwoo's name. He actually won the match and secured the champion medal. Seo Minju cannot believe her eyes. She wonders how this total loser actually pulled off a win, standing there completely baffled. How could someone looking that pathetic execute a blackhead technique? Grabbing the mic, Dongwoo starts by thanking his anime club and flat out admits he never expected to actually win. Minju still cannot process any of this insanity when she suddenly spots Doyle up in the VIP room and completely freezes in pure shock. Inside her head, one single name pops up: Kim Doyle. She cannot figure out why he is here, guessing he might be hunting down old man Okita's money. That severely ticks her off. The massive mess he caused over in Japan was bad enough, so what else could he possibly want now? Then it really seems like Doyle notices her. He is just casually talking with Jiwoo, asking to pack up some food to go. Minju cuts off her racing thoughts, deciding this situation just got way too messy. She orders her subordinate to get ready to leave. He is totally shocked, reminding her that Chairman Bayan is right there, and she waited a terribly long time for this chance. Even so, she strictly orders them to leave immediately because something in this place feels horribly off. She warns that staying means getting dragged into something super ugly, and dealing with Kim Doyle directly would be a massive total headache. Out in the stadium hallway, Seo Minju suddenly stops, demanding to know who the shady group blocking her path actually are. Their cocky leader steps right up, bragging that he runs the Seo Guipo gang. Cheon Doman claims he heard she has the USB taken from the Harabang gang. He promises a peaceful exit if she hands it over. Minju just lets out a heavy sigh, calling modern bullies seriously pathetic. Then she casually asks if that drive actually holds the true source of Okita's money. The gang leaders instantly tense up, looking completely busted. Minju figures she can uncover the truth later on because she refuses to waste another single second standing around in this hallway. Smirking, she tells the group to come at her all at once. Jump forward 3 days to the hospital. Park Kang-wook tries getting Dongwoo to stamp his weird coupon again, but Dongwoo flat out refuses. The 3 tournament fighters are all recovering together. Meanwhile, Park Jino is happily lifting heavy weights despite his injuries, prompting an annoyed Dongwoo to yell at him to put some clothes on. Then they suddenly bring up the prize money. Dongwoo and Kang-wook demand to know where the cash went. Doyle calmly claims he spent it on a noble cause and tells them to drop it. Kang-wook completely explodes, asking if he wants to fight, but Doyle coolly replies with knives. That makes Kang-wook instantly fold like paper, nervously claiming he was only joking. It later turns out every single penny of that prize money funded Doyle's luxury hotel suite. It cost a whopping 5 million won per night during their entire hellish training period. Dongwoo aggressively complains to Jiwoo, calling Doyle a total bully for hogging all the money. But Jiwoo actually defends him, pointing out it might truly be for a noble cause, since their leader makes over 100 million won every single hour. So lying about such a tiny amount makes zero sense. Dongwoo and the crew are absolutely stunned by that insane number, while Kang-wook loudly yells at them for buying into such obvious nonsense. And just like that, the absolute hell training is over. The news then reports that 4 Seoul gang leaders, including the Harbang boss, have vanished, and the police still have absolutely zero solid leads. Elsewhere, Seo Manju gets a scolding from her father about her terrible temper. She snaps back that anyone trying to rise up has to be completely crushed, telling him he is way too soft. She insists she has her own reasons and demands he stop lecturing her. In the bloody aftermath, the mission seems completely finished. Chof and Bae lie fully covered in blood right in front of her. She informs her father she plans to stay in Korea for now. After a full month recovering in the hospital, the group finally heads back to Seoul. Over in the anime club room, Dongwoo proudly shows his friends his shiny medal from the Death 10 tournament. They have zero clue what that tournament is, so they mock him, asking since when he got cool. Dongwoo turns to Mina, begging her to back him up on this. She just lets out a heavy sigh, saying she has no idea what he means. A little later, when the new semester kicks off, Bae Yuan, the number 3 guy at Seo Dong High, is seen staggering around in serious pain. He remembers Gunwoo cornering him coldly, demanding he pick his arm or his leg. Yuan angrily thinks to himself if Gunwoo had not injured him, he would have easily won. But the man warned him to choose very carefully, revealing that his leader Wang Guk just got kicked out of the 12 nations. The National Union and their dirty cop will not be helping him out anymore. He makes it completely clear they have nowhere left to run. Then he demands to know where the Xiaodong gang hid the data for their illegal gambling site. Yuan shouts that he knows absolutely nothing and tries a kick. The big man easily dodges, grabs him, and slams him incredibly hard into the ground. Then he totally mocks him. If he really does not know, he should just say, "I will go find out right now." That is exactly how weak punks like him should act. He keeps hoisting Yuan up and brutally smashing him into the floor. Then he hurls him into a solid wall so hard Yuan feels the crushing impact all at once. After that, the big guy orders him to remember his place. This is Bei Yuan, the literal number 3 of Xiaodong, getting talked down to like absolute trash. As the new term begins, their next target becomes Huane Hai. The Samhai crew shows up at a Huane workshop. Donju snaps at the girls, demanding to know why they always tag along just to get in the way. Mina shoots back, every good team needs a pretty girl there to cheer them on. Yuan spots them and wonders who they even are. He sneers, asking if that sneaky bastard called for backup before entirely dismissing Gunwoo and his crew as nobodies. Out of nowhere, Gunwoo appears directly behind Bei Yuan. He moves so incredibly fast, it almost looks like teleporting. Before Yuan and his guys can even react, Gunwoo strikes hard. He unleashes the scattershot technique, dropping every single student in an instant. And watch closely, this is how the Sam High Anime Club starts their war to wipe out Huane. Seoul basically has 3 major troublemaker schools, Iljin, Xiaodong, and Huane. Ask anyone which one is the absolute worst and they say Huane. One big reason is the custom drugs they make. Those drugs have ruined countless lives, officially making Huane the lowest of the low. But what truly makes Huane terrifying is their massive size and insane amount of money. On top of that, 2 members of the 12 nations are with them. 4 years earlier, all the major gangs in Seoul got dragged into a massive war known as the Rebellion. 2 of the 12 nations clashed head-on with both sides taking heavy losses. Still, nobody actually thought it would be over in just 2 weeks. That only happened because of one boy, Jusang. As someone who seemed totally beyond belief on his own, he completely crushed both sides. So at just 14 years old, Jusang became the very first middle schooler to join the 12 nations. People treated him like heaven literally chose him, even calling him the son of God. But then came the real shock. This living legend was serving someone else. The current leader of Huane, Ju Yujin. Almost absolutely nothing is known about Ju Yujin. Face gender, past all of it, is a complete mystery. Only one thing is totally clear. Jusang lost directly to Ju Yujin, and the fight lasted just 3 seconds. Back in the present at an arcade, Donggu desperately tries to make Dojin understand how insanely bad this is. He stresses that Huane has over 100 members, maybe even 200. Donggu reminds him that even his fight with Kwok lasted around 5 whole minutes, while Yujin beat Jusang in 3 seconds flat. Dojin barely cares at all, and Donggu begs him to start taking Huane seriously, but Dojin just says it is already way too late. He already sent Huane an official declaration of war. Then he pulls up a deepfake video, slapping Donggu's face onto another guy's body. In the fake video, Donggu proudly announces they are coming to destroy Hoenn next Friday, promising there will be absolutely no mercy. Donggu stares at him in pure shock, asking if he actually sent that out, and then the story shifts right back to Huane. The video keeps playing boldly, laying out their surrender terms. Ju Yujin has to kneel before them, and Huane must hand over every single bit of proof tied to making and selling illegal drugs. The warning ends with one final message. If they have any brains left, they should choose wisely. Honestly, good luck with that. Over at Haewain headquarters, Minsu, the number 3 guy of the school, just watches the video while eating. With a sarcastic laugh, he points out that the little runt who beat Bei Chul and Quack last week is now declaring full war on them. Minsu is actually hearing all this straight from Bei Yuan. Earlier, right after beating him, Dojin told Bei Yuan he would now serve as their spy, their personal eyes and ears. The little gadget he handed over broadcasts live video and audio right back to him. It is also a remote bomb. Dojin makes it clear if Bu Yuan tries pulling a fast one, his head gets blown clean off. Minsu asks if the guys in that clip are the same ones who ruined his face. One cold stare is all it takes to make the silent threat crystal clear. Bu Yuan drops straight to his knees, begging for mercy. Minsu tells him to stand up. Apologies mean absolutely nothing here. Mistakes require punishment, and Bu Yuan is about to pay with an eye. Meanwhile, back at the arcade, Donggu is still screaming his lungs out at Dojin. Quinn has massive numbers and sending a warning, just let them prepare. Donggu demands to know what the hell is going through Dojin's head. Dojin calmly replies he never planned on honoring that official declaration. That terrifying answer sends Donggu crashing to the floor in tears. Then Dojin drops the real plan: they are striking Huin tonight. The whole declaration was pure bait. Over at Huin, Minsu asks the big guy to pick an eye left or right. Buyuan desperately pleads for one last chance. Minsu chuckles. He is not talking about Buyuan's eyes. He means their enemies, asking which one of them will be enough payback. Buyuan nervously mutters that either eye works or maybe both. Minsu loves that answer. Taking both eyes is definitely the better option. He states that failures have a heavy price tag. Now that they have crossed this line, going back is completely off the table. Dojin explains the war declaration was just bait to rile them up. Right now, Minsu dishes out punishment by brutally ripping out one of Biyuan's eyes. Dojin notes that furious enemies make sloppy mistakes and a huge chunk of Huin forces actually answer directly to Buyuan. Buyuan screams his crew will never follow Minsu's orders. This is exactly what Dojin is banking on: absolute chaos, tearing Huin apart. Minsu steps up wielding a sword, taunting Buyuan. He jokes that maybe the last beating was not nearly brutal enough. Preparing for the final strike, he adds that Buyuan's death means absolutely nothing to Huin anyway. Minsu charges forward to finish him. You have to respect this tactical setup. Dojin explains they will exploit that exact infighting and serious backup is already rolling in. Suddenly, Guijan and Jingu crash right through the window. Minsu freezes in his tracks, staring hard as he tries to identify the intruders. Over in the Huan dorms, guys pick up strange noises from the third floor. Guijin warns Jingu that reinforcements will rush up soon, so locking down that hallway is priority number one. Guijan then squares up with Minsu, claiming this fight for himself. Clearly rattled, Minsu demands a name. Guijin just flattens him effortlessly. Dojin calls it "this is how they dismantle Huin from the inside." In another room, Huin's number 2 Juana sits looking totally lost as Dojin casually walks in. He skips the small talk. Where is Ju Yujin hiding? Meanwhile, at the back gate, Kangwook prepares for his solo assignment. He already knows this place is far from a regular high school. It just puts on that normal boarding school act. Once 6 o'clock hits, all the staff bounce, leaving the dangerous students completely unsupervised. Kangwook is positive this joint becomes a literal drug factory after dark. Dojin's orders echo in his mind. Go cause massive chaos on the first floor. Divide their forces so nobody spots Jingu quietly infiltrating the third floor above them. His secondary objective is bagging Sangho, their number 5 guy. He has to beat the exact location of that drug lab out of him. Kangwook feels like he got handed the absolute worst job on the roster, but he commits entirely, roaring for every Huin punk to step outside and fight him. The first floor guys hear the commotion loud and clear. They seriously wonder what kind of suicidal lunatic is screaming outside. Kangwook just keeps running his mouth, fighting to keep his own nerves steady. It is do or die time right now. Back at the arcade, Dojun tells Donggu his role is finished and he can bounce. Donggu stands there clueless about what he even contributed. Then he spots Zhuang Ah standing nearby and instantly recognizes his face. Dojin cuts in. He already knows. He shoves a stuffed doll into Donggu's hands, ordering him to sprint it over to Kangwook at Huin to help out. Donggu cannot figure out why a plushie matters, but Dojin stresses it is vital cargo. Before Donggu can ask another stupid question, Dojin snaps at him to just get moving. The clock is ticking down fast. Dojin plans to stay and handle Zhuang Ah personally. This quick flashback shows us exactly why. Under harsh interrogation earlier, Bo Yuan confessed he never laid eyes on Ju Yujin. Every single command filters straight down through Zhuang Ah. Dojin has one clear goal: find Ju Yujin and decapitate Huan's leadership. Back in the present, Wang Ah quietly calculates his next move. Over at the Huin workshop, Minsu stands tall. He grips a kendo sword over the bloody students he just crushed. 1 second later, Guijan blinks right into his personal space. Minsu is completely stunned, refusing to believe anyone could close that gap so insanely fast. Remembering that kendo is purely about distance control, Minsu plants his foot hard. He unleashes a massive heavy swing straight at Guijan's skull. He calls this technique the flower of kendo, but Minsu freezes in horror. He completely missed his target again. That strike carried flawless power, crazy speed, and perfect timing. In his head, dodging a swing like that is mathematically impossible. Guijan casually mentions that swing was pretty dangerous. He actually gives Minsu some credit for having the skill to close distance that well. Pushed to his limit, Minsu screams for a name. He demands to know if these freaks are from Suman High School. Minho snaps. Hitting them early when they had a meeting next week is totally disrespectful. Jian just shrugs it off. They took the fastest route, simple as that. Minho curses them out, calling them complete trash. What do they even want? Jian explains he had no clue his leader wanted them wiped out. He is just following orders. Minho just laughs right in his face. He dares Jian to come try it, then charges straight in. Jian watches him, wondering, is he going for the head again? Minho fakes a heavy strike to the head, planning a sneaky last-second switch to hit the body instead. But Jian reads it perfectly, easily catching the massive blow barehanded. Minho glares right at him, calling him a total idiot. He brutally mocks Jian for trying to block a wooden sword barehanded. Normally, a direct hit like that easily shatters bones. Instead, Jian activates a mid-level Black Heaven technique called Sword. He shatters the wooden sword with one strike. You can't fake this reaction. Minho leaps back in pure shock, completely stunned. He literally cannot understand how Jian sliced top-grade ebony with just a bare hand. Terrified, Minho stares at him. Who exactly is this guy, and how is that possible? But Jian is actually surprised too. His attack was dead on, yet Minho still managed to partially dodge it. He admits Minho clearly sits above any opponent he has faced before. Jian figures this would be way easier if he were actually trying to kill. But Doyle's strict warning echoes back. No killing allowed. Holding back to match his enemy's level still feels weird, proving he has a long way to go. Minho yells out, "What are you constantly mumbling about over there?" Jian just keeps replaying Doyle's words in his head, especially about top-tier fighters like Huang Gui and Bei Jichu. Doyle believed with proper training, those two could easily clear the elite team. He figured there are probably 10 more guys just like them, maybe even stronger. Jian wonders if wild talents like that actually exist in South Korea, especially hidden among ordinary high schoolers. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a white-haired figure sits calmly in a tub full of blood. Honestly, Jian really hopes it is true, wanting to find stronger fighters who can actually rival him. Back to the action, Minho roars, rushing in for a brutal, heavy clash. He swings at max speed, but Jian casually slips past every single attack with total ease. Minho is completely stunned by his movement. He has practiced this exact move hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of times. It has never failed him before today. Once again, Jian smoothly dodges the broken blade, then drives a brutal punch straight into Minho's face. While Minho angrily refuses to accept reality, Jian follows up with a deadly technique, boosting his attack speed 5 times over. A literal storm of blows crashes into Minho's body. He cannot believe what is happening, but he fights through the agony, swinging back with everything he has. Jian presses the advantage. This time, he unleashes the gun technique to put Minho down for good. Bleeding and completely in shock, Minho hits the floor. He mutters that losing is impossible for him, then totally collapses. Jian stays planted, breathing pretty heavy. As he finally catches his breath, Doyle's serious warning hits him again. There are probably 10 more fighters just like this, maybe even stronger, holding power right near elite team level. Cut to Donggu running fast with a stuffed doll. He grumbles that Kim Doyle always pulls these wild stunts without asking first. He cannot believe Doyle picked tonight of all nights to start a massive riot. He also remembers Doyle warning him, "Protect this doll with your life." Donggu is absolutely sure something is hidden inside it. Just thinking about it makes him sweat. Then bam, he slams into someone and hits the ground hard, clutching his bruised backside. He quickly apologizes, shouting that he is in a major rush. But the stranger cuts him right off. "Are you Majanga from Suman High School?" Donggu completely freezes. Shocked and confused, who is this guy? The stranger introduces himself as the leader of the National Union's third team. Back in the present, Doyle faces Sanga, who casually asks, "Do you want to reach the very top?" "Try if you want," Sanga says, "but you will never win. Better drop the impossible dream now and just say where Jusang is hiding." Sanga studies Doyle closely. Is he one of those rare, truly strong guys who never brag? Then Doyle moves blindingly fast, leaving Sanga totally confused. Sanga judges his aura. Strange yet pretty ordinary looking. He guesses his overall level sits somewhere around Hachi's. What really surprises him, he has never even heard of a guy this strong. He figures Doyle might just be the National Union's new 7th team leader. Doyle shuts that nonsense down instantly. He tells him to quit yapping and just spit out where Ja Gojin is. Sanga just gets more pumped up. Does that mean his guess was dead on as Doyle, the Union's brand new hidden weapon? He brings up the wild rumors. Iljang Sodong and the National Union are quietly shifting Seoul's balance of power. Maybe now it is Hwarian's turn, he laughs before mocking the men of the 12 nations as being all talk. That is enough for Sanga. Knowing Doyle will not talk willingly, force becomes the only option. He declares he is fighting seriously now, boldly addressing Doyle as the 7th team leader. Doyle answers with a cold threat. Elsewhere inside a rich, dimly lit room, a hidden figure slowly steps into view. Rumors say this freak bathes in the blood of young women, loves dead bodies, and kills people to drink their blood and eat their flesh. He wonders what people actually think of him. Is any of it even true? Does he truly love corpses? Does he actually eat human flesh or enjoy killing? Even he admits he has no idea what he really is. He softly calls out for his mom, wondering if he even exists. This dark figure is Kyujin, the leader of Hwan High School and one of the 12 nations. Elsewhere inside a filthy drug lab, a worker complains about wearing a suffocating gas mask every single day. He says this disgusting place makes his body feel like it is literally rotting away. Why keep brewing these poisons? His coworker asks if he is talking to him, since he works nonstop too. The first guy replies by bringing up a childhood memory. He once watched a TV documentary about a Polish man named Stefan Jervis, someone said to possess absolute superhuman senses. The show claimed his nerve speed was 3 times faster than normal, over 330 meters per second, while regular people only max out around 120. The reason his myelin sheaths, the things carrying nerve signals, were much thicker and wider than an average person. Because of this mutation, he could actually feel tiny air shifts, heat variations, and pressure drops. He used those shifts to perfectly sense surrounding objects. With that insane ability, he could easily dodge things completely blindfolded. His nerves reacted in just 0.03 seconds, the kind of total freak who catches flies with chopsticks. As a kid, this worker completely thought the show was fake, but one day he witnessed something just as unreal with his very own eyes. That superhuman was the youngest member of the 12 Nations. His name is Ju Sang-a. The worker asked his lab partner a simple question. Have you ever met someone who can see the future? Back in the day, Ju Sang-a pointed at two girls in a hallway. He casually mentioned that one of them was about to lose her balance and fall. A split second later, it happened exactly like he predicted. When the boy beside him asked how he knew, Sang-a just said he felt a tiny muscle tremor right before she tripped. That is exactly the worker's point. It completely defies what normal human brains can even comprehend. That kind of power is almost godlike, earning him the title Son of God Ju Sang-a. But here's the wild part you need to watch closely. The guy who eventually crushed that Son of God was none other than Kyujin, the current leader of Huan. The worker finally takes off his mask. It is Im Sang-hayo number 5 getting ready to board a massive luxury liner. Right now, though, Doyle and Ju Sang-a are absolutely trading blows. Doyle recognizes his hyper-reactive nervous system, but honestly, he just finds the whole gimmick incredibly annoying. They trade rapid attacks until Doyle finally lands a perfectly clean punch. It smashes right into Sang-a's face, though he minimizes the damage by pulling back at the very last second. He immediately jumps away to create some distance. Sang-a is completely rattled. How did Doyle do that? He can track every tiny muscle twitch Doyle makes, but somehow he still cannot read the actual strikes. He was absolutely positive he saw movement from Doyle's lower body. So why was a fist suddenly smashing his face instead of a kick? Doyle just answers coldly. Even if he explained the trick, Sang-a still would not be able to pull it off. That arrogant taunt makes Sang-a absolutely furious. He yells at Doyle not to get cocky, claiming he has not even used his full power before attacking again. Doyle instantly notices the speed boost. He can clearly tell Sang-a is finally pushing his absolute top limit. Sang-a sweeps in with a sudden brutal kick, but when he turns, he realizes he only smashed the wall. Total disbelief. He was so sure that one would land. Doyle fires back with a massive kick, but Sang-a slips right past it as this brutal melee just keeps escalating. Sang-a unleashes a rapid string of wild punches, but Doyle easily blocks every single one. Then Doyle drops a heavy hook that sends Sang-a flying. Still glaring with pure rage, Ju Sang-a gets ready for round 2. Meanwhile, back at the drug lab, Im Sang-hayo explains exactly why he stayed. He has never actually met Kyujin face-to-face, but seeing a freak talent like Sang-a was totally enough to keep him stuck in that filthy basement. To him, his own brilliant mind and the near-superhuman talent of Sang-a were literal gifts from God. He mentions how a single dose of their time-slowing drug could completely wipe out all those terribly dull, empty hours. He remembers walking alongside Sang-a and watching the guy snatch a live sparrow straight out of the air. Sang-a constantly complained that everything around him moved way too slow. Sang-hayo felt like he lived alone in a slow-motion world. But right now, that exact same slow world has become Sang-a's personal hell. Even with hyperreactive freak nerves, he is completely helpless against Doyle, who just moves way faster. Doyle loudly mocks him for being slow. The savage insults only make Sang-a angrier, especially knowing he still cannot even match Doyle's raw speed. Since childhood, Sang-a has watched the entire world basically crawl around him. And then Doyle smashes another brutal punch right into his face, sending him violently crashing to the ground. Doyle just keeps mentally tearing him apart, pointing out that Sang-a has probably never tasted dirt before. His body always fixed things first, thanks to that hyper-reactive system. Doyle just calls it a pathetic curse. You never truly fear the world until you hit the bottom. He sneers down, asking if Sang-a is mad yet. He absolutely blasts him for acting butthurt over his ruined pride. After all, they are just trash-making drugs and ruining lives. Nothing but pathetic little frogs in a well. Doyle promises to show him the real world. Joe Sanga completely loses his mind. He charges straight ahead, but Doyle vanishes using his snipe technique. A split second later, he reappears with Scattershot, unloading an absolute storm of strikes right onto Joe Sanga. Joe Sanga is stunned. Even with his boosted reflexes, he cannot track Doyle at all. The terrifying realization hits him his opponent is barely human. Pure dread washes over him. He never knew two monsters like this existed. Joe Sanga drops to the ground in total defeat. Doyle walks right over, tells him to stop playing dead and gets straight to business. Hand over Kim Yojin. Meanwhile, Donggu gets blindsided by a totally different conversation. Choi Ho isn't joking around. He actually offers Donggu a seat among the 12 nations. Donggu cannot even hide his shock. Choi Ho explains how his group manages contracts with the 12 nations nationwide. They basically act as peacekeepers, stopping gang clashes so everyone can live quietly. But contracted groups Ilguang and Seukdong just collapsed at the exact same time. And Choi Ho claims he knows Donggu pulled the strings here. Donggu screams internally, Kim Doyle is the guy who actually wiped them out. Very few people could crush both Biji Chil of Ilguang and Wang Guoko of Seokdong. That raw, terrifying power is exactly why Choi Ho wants Donggu as a friend. He makes it official. 2 seats in the 12 nations are sitting empty, and Mr. Donggu is their absolute top pick. Politely asking him to think it over, he then casually drops a massive threat. Refuse the offer, and they pin the entire gang war directly on him. Donggu says yes instantly. He knows this guy will make his life a nightmare otherwise. Plus, he still has to deliver that weird doll to Park Kangwook. Taking the deal is the quickest way to move on. He rushes out, grumbling about how much time he already wasted. Choi Ho watches him leave and asks his hidden companion for an honest read. A figure steps right out of the dark. It is Wan Hidon. Wan Hidon honestly cannot believe that nerdy-looking student actually took down Wang Guoko. Choi Ho just smiles and totally agrees. Back in the alley, Joe Sanga is practically broken. He has absolutely no idea how someone could deliver such a brutal kick to the gut against a completely defenseless opponent. This Doyle guy is insane. Looming over him, Doyle issues a brutal warning. If he stays quiet again, he will make sure Joe Sanga can never use his hands to eat. Then he drops the temperature. Where is Kim Yojin? Still bleeding on the concrete, Joe Sanga just starts laughing. He asks why Doyle is so crazy desperate to find this guy. Tracking down Kim Yojin is a guaranteed death sentence. Sure, Doyle has some absolutely incredible combat skills. Joe Sanga knows he would lose a rematch, but against Kim Yojin, those flashy moves are literal child's play. He genuinely wonders why anyone would unleash that absolute monster on the world. Cut to a fancy room elsewhere, an injured woman wakes up with Yojin right over her. She screams in pure terror, begging for her life. Yojin just calmly tilts his head, asking why he would do that and what terrified her so badly. He keeps pushing the question. What did he supposedly do to her? Did he actually try to cause her harm? Back outside, Joe Sanga reveals that Kim Yojin literally murdered his own parents. The guy is a devil without a shred of remorse. Inside the room, Yojin listens closely. The bleeding woman insists he attacked her just seconds ago, yet Yojin acts entirely clueless, lacking any memory of the assault. Joe Sanga explains the horrific truth. Yojin never feels guilty because he straight up forgets his own crimes. It is severe selective amnesia. He commits absolute atrocities, then deletes it from his brain like nothing happened. Meanwhile, Yojin comforts the injured woman, apologizing warmly while she sits there baffled. Even now, Joe Sanga cannot tell if Yojin really forgets or just fakes it perfectly. To Joe Sanga, Kim Yojin is pure, unfiltered evil, something that should never exist. Another dark memory resurfaces. Following another bloodbath, Yojin innocently asked if he caused the mess again. That day, Joe Sanga warned him he would ruin his own life someday. Joe Sanga promised to create a miracle drug to cure him within 3 years. Until then, Yojin simply needed to stay locked in that room for everyone's safety. He firmly believed that Psycho could never be allowed outside, but then he reveals Yojin's single demand in return. The demand was his mother, the very woman he murdered himself. Joe Sanga obviously had zero way to fetch a fully cremated corpse, so he scoured the dark web for days. He bought a fake mummy that looked 99% authentic and handed it straight to him. Joe Sanga recalls how Kim Yojin sobbed for hours, tightly hugging the fake corpse, and then he suddenly mentioned his mother was actually cremated. This left Joe Sanga completely mind-blown. Why the tears and why demand the body in the first place? He fully admits Kim Yojin possesses a terrifying, overwhelming kind of strength. His very existence breaks all the rules. Even a maniac like Biji Chil refused to step onto Han's territory. Joe Sanga only stayed near the monster to protect his own shiny position of power. But you know the crazy part. The person who wanted isolation the most was Kim Yojin himself. Back in the bedroom, the bleeding woman lies motionless. A massive white snake is now wrapped entirely around her. Kyujin figures Sang-ah is running late for the meeting he set up, wondering how the guy dares to break his word. Back in the alley, Sang-ah figures Doyle could never understand Kyujin. The guy's actions and goals literally follow zero logic. Before he can drop one last warning, Doyle kicks him hard in the face, cutting him right off. Man, he talks way too much. That kick launches him into the air. He hits the dirt and tries to stand, but the pain completely paralyzes him. Doyle rushes in, demanding an actual answer. He just keeps pounding Sang-ah, yelling if he wants more, demanding Kyujin's location on repeat. Cut back to Kyujin's room. Ultimately, Doyle gets exactly what he wanted. Sang-ah coughs up Kyujin's home address, the Golden Palace, room 41001. Doyle moves at once, marches down the hallway, shoots the lock, and kicks it open. Over at Han High School Park, Kang-wook stands tall among 10 badly beaten students. Breathing hard, he thinks about his job, draw attention, and split the enemy forces. He is honestly relieved things have not gotten totally out of hand with zero backup showing up yet. He even jokes to himself, maybe everyone just ran off totally terrified of him. Elsewhere, the defeated rank 4 Bei Yo Hwan burns with absolute rage. He remembers that mysterious swordsman claiming his death would not even matter to Han. He absolutely hates being treated like a nobody after leading their forces. He swears they are going to deeply regret losing him. One of Beiyou Huan's subordinates reports in. He has gathered all the requested forces. Still, the guy is pretty confused about what is happening and what exactly went down with his leader. He also wonders why they keep ignoring those non-stop calls from the school begging for backup. Beiyou Huan explains they only move under orders from Sang-Ah or leader Q Jin, act against the 12 nations without permission, and they instantly become nothing. Meanwhile, back at Han High School Park, Kang Wook finally wraps up the first phase of his mission. He turns to a beaten student asking if his earlier claim was true. Lied to him and he gets to see his totally unhinged side. Terrified, the student confirms it. He swears he personally saw Li Manghai's squad by the sewer entrance near the recycling bins, rocking full protective suits. He claims other people saw it too. Everyone else just stays completely quiet about it. Hearing that detail, Kang Wook figures this absolutely has to be the hidden drug factory entrance. The student sarcastically claps for his detective work, but Kang Wook brushes it right off. He tells the kid to lead the way, deciding he will go check it out himself. Up on the third-floor hall of Han's main building, Park Jin-gu is absolutely tearing through reinforcements coming from the second floor. He laughs like a total maniac, shouting that this is all thanks to his brutal training in Ju. These punks are not even good enough to be a warm-up. He honestly wonders how much stronger the immortal Park Jin-gu can actually get. After dropping the last guy, he stands proud among the fallen bodies. But then something catches him completely off guard. Meanwhile, Doyle hits Golden Palace room 41,001. Inside are two naked statues of a man and woman holding hands plus a marble piece carved with Mom and 101. Get this. Doyle realizes Q-Jin actually murdered his own parents. Moving through the bizarre room, he mutters to himself, the world is seriously full of absolute lunatics. The walls are covered in creepy paintings, including one titled The Day My Mother Was Born. He even passes a fish tank featuring a fish actively stabbed with a knife. He pulls open a door and Q-Jin's massive white snake lunges straight for his face. Cut back to Han Hai, the reason for Jin-Gu's sudden shock becomes terrifyingly clear. Q-Jin is standing at the far end of the hall. Jin-Gu just stares at him in total disbelief. Back to Doyle. He does not even flinch. He blocks the snake cleanly and kills it completely unfazed. Stepping deeper into the apartment, Doyle remembers Sang-Ah's warning about Q-Jin being pure evil. Staring at this horrible scene, he just mutters this sick bastard. Checking the rest of the place, he calls the Black Head branch in Russia. After a quick apology to the operator, he drops one more request. Contact the Korean branch and send both the medical crew and the body retrieval team. He tells them to send the medics straight to Golden Palace room 41,002. Doyle gives crystal clear directions using a note Q-Jin left for Sang-Ah. The body retrieval team needs to wait over at Han High School. Back in that Han High hallway, Q-Jin asks Park Jin-gu if he has seen Jo Sang-Ah. Jin-gu completely freezes up. In a split second, Q-Jin closes the gap with insane speed, warning he will not ask twice. Then he strikes. Both of Jin-Gu's hands instantly shatter. Jin-Gu screams in horrifying pain. Q-Jin just tilts his head, asking again, have you seen my Sang-Ah? Far away at the sewer entrance, Park Kang-wook gags at the awful smell. He honestly wonders if a drug factory could really hide in a nasty dump like this. He remembers the kid saying Dong-woo would help out and to keep his phone on. But as the clock ticks, Kang-wook is rapidly losing his patience. Texting Dong-woo, he asks where he is and if the guy just got scared and ran off. Kang-wook brags about already beating hundreds of Han guys and finding the factory all by himself. He tells the dude to hurry up. At that exact same time, Dong-woo is sprinting straight toward the Suman High School entrance, gasping for air. Kang-wook is blowing up his phone with texts, calling him a total coward and demanding to know where his backup is. Deep inside the drug factory, one technician tries calming another down, swearing that with leader Eugene around, they physically cannot lose. The payout will be massive, he promises, so they might as well grab a quick snack before working. But right as Kang-wook creeps closer to the factory floor, he freezes, genuinely shocked to see people already moving around inside. Those two technicians are busy arguing over their food options when they suddenly catch a flicker of movement. Im Sang-ho loudly complains about filthy rats hiding down in the sewer tunnel. Park Kang-wook stays dead silent, listening to him, wonder why the infestation keeps growing. Kang-wook is completely running on empty after burning all his stamina earlier, so he wisely decides against picking a pointless fight right now. Then two guys in full protective suits walk past. One turns and asks if they can actually eat chicken tonight, calling the other guy Sang-ho Hyungnam. Instantly, Kang-wook recognizes that specific voice as Im Sang-ho, the exact rank 5 target he wants. So the drug factory really is hiding down here. He counts himself incredibly lucky to be out of sight, fully aware his busted body stands zero chance against Hwane's rank 5. But then Sang-ho stops dead in his tracks. He announces he just found tonight's snack, and walks directly toward Kangwook's dark hiding spot. Kangwook's heart drops. Busted. Sang-ho casually tells his partner that this guy right here is going to be their next meal. Meanwhile, up on the third floor of Hwayne High Park, Jingu is facing down Eugene. Jingu is visibly trembling. He never even saw the attack coming. Eugene casually wonders aloud if Sang-ho even bothered showing up today. Jingu stares at the unsettlingly calm guy, convinced that if Sang-ho were here, things would be completely different. But watch this reaction, pure fear sets in. Who actually is this guy, and does someone this terrifying really exist in Hwayne? To him, even the absolute monster bee Chow never felt quite this deeply dangerous. This white-haired guy abruptly cuts through his panic with a weird question. Who am I, he asks. Can you see me, and do I actually exist? Before Jingu can even process those bizarre words, the mysterious man strikes with terrifying force, violently shattering his collarbone. Jingu screams out in agony. He could not even track the hit or comprehend how Eugene moves so fast, almost acting like something entirely non-human. Standing directly over him, the man coldly states that he will die. Jingu just cannot process what he is hearing. Then Eugene oddly offers a way out: he can live if he simply begs. Jingu violently refuses. Eugene just sighs, telling him life is precious, so he should really try holding on to it. Jingu completely fails to grasp that horribly twisted logic. Since he gives no answer, Eugene attacks again, snapping his leg with absolutely crushing force. Park Jingu hits the floor, hard, screaming in pure agony. Eugene stands tall over the broken kid, repeating his earlier offer: beg, and maybe he will not kill him. He coldly demands to know why Jingu is still being stubborn. Pushing through the blinding pain, Jingu finally realizes this bastard genuinely intends to murder him. Eugene makes the choice crystal clear: beg or die. This is no bluff, it is real. Jingu cannot comprehend how anyone living in Korea could talk about taking a life so casually. Eugene coldly answers that Jingu is the one who chose this brutal path. Racked with despair, Jingu screams for him to wait, panicking that it absolutely cannot end here. He still desperately wants to become the champion they call Hercules. Finally, his pride shatters completely and he begs for his life. Eugene looks quietly down at him, supposedly thinking over whether to spare him. After a tense pause, Eugene finally makes his choice, firmly saying no. Jingu is left completely stunned after doing exactly what he was told. Eugene coldly explains that if he plans to survive just by begging, he might as well die anyway. Jingu shuts his eyes. Game over. He waits for the end. But just before Eugene can crush his skull, a massive sniper skill violently strikes him from the side. Turns out he could not dodge that surprise hit, but he just uses it to increase his own attack.
If you enjoy this kind of content and want to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to leave a comment, give the video a like, and click the notification bell so you'll never miss my latest uploads. Thank you for your support.